We still need to further evaluate the situation in all aspects and will continue to negotiate with other companies, so let's think about it again, said Liu Qiming. For the next 2 days, Lin Xuan, Liu Wen and Zhang Zhesheng stayed in the Liu Group and had in-depth discussions and exchanges with their team. But in the end, although the Liu Group recognized the capabilities of Jinwan Technology Co. Limited, it still considered the company's relatively small size and decided to hand over the project to a large state-owned enterprise. After the last round of discussion, the three of them were reluctant to leave the meeting room. Just then, a clear child's voice broke the silence of the meeting room. "Dad!" Everyone turned to look at the door, only to see a cute little boy rushing into the meeting room. "Junar, why are you here? Dad is working." Liu Qiming smiled and hurriedly went up to hug the little boy tightly. After hearing the shout, Lin Xuan also turned around when he saw the little boy's face clearly. His heart was shocked and he was stunned. Isn't that the little boy he rescued by the lake in Jingshui City? The little boy was in a coma at the time, so he did not recognize Lin Xuan. But at this moment, he was staring straight at Lin Xuan, with an indescribable sense of intimacy in his eyes. "Junar, I've told you so many times not to run around, your dad still has to work." A kind voice was heard again from outside the meeting room. I saw an old lady dressed in rich clothes coming to the door of the meeting room. When she saw Lin Xuan preparing to leave the meeting room, she was shocked. "It's you?" the old lady asked excitedly. "Mom, do you know him?" Liu Qiming asked. "Of course I know him. He is Junar's savior." The old lady stepped forward and held Lin Xuan's hand tightly, saying excitedly. Everyone looked at Lin Xuan with surprised expressions. "Last time, Junar drowned by the lake in Jingshui City, my hometown, it was you who saved him. I haven't had the chance to thank you yet," the old lady said with a smile. Chapter 151 Lin Xuan wants candy. "Savior? Mom, are you sure it's him?" Liu Qiming asked in shock. They were indeed searching for the unsung hero who saved their son. They posted a missing person notice on the internet and invested a lot of resources on television and advertising in the hope of finding Lin Xuan. Lin Xuan had actually seen it while surfing the internet, but he chose to remain silent. "Yes. How could I be wrong? Young man, are you from Jingshui too?" the old lady asked with concern. "I'm not," Lin Xuan replied. "Mom, did you recognize the wrong person?" Liu Qiming said again. "No, I will never make a mistake. It's him," the old lady said firmly. "Although I am not from Jingshui, my wife is that day. She and I were taking a walk by Jingshui Lake," Lin Xuan explained. "It's really you. Thank you so much. You saved my son's life." Liu Qiming walked to Lin Xuan excitedly and held Lin Xuan's other hand tightly. "Don't say that. I just happened to pass by there and saw someone drowning. I didn't think too much and went to rescue him," Lin Xuan said modestly. At this moment, one of the two people held his left hand, and the other held his right hand, which was awkward. "Come on, come to my office and sit down," Liu Qiming said as he pulled Lin Xuan to leave the meeting room, while turning back and saying to their subordinates, "You guys continue to discuss the details of the project with Director Lin's people." The subordinate was also stunned. "Project cooperation details? Didn't he just say he would not cooperate?" At this time, Lin Xuan also turned around and gave Liu Wen and Zhang Zhesheng a look. The two of them understood immediately and knew that this project was a sure win. And Liu Qiming brought Lin Xuan to the general manager's office. As expected of the general manager of Liu Group, the office is spacious and bright, luxurious and exquisitely decorated, demonstrating a high-end and atmospheric sense of quality. There is also a separate room in the office for people to rest, with all the facilities needed. Lin Xuan couldn't help but look around this luxurious office, thinking secretly in his heart, "Well, I'll make one of my own in the future." Just then, Mr. Liu's secretary came in with 2 cups of coffee with an enticing aroma. "Mr. Ellen, I only have this one son. If you hadn't saved his life that day, I really don't know what I would have done," Liu Qiming said with great emotion. "No, I just did what I should do," Lin Xuan replied modestly. "Regarding this project, I have changed my mind and decided to hand it over to your company," Liu Qiming said seriously. At the same time, "On behalf of the Liu family, I will give you a gift. Is there anything you particularly want?" he continued to ask. "Thank you very much, Mr. Liu, for your trust and support for our company," Lin Xuan said excitedly. "You are able to entrust this important project to our company, which is an invaluable gift in itself. Our company will definitely go all out to ensure the smooth completion of the project. Please rest assured." Liu Qiming looked at the young and steady Lin Xuan in front of him and nodded with satisfaction. Later, Lin Xuan was warmly invited by Liu Qiming to visit his home. At the dinner, Lin Xuan enjoyed the sumptuous food and chatted and laughed with the Liu family. It was not until night fell that Lin Xuan returned to the hotel, slightly drunk. He lay on the soft big bed with a ruddy face and a slightly tired look. Socializing is really not pleasant. Lin Xuan is good at everything except drinking. At this moment, Lin Xuan's cell phone rang. He picked up his phone and clicked on the video call. "Honey, why is your face so red?" Li Mengyao asked in surprise. "I drank a little wine in the evening," Lin Xuan answered in a daze, with an intoxicating smile on his face. "I'll give you some hangover soup, husband. You should go to bed early after drinking it, otherwise you will have a headache when you wake up tomorrow morning." Li Mengyao looked at Lin Xuan with heartache, then used her mobile phone to order a cup of sobering soup for him and asked it to be delivered to his hotel. Lin Xuan looked at Li Mengyao on the screen, his heart filled with warmth. "Wife, do you miss me?" "I think about it every day," Li Mengyao responded gently. "Just every day? Why not every second?" Under the influence of alcohol, Lin Xuan began to act coquettously towards Li Mengyao. Li Mengyao was slightly stunned when she heard Lin Xuan's words. She had never seen her husband so lovely before, and she couldn't help but laugh happily. "I think about you every second." Lin Xuan muttered, "That's about right. Husband." Li Mengyao narrowed her beautiful eyes. Lin Xuan looked at her with some confusion. "Have any beautiful women approached you in the capital?" Li Mengyao took the opportunity to ask. "Of course, your husband is so handsome." Lin Xuan changed her posture, lying lazily on the bed, with the corners of her mouth slightly raised. Hearing this, Li Mengyao's eyes instantly became colder, and she stared at Lin Xuan closely. "There were several, but I can't remember clearly now," Lin Xuan said with drunken eyes. "And then?" Li Mengyao's voice became low and serious. "And then I showed them the strawberries you planted for me, and the ring on your hand, and told them that we were already married." Some of them left knowing what to do, but there were still some who refused to give up. "So I just ignored them and left." Lin Xuan closed his eyes, and his voice was a little slow as he was drunk. "My husband performed well." After hearing this, Li Mengyao showed a satisfied smile on her face. "Is there a reward?" Lin Xuan suddenly opened his eyes, revealing a hint of expectation and desire in his eyes. "What reward do you want?" Li Mengyao couldn't help but feel happy when she saw Lin Xuan acting coquettously towards him. "I want to eat candy." Lin Xuan smiled and looked at Li Mengyao with dazed eyes. "I'll reward you when you come back." A blush appeared on Li Mengyao's delicate face. "My husband just wanted to kiss me, but he insisted on saying he wanted to eat candy. Well, my husband has worked so hard, I should reward him when he comes back." At this moment, the sobering soup arrived. After Lin Xuan drank it, he fell asleep on the bed. Chapter 150 To Wife, I'm Back. The next day, Lin Xuan was awakened by a knock on the door early in the morning. He climbed out of bed sleepily and opened the door. "Brother Xuan, you are so awesome, you have directly won this 100 million yuan project. Our company is going to make a fortune," Zhang Zisheng said excitedly. "Stop making so much noise and don't even let your father sleep," Lin Xuan said impatiently. Then he went back to the room and fell on the bed. "Dad, no, Brother Xuan, where did you go last night? Why do you look so listless? Could it be?" Zhang Zisheng smiled wickedly. Lin Xuan picked up the pillow next to him and threw it at him. "I went to Mr. Liu's house for dinner yesterday and drank some wine," Lin Xuan said. Zhang Zisheng quickly caught the pillow, smiled awkwardly and said, "That's no wonder." As Lin Xuan's roommate for 4 years in college, he naturally knew that Lin Xuan was not good at drinking. "Is there any progress at the Liu Group now?" Lin Xuan asked. "At the moment, everything is going smoothly. Our company will discuss the details of the cooperation with them in the next few days," Zhang Zisheng answered seriously. "Alas, it will take a few more days before I can see my wife again. By the way, Brother Xuan, they also arranged a 5-star hotel for us. I heard that it has a swimming pool, sauna, massage and other services," Zhang Zisheng continued. "Is there such a good thing? Let's go." Lin Xuan became excited after hearing this and immediately got up and prepared to go to the hotel. He couldn't wait to experience the sauna and massage services to relieve his fatigue. And the three of them packed their luggage and moved to the 5-star hotel under the Liu Group. Lin Xuan walked into the room, and the scene in front of him made him sigh. It turns out that the rooms in 5-star hotels are different. The rooms are spacious and cozy, with high-quality design and decoration in every detail. From gorgeous chandeliers to delicate wall coverings, from comfortable sofas to luxurious bathtubs, everything gives people the ultimate enjoyment. Wait, a bathtub? Lin Xuan then remembered that he hadn't taken a shower yesterday after getting drunk. So he quickly filled the bathtub with hot water, took off his clothes, and gently lay down in the warm water. The warm water wrapped around his body, bringing an incomparable feeling of comfort. So comfortable. He closed his eyes and quietly enjoyed the tranquility of the moment. It was as if all the stress and fatigue were gradually leaving him. Suddenly, Lin Xuan's cell phone rang again. He quickly picked up his phone, tapped the screen lightly, and his wife's beautiful face appeared in front of him again. "Honey, why are you video chatting while taking a shower?" Li Mengyao shyly covered her face with her hands, but couldn't help but secretly observe Lin Xuan through the gaps between her fingers. "Just answer it if you miss your wife." Lin Xuan laughed. "If you say that again, I'll hang up the video. Li Mengyao pretended to be angry and shouted. No, 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 I won't say any more. Seeing this, Lin Xuan quickly begged for mercy. After Li Mengyao saw Lin Xuan become a little more serious, she asked with concern. Husband, how do you feel now? Are you feeling better? Resurrected with full health. Lin Xuan answered confidently. Li Mengyao smiled with satisfaction and gently said, that's good, but you still need to take more rest and eat on time. Okay? Don't worry, my dear wife. Lin Xuan nodded in response. Then Lin Xuan remembered something and said, oh, I might need to delay my return for a few days. Why? A trace of disappointment appeared on Li Mengyao's face, thinking that she would have to wait a few more days before she could hug her husband to sleep. A project has been approved, and we will discuss the details of the cooperation with them in the next few days, Lin Xuan explained. Okay then. I knew my husband could do it. Li Mengyao showed a charming smile. Her eyes were full of trust and support, which made Lin Xuan feel extremely warm. However, Lin Xuan was still keenly aware of the hint of disappointment that flashed across his wife's eyes. Wife, I will finish it as soon as possible and give you a small gift then. Lin Xuan said with a smile. I don't want any gifts, I just hope you come back safely. Li Mengyao tucked her hair behind her ears and smiled peacefully. At this moment, Huang Qifang's voice came from the video. Yao Yao, are you awake? Get up and have breakfast. Li Mengyao responded, I'm coming. And he turned to look at Lin Xuan and said with a smile. Hubby, the baby is hungry, I'm going to have breakfast. Well, I'm ready to go to work too, Lin Xuan said with a smile. Li Mengyao nodded slightly. Her husband looked even more handsome when he was serious. In the next few days, Lin Xuan and the other to discuss the details of the cooperation with the Liu Group. Li Mengyao was accompanied by her mother Huang Qifang and best friend Liu Yuxin. When Liu Yuxin heard that Lin Xuan asked her to work at Jinwan Technology Company, she happily quit her job immediately and came to Li Mengyao every day to chat and complain about gossip about her former company. What so-and-so is having an affair with so-and-so? Who is more steaming? This leader doesn't get along with that leader. Another leader had a fight with that leader. As Li Mengyao listened, the corners of her mouth slightly raised, revealing a faint smile. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye it is 9 o'clock in the morning of the next day. The sunlight poured into the room through the gaps in the curtains. Li Mengyao opened her beautiful eyes drowsily, and her little hand involuntarily reached out to her side, wanting to touch her husband's warm body. However, the only response she got was the soft maternity pillow, which made her feel a little lost. Last night, Li Mengyao had an extremely sweet dream. In the dream, her husband came home early, which made her very happy. Someone once said that things in dreams will become reality in the future. Li Mengyao doesn't know whether this statement is true or not, but she sincerely hopes that this beautiful dream will come true. Slowly sitting up, Li Mengyao picked up her mobile phone and couldn't wait to send a message to Lin Xuan. Honey, what are you doing now? Then, Li Mengyao lay in a daze on the bed for a few minutes. I looked at my phone again, and apart from the junk recommended messages, there was no movement on the phone. My husband should still be busy. Then she got up from the bed and went to the sink to wash up. When she finished washing up and picked up her phone to check again, she finally received a reply from Lin Xuan. Lin Xuan, wife. I was busy just now. The little gift I bought for you has been delivered to your door. Remember to pick it up. My husband did buy me a small gift, but no matter how good the gift is, it is not as good as my husband. Li Mengyao replied happily, okay. Thank you, husband, kiss. Then she walked to the door and opened it gently. Just then, Lin Xuan suddenly appeared at the door with a bouquet of pink carnations in his arms. With a smile on his face, he said gently, Honey, I'm back. Chapter 153. Do you like this kind of liar? Fraud. Li Mengyao's face was filled with ripples of emotion, her eyes were slightly moist, and crystal tears sparkled in the corners of her eyes. She walked forward slowly and hugged Lin Xuan gently. Do you like such a liar? Lin Xuan stroked Li Mengyao's hair, his fingers gently passing through her hair, feeling the silky touch. I like it, Li Mengyao murmured softly, her voice full of tenderness and dependence. Why did you come back suddenly? Li Mengyao then raised her pretty head and asked. Lin Xuan gently stroked Li Mengyao's delicate face and said softly, the finishing work was handed over to them. So I came back early. Honey, let me see if the strawberry mark is still there, Li Mengyao said softly, with a hint of playfulness in her tone. He should be gone after such a long time. Lin Xuan raised his face obediently, exposing his neck so that Li Mengyao could observe it carefully. However, at this moment, Li Mengyao suddenly stood on tiptoe and put her lips on Lin Xuan's neck. After a while, Li Mengyao finally let go of her lips. She looked at the new strawberry mark on Lin Xuan's neck with satisfaction, and a smug smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Lin Xuan touched his neck and smiled happily. Who told you to lie to me, you bad guy? Li Mengyao pouted mischievously. Lin Xuan is back. At this moment, Huang Qifang walked out of the kitchen with a plate of steaming breakfast. Even though her mother had seen this scene, Li Mengyao still hugged Lin Xuan tightly and refused to let go. Mom, I'm back, Lin Xuan said with a smile. I'm glad you're back. Is work going well? Huang Shifang asked gently. It went quite smoothly, Lin Xuan replied. That's good, let's prepare for breakfast. After saying that, Huang Shifang turned around and went back to the kitchen to continue working. Afterwards, the family sat around the dining table and happily enjoyed the delicious breakfast. After breakfast, Lin Xuan opened the luggage he brought back from the capital. Mom, I bought you a cashmere coat. The weather has been getting colder recently, and you can wear this to keep warm. As Lin Xuan spoke, he handed a beautifully wrapped gift to Huang Shifang. Huang Shifang opened the gift box, took out the cashmere coat inside, took a closer look, and found that it was a famous brand and very expensive. Mom, please try it on and see if it fits, Li Mengyao urged. Huang Shifang then tried it on and found it fit perfectly. The clothes were very soft and had a great texture. At this time, Lin Xuan handed another package box to Li Mengyao. Wife, this is the maternity down jacket I bought for you. Try it on. Li Mengyao took the gift box with great joy. After opening it, she found that the down jacket inside was exactly her favorite style. She couldn't help but smile. And the three of them sat on the sofa in the living room, watching TV and chatting happily. At noon, after lunch, Huang Shifang prepared to return to Jingshui City. Li Mengyao asked reluctantly, Mom, won't you stay a few more days? Huang Shifang replied, the neighbor across the street is from Jingshui. He is going back to Jingshui this afternoon. I can take a ride with him. Then she added, now that Lin Xuan is back and you two are together, I feel relieved. Okay then, Li Mengyao nodded. Not long after, Huang Shifang went back. Time passed slowly, and in the blink of an eye it was afternoon. Li Mengyao sat lazily on the soft sofa, holding a cat toy in her hand and playing with Yu Yu. The little cat Yu Yu is very lively and cute. He stares at the cat toy and chases it non-stop. After getting a little tired from playing, Yu Yu lay on the ground, opened his mouth, and panted. When he gets tired of playing, he just lies on the ground and breathes hard. Li Mengyao couldn't help but laugh when she saw Yu Yu's expression. Then she came to the kitchen door. Honey, what are you doing? Li Mengyao saw Lin Xuan go into the kitchen early. Wife, I'll make you a Beijing delicacy. You will definitely like it, Lin Xuan said. Since the production process of Beijing roast duck is extremely complicated and requires sufficient preparation in advance, Lin Xuan walked into the kitchen early and began to cook it carefully. Finally, dinner time arrived. Lin Xuan carefully brought the Beijing roast duck to the table. The roast duck is plump and round in appearance, and the duck skin is golden in color, like a layer of crispy golden armor, exuding an enticing aroma that makes people salivate. Wow! It smells so good. Li Mengyao looked at the roast duck in front of her, her eyes shining and she almost drooled. Lin Xuan said gently, here are pancakes, scallion and cucumber strips, and my special sauce. You can roll them up and dip them in the sauce. Then, he skillfully rolled up a roast duck roll, and gently handed it to Li Mengyao's lips. It's delicious. Li Mengyao took a light bite and smiled happily. And the two of them enjoyed the meal happily. After dinner, Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao went to the community downstairs for a walk as usual. They held hands and strolled along the path in the community, talking about the interesting things that happened during Lin Xuan's business trip. After coming back from a walk, Li Mengyao leaned on Lin Xuan's shoulder and watched a movie in the living room. The movie scenes flickered on the TV screen, and the music and plot were intertwined to create a romantic atmosphere. Wife, didn't you say in the previous video that you would reward me with candy? Lin Xuan asked with a smile. Is that true? Of course, Li Mengyao knew her husband's little thoughts, but she pretended not to know. My wife wants to cheat. Lin Xuan smiled slightly. It was the previous Li Mengyao who promised you. What does it have to do with the current Li Mengyao? Li Mengyao said with a giggle. She raised her beautiful eyebrows and looked up proudly. And I'm going to teach this untrustworthy Li Mengyao a lesson. After that, Lin Xuan gently lifted Li Mengyao's chin and kissed her beautiful lips tenderly. Chapter 150. For it's time to name the babies. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye it is December. As night falls, Jinghai City has entered the threshold of winter, and the whole city is filled with a cool atmosphere. The biting cold wind ruthlessly passed through the tall buildings, as if it was going to freeze everything. The bare branches were shivering in the cold wind, and the fallen leaves on the ground were blown all over the sky, swirling, and finally falling in the distance. Neon lights flicker lonely in the night sky, like lonely stars. However, in room 1601, Building A, Jinwan Mansion, Jinghai City, it is a warm and cozy scene. The lights were bright, and Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao sat on the soft sofa, leaning against each other, watching a wonderful movie together. Wife, come here. Let your husband warm your hands. Lin Xuan gently grasped Li Mengyao's small hand, placed it lightly in his palm, and then held it tightly. His big hand wrapped around her small hand. It's not cold. There is heating in the room. Li Mengyao raised the corners of her mouth slightly, revealing a sweet smile. Since she was a child, she has always had a cold constitution and is afraid of cold but not heat. But now the heating is on in the house and both of them are still wearing short sleeves. Warming hands was just an excuse for Lin Xuan to touch his own little hands. Honey, when will the babies come out? Li Mengyao gently stroked her bulging belly, her eyes full of anticipation and desire. Soon, baby no more than 2 months at most. Lin Xuan gently took Li Mengyao's little hand and kissed the back of her hand lightly, his eyes full of love. It's time to name the babies. Li Mengyao nodded slightly, a happy smile on her face, and spoke softly. How about this, I pick a boy's name and you pick a girl's name, how about that? Lin Xuan suggested. How can you be sure it's a man and a woman? Li Mengyao couldn't help but laugh. During this period of time, she always heard her husband say that she was pregnant with twins. A boy and a girl, but how could she be so lucky? I named my son Lin Shuis, who represents wisdom and Yu represents unrestrainedness. After thinking seriously, Lin Xuan said the name he had in mind. And I will name my daughter Lin Shiqiu, and she represents elegance and Qin represents literature and art. Li Mengyao was not to be outdone. She carefully came up with a poetic name. My wife is so great, I'll give you a kiss as a reward. Lin Xuan said, and then he quickly moved closer to Li Mengyao and kissed her lips affectionately. Why are you kissing again? Didn't we just kiss before the movie? Li Mengyao said cockathiously, wanting to reach out to cover Lin Xuan's lips. However, her hand was held tightly by Lin Xuan and she could not move. Then there was a burst of cheerful noises from the house. During this period, Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao basically stayed at home, enjoying their own world. They would also occasionally go downstairs for a walk and breathe some fresh air. However, as Li Mengyao's belly grew bigger and bigger, she had difficulty moving, so she could only walk around the community each time. On a cold winter morning, Li Mengyao slowly opened her eyes and woke up from the warm bed. She blinked and saw light white snow falling outside the window. The tiny snowflakes fell slowly like elves, covering the whole world with a layer of dreamy white veil. Husband! Li Mengyao shouted excitedly. What's wrong, wife? After hearing the voice, Lin Xuan hurried over from the kitchen. Honey, it's snowing. Li Mengyao pointed to the beautiful snow scene outside the window with a bright smile on her face. Yeah, it's snowing. Lin Xuan walked to the bed and sat down, gently hugged Li Mengyao, and admired the beautiful scenery outside the window with her. Let's go downstairs in the community to watch the snow later, Li Mengyao said with anticipation. Lin Xuan looked at her gently, his eyes full of pampering. Wife, do you like snow very much? Li Mengyao nodded vigorously, with a happy smile on her face. Yeah, I think the snow is very beautiful. Lin Xuan smiled and touched her head, and said softly, then let's go downstairs for a walk after breakfast. Li Mengyao replied happily, okay. Today Lin Xuan made red date porridge and egg custard and paired them with some fresh fruits. The two happily enjoyed the delicious breakfast, then went back to the bedroom to change their clothes and couldn't wait to go downstairs. Indoors, the heater kept the temperature at a comfortable 20 degrees Celsius, but when they walked out of the building, the cold air hit them in the face. It was already minus 10 degrees Celsius outside. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao put on thick down jackets, hats and gloves, and after taking measures to keep warm, they came downstairs to the community. They held hands and strolled along the streets of the community. Snowflakes fluttered down, as if a group of elves dancing in the air. The garden in the community was covered with snow, turning it into a world of silver, like a fairyland in a fairy tale. The roads in the community are also covered with a layer of white velvet carpet, which makes a crunching sound when you step on it, as if playing a winter symphony. Every building and every tree is dressed in white, like a piece of exquisite work of art. Li Mengyao took an Nikon camera and took pictures of the snow scene around her. Then, Li Mengyao turned around and took a few photos of Lin Xuan smiling in the snow. Lin Xuan looked very warm in the pictures. The time has come to December 21st, the winter solstice. In this cold season, the best thing to do is to enjoy a delicious hot pot at home. That night, Lin Xuan was busy preparing various ingredients: the fragrant tomato hot pot base, tender and juicy beef and mutton, plump prawns, fresh fish fillets, and a variety of vegetables and bean curd. Wife, come and eat hot pot, Lin Xuan shouted enthusiastically. Here it comes, it smells so good. Li Mengyao walked quickly to the restaurant with joy. Lin Xuan carefully placed all the carefully prepared ingredients on the dining table, and then gently lifted the lid of the hot pot. In an instant, a rich tomato aroma hits your nose, making you salivate. Then he skillfully picked up a piece of tender beef and put it into the boiling pot. After it was fully cooked, he gently blew away the heat and carefully fed it into Li Mengyao's cherry mouth. Li Mengyao enjoyed the food happily. Then she picked up a big red shrimp, gently peeled off the shrimp skin, and fed it into Lin Xuan's mouth. Lin Xuan savored the delicious shrimp meat while looking at Li Mengyao in front of him tenderly. Wife, I want another one, Feed me mouth to mouth. Open your mouth. Chapter 155. Let my husband see me the first time he comes home. Time flies, and in a blink of an eye it is December 31st, the last day of 2024. In the morning, Lin Xuan woke up from bed as usual. He turned his head and found that his wife was still sleeping soundly. Generally speaking, when pregnant women are approaching 9 months of pregnancy, they tend to have poor sleep due to changes in their bodies and the activities of the fetus. However, since Li Mengya used the Future Tech pregnancy pillow rewarded by the system, her sleep quality has improved significantly. Lin Xuan looked at Li Mengya quietly. Her face was as delicate and beautiful as a flower. He kissed her gently on the cheek. Ben carefully stood up and prepared to go to the kitchen to make breakfast for them. Lin Xuan came to the kitchen and made sesame muffins while looking out the window. There is still light snow in Jinghai City today. The whole city is covered with white snow, like a fairy tale world. At this moment, Lin Xuan's cell phone suddenly rang. He took it and looked at it. A little surprised, it was a call from Liu Qiming. Hello, Mr. Liu, Lin Xuan greeted politely. Director Lin, I hope I didn't disturb you so early in the morning? Liu Qiming said with a smile. No, is there anything I can help you with? Mr. Liu, Lin Xuan asked. Oh, it's like this. I sent you a gift, and it has been shipped to Jinghai City. Mr. Liu, you are too polite. There is really no need to do this. Lin Xuan declined. Lin Xuan, just accept it. The progress of our project has far exceeded expectations during this period. You are so young and yet you can run the company so well. I admire you very much and I really want to be friends with you, Liu Qiming said. The project was won by your company based on its strength. This gift is a special thank you for saving my son, Liu Qiming continued to explain. Lin Xuan wanted to refuse again, but Liu Qiming said before him. Don't rush to refuse. This gift is not expensive and it suits you very well now. Lin Xuan hesitated for a moment, but finally decided to accept the gift. Thank you, Mr. Liu. After the two ended the call, Lin Xuan received an address sent by Liu Qiming. Toyota Force store in Jinghai City? Why is it a car again? Lin Xuan felt a little confused. I don't lack a car. There are already 3 cars parked in the parking lot downstairs. But since they have delivered it, I might as well go and take a look. I can also buy some vegetables while I am at it. So after Lin Xuan finished his breakfast and prepared sesame muffins, milk and eggs for Li Mengyao, he returned to the bedroom, said something to Li Mengyao, and left. He drove a Bentley Continental to the Toyota Force store in Jinghai City. After parking the car, Lin Xuan walked leisurely towards the door of the Force store. As soon as I walked in, a young and beautiful female salesperson greeted me enthusiastically. Hello. Welcome, are you here to buy a car? The female salesperson noticed at a glance that Lin Xuan got out of a luxury car, and secretly guessed that he must be a wealthy man. However, Lin Xuan calmly replied, No. Then you are. The saleswoman thought, You're not here to buy a car, but are you driving a luxury car here to show off? Excuse me, did Mr. Liu from the Liu Group leave a gift here? Lin Xuan asked softly with a faint smile on his lips. Yes, you are MRLin? When she was in the morning meeting this morning, a leader repeatedly emphasized that the Liu Group in Beijing had left a gift for Lin Xuan and asked them to treat her as a VIP and not to neglect her at all. She didn't expect to meet the real owner so soon. Yes, that's me. Lin Xuan nodded. And please follow me. Afterwards, the young female salesperson verified Lin Xuan's identity and immediately took him to a car covered by a black cloth. When Lin Xuan saw the car covered with black cloth, he was also slightly stunned. From the appearance, this car seems to be a van, but it is longer than an ordinary van. Lin Xuan walked forward curiously, reached out and gently lifted the black cloth. And his eyes suddenly lit up. I saw a brand new Toyota Alpha Nanny car appear in front of me. The black body of the car had smooth and elegant lines, like dynamic water ripples, reflecting a charming luster under the light. Lin Xuan was stunned. This turned out to be an Annie car. Moreover, it was the kind that could seat 7 people, and the space was very spacious. In this way, when the babies are born, he can take them out to play with his family. This is the latest top-of-the-line Toyota Alpha, a gift from Mr. Liu. The young female salesperson said with a smile. This nanny car costs as much as 1 million, but it is not expensive for Liu Qiming, and it is not expensive for Lin Xuan either. Lin Xuan was surprised by this unexpected gift, and he immediately called Liu Qiming to express his gratitude. Afterwards, he drove his Bentley Continental to the vegetable market to buy ingredients, while the Toyota Alpha RD was driven to the underground parking lot of Jinwan Mansion by the staff of the Force store. When Lin Xuan returned home with a bag full of ingredients, Li Mengyao had already gotten up and was sitting in the restaurant eating delicious sesame muffins. Hearing the sound of the door unlocking, she hurriedly got up and walked quickly to the door to greet Lin Xuan. Honey, welcome home. Li Mengyao was still chewing a muffin, with a happy smile on her face. Why are you running over here while eating breakfast? Lin Xuan said with a smile. Because I want my husband to see me the first thing he does when he comes home. Li Mengyao answered playfully with a sweet smile on her lips. Lin Xuan looked at his lovely wife in front of him, his heart filled with warmth and happiness. On a winter afternoon, the sun shone through the clouds. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao woke up from their sleep and decided to go downstairs for a walk. They held hands and strolled in the snow downstairs of the community, leaving behind a trail of happy footprints. Honey, I want to go out for dinner, Li Mengyao said cockathiously. Isn't the food my husband cooks delicious? Lin Xuan said. No, I've been eating at home recently. I just wanted to go out for some fresh air and eat something different. Li Mengyao pointed in the direction of the food street in the distance, her eyes flashing with anticipation. Lin Xuan understood what she was thinking. She was just greedy and wanted to eat street food. Okay then, your husband will take you there later. Lin Xuan showed his signature smile. Okay, Li Mengyao was very happy. And they went to the underground parking lot together and walked towards a brand new Toyota Alpha. Honey, is this the car that Mr. Liu gave me? Li Mengyao looked at the luxurious car in front of her curiously. Yes. Let's drive this car today, Lin Xuan said, carefully helping Li Mengyao into the car. After Li Mengyao sat firmly, Lin Xuan returned to the driver's seat, gently started the engine, and the car slowly drove out of the parking lot and headed towards the food street. The back is so spacious. Li Mengyao smiled, looking quietly out the window. However, when Li Mengyao saw the car driving to the nearby food street, she thought Lin Xuan would stop, but he drove away directly, made a circle and arrived at Jinwan Plaza. Lin Xuan took Li Mengyao directly to Xuanmeng Restaurant. Chapter 156 New Year's Day. Honey, didn't we say that we should go to the food court? Li Mengyao pouted and looked at Lin Xuan with a face full of grievance. I promised you to go out for dinner. But I didn't say it was going to the food court. Lin Xuan couldn't help laughing and gently pinched her nose. Lin Xuan did not take Li Mengyao to the food street, but took her directly to his own restaurant, so that the hygiene would definitely be guaranteed. Li Mengyao pouted and the expression on her face instantly fell. Even her little hands began to struggle. And she didn't want to be held by Lin Xuan anymore. Wife, please be obedient, the baby is about to come out. This is a critical period. I am really worried about the food street outside, Lin Xuan explained patiently, his tone full of tenderness and love. Okay, Li Mengyao said softly and stopped throwing tantrums. Let's go in quickly, Lin Xuan said with a smile. Tomorrow is New Year's Day, and now both office workers and students have already had their day off. Jinwan Square was crowded and bustling with people coming and going everywhere. Xuanmeng Restaurant is now the most popular restaurant in Jinwan Plaza. And naturally there is a long queue at the door. At this time, there was a long line in front of the entrance of Xuanmeng Restaurant. Lin Xuan held Li Mengyao's hand tightly and walked into Xuanmeng Restaurant together. At this time, Xiao Li at the front desk recognized Lin Xuan at a glance. She smiled warmly and said, "Welcome, boss." Lin Xuan also responded with a smile. "Xiao Li, are there any private rooms available?" Xiao Li nodded quickly and replied, "Yes, Manager Xu specifically told us to reserve a VIP room for the boss and his wife." After saying that, she turned to another waiter and shouted, "Xiaoyanji, quickly take the boss and the boss's wife to the VIP room." Afterwards, a waiter led Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao to the VIP room. "Wife, what do you want to eat?" Lin Xuan handed the menu to Li Mengyao. Li Mengyao looked at the menu carefully, pointed at one of the dishes and said, "This fish head in clay pot looks delicious. Let's have another serving of braised crucian carp with green onions." Lin Xuan smiled and nodded, then he ordered some staple foods and snacks. After a while, various delicious dishes were served, and the aroma was fragrant. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao began to enjoy the meal happily. Just as they were enjoying their meal, they suddenly heard a gentle knock on the door outside the private room. Then Xu Quan's voice came from outside. "Brother Xuan, can I come in?" Lin Xuan put down the chopsticks in his hand and replied with a smile, "Come in." Xu Quan pushed open the door and walked in with a smile. He walked straight to Lin Xuan, sat down, his face filled with joy. "Brother Xuan, why did you suddenly come to inspect the restaurant today?" Xu Quan said with a smile. Lin Xuan glanced around and showed a satisfied look. "Not bad, Quaner. I didn't expect that Xuanmeng Restaurant was really well built by you." Hearing Lin Xuan's praise, Xu Quan's smile became brighter. "Brother Xuan, I was just about to discuss with you, should we open a branch? Now many customers complain every day that there are no seats. The restaurant is really too popular." Lin Xuan thought for a moment and nodded. "Okay, when I have time, we will discuss the matter of opening a branch." During this period of time, he just wanted to accompany Li Mengyao and wait for the babies to be born. At this time, Li Mengyao picked up another piece of fish and put it into her mouth. After tasting it carefully, she praised it highly. "Well, this casserole fish head is really delicious." Xu Quan smiled proudly. "No, sister-in-law, this is a new product developed by my cousin recently. Using wild silver carp heads, premium shark fins, and black truffles, all of them are top-notch ingredients. How can it not be delicious? Then Shuquan began to praise him. Of course, at the end, he said that it would be more delicious if made by brother Xuan. This farce. After dinner, Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao returned home and lay on the sofa to watch the New Year's Eve gala. This New Year's Day, Huang Shifang and Huang Shizhen had to go back to the countryside to accompany their grandmother. Because Lin Sisi was busy in her senior year of high school, Shan Shaolin and Lin Zhengjiuo stayed in Yanhai City. Li Mengyao is already 9 months pregnant and has difficulty moving around, so it is not suitable for her to travel long distances. So Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao stayed in Jinghai City to celebrate New Year's Day. At this moment, Li Mengyao was leaning leisurely on the sofa, watching TV with relish and eating snacks happily. From time to time, she would feed Lin Xuan a piece, and then eat another piece herself. The scene was very warm. However, Lin Xuan kept fiddling with the phone in his hand, as if directing something important. "Honey, why are you always looking at your phone?" Li Mengyao curiously leaned over to find out. "Nothing." Lin Xuan quickly turned off the phone screen and revealed a mysterious smile. "You must be hiding something from me," Li Mengyao pouted, blinking her beautiful big eyes, full of confusion. "You'll know when it's 12 o'clock. Lin Xuan gently pinched her cute face and comforted her with a smile. "Forget it." Li Mengyao turned her head away angrily. As the hour and minute hands slowly turned, the time finally came to 11:50 p.m. and there were only 10 minutes left until the arrival of the new year. "Life, let's go to the balcony to see the night view of the river." Lin Xuan raised the corners of his mouth and revealed a gentle smile. "You don't want to watch the party anymore?" "I still want to listen to the countdown," Li Mengyao said. After all, this was her first time to accompany Lin Xuan to celebrate the new year, and her heart was full of anticipation and excitement. "It's okay. Just turn up the volume on the TV so you can hear the countdown even from the balcony." Lin Xuan comforted her, gently took her hand, and walked towards the spacious balcony together. The two sat side by side on a comfortable lazy chair. Li Mengyao snuggled tightly in Lin Xuan's arms, her eyes looking towards the sparkling river in the distance. The night sky is dotted with twinkling stars. "Honey, what did you do during New Year's Eve in the past?" Li Mengyao raised her head slightly. "What about me? I basically play games with my roommates," Lin Xuan said with a smile. "What about you, my wife?" Lin Xuan asked immediately. "I used to be alone at home waiting for my mother to come home from get off work most of the time. Because during holidays, supermarkets usually need employees to work overtime. From now on, your husband will be with you every year to celebrate the new year." Lin Xuan caressed Li Mengyao's cheek lovingly and kissed her affectionately. "No, there's a baby." Li Mengyao gently stroked her belly with a happy smile on her face. "The baby will be born in January next year." At this moment, a countdown sound came from the TV. "Let us welcome the new year 10,987. Lin Xuan looked at Li Mengyao tenderly and said, "Wife, look at the river." When the New Year's bell rang, a beam of dazzling light suddenly shot up into the sky from the river in front of Jinwan Mansion. With a loud bang, fireworks bloomed in the night sky with brilliant brilliance, red like fire, pink like clouds, purple like dreams, illuminating the entire river surface like a dream. At the same time, it also illuminated the happy faces of Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao. Chapter 157. It's all worth it. January 2025, a morning with light snow. Lin Xuan and his family prepared to go to Jinghai People's Hospital to take Li Mengyao for a pregnancy checkup. Li Mengyao is now more than 9 months pregnant, and the babies may be born at any time. At the same time, Shang Shaolan and Huang Shifang also came to Jinghai City to take care of Li Mengyao with Lin Xuan. The four of them came to the underground parking lot of Jinwan Mansion, and Lin Xuan drove the brand new Toyota Alpha smoothly towards the Jinghai People's Hospital. Along the way, Lin Xuan was cautious, fearing any mishap. Not long after, they arrived at the hospital parking lot safely. After Lin Xuan parked the car, he carefully helped Li Mengyao into the hospital and started the pregnancy checkup. In the hospital, Lin Xuan accompanied Li Mengyao to complete various examinations. After a long wait, it was finally their turn to be seen. A doctor in charge of the examination was an amiable middle-aged female doctor. He carefully reviewed the various examination reports and patiently asked about Li Mengyao's physical condition. Finally, she smiled and told everyone, "The babies are developing well, the fetal position is normal, and all indicators are currently healthy. However, given the high probability of premature delivery of twins, I suggest that you stay in the hospital for observation in the next few days to ensure the safety of the pregnant woman and the fetus." Hearing this good news, Lin Xuan's family felt relieved and their faces were filled with happy smiles. "Thank you, doctor," Lin Xuan said gratefully. "You're welcome. Please go and complete the hospitalization procedures first," the middle-aged female doctor said with a smile. "Mom, you guys sit here for a while and take care of Mengyao. I'll go downstairs to pay the bill, Lin Xuan instructed his mother and mother-in-law. Okay. Go ahead, Shen Shulan nodded in response. And she looked at Li Mengyao tenderly with a gaze full of motherly love, her eyes full of expectation and joy. A little babies are finally coming out, Shang Shulan said excitedly. Yes, in-laws. Thanks to Lin Xuan for taking good care of us. Huang Shifang also smiled happily. No, it's all thanks to Meng Yao for being willing to marry Lin Xuan. Otherwise it would take me a long time to become a grandmother. Shang Shulan looked at Li Mengyao gratefully. When Li Mengyao saw this warm scene, the corners of her mouth slightly raised and she revealed a happy smile. Li Mengyao suddenly screamed. What's wrong, daughter-in-law? Are you feeling unwell? Shang Shulan hurriedly stepped forward and asked. Yao Yao, are you okay? Huang Shifang asked anxiously. It's nothing, maybe the two little babies were playing naughty things in there, or they seem to be fighting. I don't feel anything now. Li Mengyao stroked her round belly and smiled. She just felt a movement on this side and a kick on the other side, as if they were pushing and shoving each other. After hearing this, the two mothers breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that the babies are very lively, Li Mengyao said with a smile. Shen Shulan and Huang Shifang both smiled happily. On the other side, Lin Xuan took the elevator to the first floor of the hospital and had just paid the fee. Suddenly, the system's voice rang in my ears. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for completing the 9th month of pregnancy test. A luxury king-size bedroom in the hospital as a reward, with a top female doctor in the country to serve Li Mengyao. Huh? There is such treatment. It's worthy of being a system. Lin Xuan showed surprise on his face. And Lin Xuan happily returned upstairs and immediately saw a little nurse in front of Li Mengyao, seemingly saying something. Honey, you're back. Li Mengyao saw Lin Xuan coming back. A smile appeared on her face, and she slowly walked to his side. Honey, this nurse said she would take us to the hospital's king-size bedroom, Li Mengyao continued. I just asked the hospital to prepare it, wife. Let's go now, Lin Xuan said with a smile. Li Mengyao was very shocked. She didn't expect her husband could even get a big bedroom in the hospital. And the family followed the nurse to a separate double bedroom, which was very spacious and had 2 large beds. One for the pregnant woman and the other for the accompanying bed, and a large TV. After settling down, Lin Xuan stayed to accompany Li Mengyao, while Shan Shulan and Huang Shifang went back to prepare lunch. In the next few days, the 3 of them prepared to take turns to take care of Li Mengyao. Everyone was anxiously waiting for the birth of the baby. On the other hand, Li Mengyao acted as if nothing had happened, eating and drinking as usual. Of course she was nervous inside. But she didn't want to show it, as this would only make everyone else feel worse. On the first night of hospitalization, Huang Shifang left the room after delivering dinner, leaving only Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao in the big bedroom. Because Li Mengyao's belly was already very big, Lin Xuan didn't dare to sleep next to her and could only lie on the accompanying bed next to her. Honey, the bed at home is more comfortable. Li Mengyao turned sideways and looked at Lin Xuan with a smile. I feel the bed here is also very soft, almost the same as the one at home. Lin Xuan responded. In fact, all the equipment provided by the system for Li Mengyao are top-notch, including this big bed. That's not the reason. Li Mengyao shook her head gently, still with a smile on her face. Why is that? Wife, are you feeling unwell now? Lin Xuan hurried to the head of Li Mengyao's bed and asked with concern. I feel uncomfortable because I don't hold you in my arms when I sleep. Li Mengyao answered with a smile, her eyes full of tenderness. Lin Xuan was once again aroused by his wife. He looked at the gentle girl in front of him and his heart softened. Honey, come and sleep on top of me. Li Mengyao moved to the side, leaving a vacant spot, and patted the empty space with her little hands. Seeing this, Lin Xuan carefully lay down on the bed and gently held Li Mengyao in his arms. Once the baby is born, you won't have to work so hard. Lin Xuan gently stroked Li Mengyao's belly and said with concern. In fact, he had already noticed that Li Mengyao was not feeling well, but she was just holding on. Li Mengyao smiled slightly, with a gleam of maternal love in her eyes. Well, it's all worth it. She gently stroked her belly, feeling the beating of the little life inside. Maybe, after my husband kisses me for a while, it won't be so painful. Li Mengyao suddenly raised her head and revealed a charming smile. Lin Xuan was deeply moved after hearing this. He gently held Li Mengyao's little face and kissed her lightly. Just then, the door of the room suddenly opened. Yao Yao, our good sisters are here to see you. Chapter 158. It seems that she is about to give birth. The Uxin walked in first carrying a bag of fruit, followed closely by Yang Lin and Chen Man Man. However, when Uxin saw Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao kissing, her face turned red instantly, and then she immediately turned and walked out. Excuse me, please continue, please continue, please continue. As Uxin spoke, she tightly grabbed Yang Lin and Chen Man Man, who had not yet had time to enter the door, and eagerly pulled them out. What are you doing? Didn't you say you came to see Yao Yao? Yang Lin asked puzzled. Yeah, why are you pushing us? Chen Man Man also asked in confusion. Let's go in later, now is not the right time, Liu Yuxin said in a low voice. Yang Lin and Chen Man Man looked at each other, with a sly smile on their faces. At this moment, Li Mengyao in the room instantly buried her little head deeply in Lin Xuan's arms. Her face blushing. It's all your fault, my roommates saw it, Li Mengyao said coquettously. What are you afraid of? We are already an old couple, Lin Xuan said with a smile. You are old. Li Mengyao pouted and retorted, raising her little hand and gently punching Lin Xuan on the chest. A few minutes later, there was a gentle knock on the door. Yao Yao, are you ready? Can we go in now? Chen Man Man asked mischievously. At this time, Li Mengyao was too embarrassed to see anyone. She buried her little head deeply in the quilt, but her hands were still gently pinching Lin Xuan's waist. Seeing this, Lin Xuan quickly got out of bed, walked to the door and opened it. He smiled and said to everyone, "Please come in." Chen Man Man spoke first. Lin Xuan, congratulations. You're going to be a father soon. Yang Lin also said immediately, yes, Chef Lin. Don't forget to treat us to a meal after the baby is born. Lin Xuan laughed, no problem, I can treat you guys to a midnight snack right now. I'll go home and make it. Really? Then we won't be polite, order some food. Hearing this, Chen Man Man shouted excitedly. I want boneless chicken feet, Yang Lin continued. I want fried chicken wings and some pancakes. Chen Man Man quickly agreed. And me, I want octopus balls. Liu Yuxin also said. Lin Xuan smiled and nodded in agreement. Okay, then I'll go home first. You guys stay here with Mengyao. Chen Man Man patted her chest and assured, don't worry, we good sisters are here for you. After saying that, Lin Xuan turned around and left the hospital, returning home to prepare a midnight snack for Li Mengyao, and also brought some for her roommates. Yao Yao, come out quickly and don't hide anymore, Chen Man Man said with a smile. Why are you here? Li Mengyao poked half of her head out from under the quilt and said softly. Why, can't we sisters come? Yang Lin raised her eyebrows. Why Yao Yao is still in the hospital, Liu Yuxin teased, with the corners of her mouth slightly raised. Stop talking. Li Mengyao's cheeks flushed and she resisted softly. Okay, I won't tease you anymore. Yao Yao, how do you feel now? Liu Yuxin put away her smile and asked with concern. My stomach feels so heavy. It's inconvenient to do anything, Li Mengyao frowned and said helplessly. Let us see the big belly quickly, Yang Lin said impatiently. So Li Mengyao carefully lifted up her shirt and showed it to them. Wow, it's so big. Yang Lin opened her mouth and eyes wide in surprise. Of course not, they are twins, Liu Yuxin explained with a smile. No way? Such good luck, Chen Man Man exclaimed. Before, Yang Lin and Chen Man Man only knew that Li Mengyao was pregnant. But they didn't know that she was pregnant with twins. Don't say that having twins is hard to, Liu Yuxin said. I'm so sorry Yao Yao, do you want to eat some fruit? I'll peel an apple for you. Yang Lin asked with concern. Okay, Li Mengyao said with a smile. Afterwards, the four people in their dormitory began to chat happily. An hour and a half later, Lin Xuan returned to the hospital with a midnight snack. He gently opened the door, walked in with a smile and said, come and have a midnight snack. Thank you. Chef Lin. Yang Lin took the midnight snack and said gratefully. Then the three of them began to happily share the midnight snack. However, Li Mengyao could only watch them eat, because she was in her delivery period and could not eat greasy or irritating food. Hey! Whose porridge is this mushroom and lean meat? Chen Man Man asked curiously. I made this for Mengyao. Lin Xuan took the mushroom and lean meat porridge with a smile and walked to Li Mengyao's bed. Wife, you should also have some midnight snack, Lin Xuan said gently. Yeah. Li Mengyao nodded happily. Afterwards, Lin Xuan carefully fed Li Mengyao the porridge spoonful by spoonful, with every mouthful filled with love. Li Mengyao ate in small bites, and from time to time she glanced at the midnight snacks in Liu Yuxin and the others' hands with her beautiful eyes. Although the mushroom and lean meat porridge made by my husband is delicious, there should be even better. As she thought about it, saliva unconsciously flowed from the corners of her mouth. Lin Xuan noticed Li Mengyao's gaze and smiled slightly. Wife, after you give birth to the baby and are out of confinement, I will make you whatever you want to eat. Hearing this, Li Mengyao was filled with joy. Her big curved eyes sparkled with happiness, and she nodded happily. Okay. Hey. Can we come to your house for dinner in the future? Chef Lin's cooking is so delicious, Chen Man Man said. You're welcome anytime, Lin Xuan said with a smile. After Li Yuxin, Chen Man Man and Yang Lin had eaten and drunk their fill, they saw that it was getting late. So they got up and said goodbye and left. Lin Xuan lay back on the bed, gently embraced Li Mengyao in his arms, and they both fell into a sweet dream together. Early the next morning, Shang Shalan had already come with breakfast to take over Lin Xuan's shift. So Lin Xuan went back. Today he was responsible for cooking and delivering meals. Before going to bed at night, Shan Shulan lay on the accompanying bed and whispered to Li Mengyao. Mengyao, if you feel uncomfortable or want to do something, you must wake me up, understand? Li Mengyao nodded gently and replied with a smile. I know, Mum. Then Shan Shulan lay down and prepared to go to sleep. But Li Mengyao couldn't fall asleep because she didn't have her husband's hug. It was the third day of hospitalization. It was Huang Shifang's turn to take over, and Lin Chuan was still responsible for cooking and delivering meals. When Lin Chuan came to deliver food as usual, Li Mengyao whispered to him, Hubby, I can't sleep without you. When Lin Chuan heard this, he instantly understood what his wife meant. Afterwards, he found Huang Shifang and said with a smile, Mom, you go back first, I will stay here with Mengyao from now on. Huang Shifang asked with some concern. Lin Chuan, aren't you tired like this? Lin Chuan smiled and replied, I'm not tired. I can sleep with Mengyao this way. If she feels uncomfortable, I can notice it immediately. Okay, then if anything happens, remember to call us at any time. Huang Shifang understood her daughter's thoughts and nodded in agreement. In this way, at night, Li Mengyao could fall asleep happily holding Lin Chuan in her arms again. It was the third day of hospitalization, and Lin Chuan felt something shaking before he even woke up. He hurriedly opened his eyes and found that Li Mengyao in his arms was as pale as paper, her forehead was covered with fine beads of sweat, and her lips were trembling slightly, as if she was in great pain. Wife, what's wrong with you? Are you feeling unwell? Lin Chuan asked anxiously. Honey, my stomach hurts. It seems like she's about to give birth. Chapter 159. Li Mengyao was sent to the delivery room. Li Mengyao squeezed out a few words with difficulty. She covered her stomach tightly with her hands and curled up into a ball, trying to relieve the pain. But it was obviously of no avail. Lin Chuan's heart sank suddenly, and he immediately realized that the situation might not be good. He quickly sat up, gently stroked Li Mengyao's hair, and comforted her. Don't be afraid, honey. We'll call a doctor to come and take a look right away. As he spoke, he pressed the call bell at the bedside and gently carried Li Mengyao to the bed. My husband is here. If it hurts, just bite my arm. Lin Chuan spoke gently, extending his strong arms in front of Li Mengyao. Li Mengyao shook her head weakly, tears welling up in her eyes, her voice weak and painful. I can't bear to. Lin Chuan felt heartbroken, but there was nothing he could do. He could only hold his wife's hand tightly to give her strength and support. At this moment, he accidentally caught a glimpse of a small amount of blood on the bed. After a while, doctors and nurses rushed to the ward. This doctor is the top female obstetrician and gynecologist in the country who was previously rewarded by the system. They carefully asked Li Mengyao about her symptoms and conducted a series of examinations. Looking at Li Mengyao's painful expression, Lin Chuan was extremely anxious. After some examination, the female doctor said to Lin Chuan with a serious expression, MRLN, according to the current examination results, Miss Li's abdominal pain is very likely a sign of premature birth. The female doctor understood his concerns and patiently explained, twins are most likely to be born prematurely, but don't worry. We will do our best to ensure the safety of mother and baby. What should we do now? Lin Chuan asked nervously. It's only one finger dilated now. And the conditions for delivery have not yet been reached. The most important thing now is to keep the pregnant woman calm and try to avoid tension, the female doctor said seriously. You can take the pregnant woman out of bed and walk around. This will help with dilation and promote the delivery process. We will prepare the delivery room. First, if the cervix is dilated to more than 3 fingers, please notify us immediately. The female doctor continued to instruct. After hearing this, Lin Chuan took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. He held Li Mengyao's hand and comforted her softly. Don't be afraid, honey, this will all pass quickly. Let's get out of bed and take a walk together. Li Mengyao nodded weakly, beads of sweat appearing on her forehead. Then she slowly got out of bed. She held Lin Chuan's hand tightly, as if it was her only support. Lin Chuan carefully supported Li Mengyao and walked slowly back and forth in the room. However, with every step she took, a painful expression appeared on Li Mengyao's face. Her body trembled slightly, and tears welled up in her eyes. Wife, if you feel pain, let's go back to bed and rest. Lin Chuan looked at Li Mengyao and felt heartbroken. No, I can hold on a little longer. Li Mengyao bit her lips and endured the pain. She knew that this was the only way she could see the baby sooner. While supporting Li Mengyao, Lin Chuan took out his cell phone and called Shang Shulan. Mom, Mengyao is about to give birth, come over quickly, and bring some hawthorn slices. They walked back and forth like this for half an hour. And the nurse came to check and found that the cervix was all ready to fingers dilated. Wife, it will be soon, just hold on a little longer and we can go to the delivery room. Lin Chuan held Li Mengyao's hand tightly, trying to give her strength and comfort. Li Mengyao's face was pale and her forehead was soaked with sweat. She clenched her teeth and endured the severe pain. At this moment, Shan Shulan and Huang Shifang came hurriedly, carrying a large bag in their hands. Daughter-in-law, how do you feel? Shan Shulan asked with concern. It hurts so much, Li Mengyao replied weakly. Yao Yao, hold on a little longer, everything will be fine after today. Wen Shifeng stroked Li Mengyao's hair lovingly and encouraged her. Daughter-in-law, come and eat some hawthorn slices, it will help with childbirth. Shan Shulan took out a bag of hawthorns, opened it and handed it to Lin Xuan. Lin Xuan took the hawthorn slices and carefully fed them to Li Mengyao one by one. Although Li Mengyao had no appetite at the moment, she still tried hard to swallow. Honey, let's walk a little longer, Li Mengyao said, panting and holding Lin Xuan's hand tightly. Okay. Lin Xuan nodded, carefully supporting Li Mengyao and continuing to walk slowly back and forth in the room. Time passed by minute. And finally half an hour passed. Wife, it seems to be for fingers open, Lin Xuan shouted excitedly. Upon hearing this, Li Mengyao showed a relieved smile on her face, but the pain prevented her from responding too much. Lin Xuan immediately pressed the call bell on the bedside. Soon, a young nurse rushed to the ward after a quick check. She said, "It is indeed for fingers dilated, prepare to send it to the delivery room immediately." After saying that, the young nurse stirred and left the ward to inform other medical staff. Wife, if it hurts too much, why don't you choose a caesarean section, this can relieve your pain. Lin Xuan looked at Li Mengyao with heartache and asked softly. Li Mengyao shook her head weakly and said with difficulty, "No, a caesarean section may affect the baby. I still want to try a natural birth." Lin Xuan held Li Mengyao's hand tightly, and he was moved and placed her hand gently on his cheek. A moment later, several young nurses rushed over and gently placed Li Mengyao on the delivery bed. Then they worked together to push the delivery bed and slowly moved towards the delivery room. Lin Xuan, Shan Shulan and Huang Shifeng followed closely behind, feeling very nervous. "Nurse, please take these items into the delivery room. They may be needed later." At this time, Shan Shulan quickly stuffed several bottles of functional drinks and several bags of chocolate into the hands of a nurse. "Wife, if you really find it unbearable, you must tell the doctor to choose a caesarean section on T-Force yourself, understand?" Lin Xuan held Li Mengyao's hand tightly and said with concern. "Yeah, I know." Just as they were about to enter the delivery room, their hands slowly loosened. In this way, Lin Xuan watched his wife enter the delivery room. The moment Li Mengyao entered, she suddenly tried hard to force a smile and looked at Lin Xuan. Just like that, at around 10 am on January 140, 2025, Li Mengyao was sent to the delivery room and officially began giving birth. Chapter 160. These are our children. Lin Zhengguo, who was far away in Yunhe City, was holding a meeting with his subordinates in the conference room. But his phone kept vibrating halfway through the meeting. Lin Zhengguo picked up the phone and saw that his wife Shang Shulan had called him 5 or 6 times. He called back hastily. "Wife, what's wrong? Is there anything urgent?" Lin Zhengguo said. "Why don't you answer my calls? Your daughter-in-law is about to give birth, come here quickly," Shang Shulan said angrily. Okay, I'll be there right away," Lin Zhengguo said. He didn't even attend the meeting, just left a message saying that the meeting was cancelled and he left because of an emergency. Lin Zhengguo hurried downstairs to his workplace and drove his BMW 8 Series straight to the Jinghe People's Hospital. He was always a steady driver, but he drove faster than usual. On the other side, 2 hours had passed and there was no movement inside. Lin Xuan paced back and forth in front of the delivery room, feeling anxious. This was the longest time in his life. As if every second was infinitely stretched. He seemed to hear Li Mengyao screaming in pain inside, and the sound made him feel like his heart was being cut by a knife. Although he knew that it usually takes more than 10 hours for a pregnant woman to give birth to twins naturally, he still couldn't calm down at the moment, and kept muttering, "Why is it so slow?" Just then, Huang Shifeng came back with some lunch packed from the hospital cafeteria. She walked over to Lin Xuan and Shang Shulan and said softly, "Lin Xuan and Luz, please have something to eat." Lin Xuan shook his head and replied palely, "Mom, I can't eat yet." Shang Shulan also said, "I can't eat now either." Their eyes were always fixed on the door of the delivery room, and their hearts were filled with worry for Li Mengyao and the children. "You'd better eat something, Yao Yao doesn't want you to starve outside," Huang Shifeng said softly, his eyes full of tenderness and concern. "Although my daughter looks fragile, she is very strong at heart, she will definitely get through this." Huang Shifeng then continued to comfort him. Although she was also full of worries at the moment, she still tried to keep herself calm. After hearing this, Lin Xuan and Shang Shulan finally slowly opened their lunchboxes and began to eat slowly. The food in the hospital actually tasted quite good, but at this moment, Lin Xuan felt that it was tasteless in his mouth, like chewing wax. "Lin Xuan, how is Yao Yao?" At this moment, a familiar voice was heard. It turned out to be Liu Xin, who hurried over. "I've been in the delivery room for more than 2 hours, Lin Xuan said softly. "It's okay. Yao Yao is the best, she will definitely get through it," Liu Xin hurriedly comforted her. "Well, thank you, Lin Juan nodded. After a while, Lin Zhengjiuo came running over in a hurry. His face full of anxiety and nervousness. Wife, son, I'm here. How's my daughter-in-law? Lin Zhengjiuo asked, panting. I've been in there for almost 3 hours. Chang Shulen replied softly. Don't worry, medical technology is so advanced now, nothing will happen. Lin Zhengjiuo hugged Chang Shulen tightly and comforted her softly. So, 5 people waited anxiously outside the delivery room. The time required for a normal birth depends on many factors. Some women can complete the birth in just 6 hours, while others may take 10 hours, and some may even take more than 20 hours. They stayed in the hospital from morning till night. After dinner, Liu Yuxian saw that everyone was still very nervous. Lin Juan, I skipped work today. Will you deduct my salary? Liu Yuxian tried to ease everyone's tension. At this time, Liu Yuxian had already joined Jinwan Technology Co. Limited as the Human Resources Director. This should be left to your father, he is responsible for managing you. Lin Juan said with a smile. Come on, Lin Juan, you don't know. My dad is very strict with me every time I help him organize documents. As long as there are a few typos, he will criticize me harshly. My colleagues in the company all joked about whether I am his biological child. And Liu Yuxian started to complain. Her humorous words made the people present couldn't help but laugh out loud, and the originally tense atmosphere was also greatly relieved. That's right, now the babies are about to be born, and everyone should be happy. Liu Yuxian said with a smile. I'm past minute by minute, and finally, at around 8 o'clock in the evening, the door of the delivery room was slowly opened. 2 nurses came out, each holding a baby. One of the nurses asked softly, Excuse me, are you Li Mengyao's family members? Hearing this, everyone rushed forward. Lin Juan quickly replied, We are. After carefully checking the family's information, the nurse smiled and said, Congratulations, it's twins, a boy and a girl. The one I'm holding is the older sister. Weighing 15 pounds and 50 grams, born at 800 AP. Then another nurse smiled and said, The one I'm holding is my little brother, weighing 15 pounds. Born at 820 AP. And look. The basic features of all babies are present. Everyone came forward and looked carefully at the baby in front of them, who was wearing soft cotton baby clothes. Their eyes were full of love and joy. However, Lin Juan seemed extremely anxious. He couldn't wait to ask, Nurse, where is my wife? MSLI is in good condition and will be out soon, please don't worry, the nurse comforted her. After hearing this, Lin Juan breathed a sigh of relief, and then turned his attention to the newborn baby. The little guy's skin is red and wrinkled. Not very good looking, but it exudes a unique vitality. Especially my younger brother's mouth was wide open. Lin Juan smiled when he saw it. Then 2 young nurses carefully picked up the baby and took him to a special room for a physical examination and cleaning. After a while, the door of the delivery room opened again and Li Mengyao was finally pushed out. Her face was as pale as paper. Her eyes revealed extreme fatigue and relief, and sweat soaked her temples. However, when she saw Lin Juan, she still tried to force a faint smile. Wife, you've worked hard. Holding her sweaty little hand tightly. Honey, I'm fine. Li Mengyao's voice was a little weak. Afterwards, everyone returned to the hospital's double bedroom together. Li Mengyao lay on the comfortable hospital bed and soon fell into a deep sleep due to excessive fatigue. Lin Juan sat quietly beside the bed, staring at her silently, his eyes full of tenderness and concern. Time passed slowly, and about an hour later, the 2 nurses appeared in the ward again. They were holding the babies in their arms and carefully pushed open the door and walked in. The 2 walked to the bed and gently placed the children next to Li Mengyao, one on the left and one on the right. In an orderly manner. One of the nurses said softly, The 2 little guys are in good health and have just been cleaned. The baby will cry when she wakes up. And then you can let the mother feed her. Another nurse added. Okay, thank you. Lin Juan said gratefully. As she spoke, Li Mengyao seemed to sense the breath of the children around her. She slowly opened her eyes and looked tiredly at the children on both sides. But the satisfied and happy smile on her face. She turned her head slightly to look at Lin Juan, and said weakly but firmly, Husband, give me your hand. Lin Juan looked at his wife distressed-ly and gently advised, Wife, you need to have a good rest now. However, Li Mengyao did not listen to him. She gently reached out and held Lin Juan's hand, then placed the 2 children's hands on Lin Juan's hand. And the 4 hands were tightly clasped. Then Li Mengyao raised a happy arc at the corner of her mouth and whispered softly, These are our children. Chapter 161 Rewards for the Successful Birth of a Baby. At this moment, Lin Juan felt as if his heart was being gently held by 3 gentle hands. His inner defenses were completely destroyed by this deep emotion at that moment. And the emotion surged into his heart like a surging tide. He leaned forward, eager to kiss Li Mengyao. However, Li Mengyao was keenly aware of her husband's intention and tried to stop him by reaching out, Don't kiss, everyone is here. But she felt weak all over and unable to resist Lin Juan's closeness. Lin Xuan didn't care about it at all. He gently left a soft kiss on Li Mengyao's forehead and said with emotion, "Why thank you? What are you thanking me for? Don't say anything now." Li Mengyao's face was originally pale and bloodless, but now it was gradually flushed, making her look particularly charming. "There are so many people watching, and my husband still kisses me and says such cheesy words." Lin Xuan turned around and saw that the people around him all had ant-like smiles on their faces, and he couldn't help feeling a little embarrassed. "Are you done with the intimacy? Do you want to go out for a while?" Liu Yuxin asked jokingly. "The intimacy is over." Lin Xuan smiled slightly. At this time, Shang Shulan reminded, "Son, it's time to give the child a name." "I have already discussed this with Meng Yao before," Lin Xuan replied with a smile. "What's the name?" Lin Zhengjiuo asked anxiously. If Lin Xuan dared to give his child a name like Lin San or Lin Si, he would definitely drag Lin Xuan out and beat him up without hesitation. "My daughter's name is Lin Shiqun and my son's name is Lin Shuyi," Lin Xuan said with a smile. "Shiqun, Shuyi. These two names are so nice." Huang Shifang smiled happily. At this moment, a crisp sound suddenly rang in Lin Yuan's mind. "Ding dong, congratulations on the successful birth of the host's baby. The rewards this time are very generous. The reward is 5 million yuan in cash. And it also triggers a 10-fold critical hit probability. For a total of 50 million yuan in cash. It has been transferred to the host bank card through formal and legal means. Please check it." "Ding dong, congratulations to the host for triggering the lottery mechanism. You will be awarded a chance to draw a lottery. The current prize pool includes 1 large luxury Riva 80 yacht, Lamborghini Sian Lightning Limited Edition. 3. Thank you for your patronage." "Excuse me, host, would you like to draw a lottery?" Lin Xuan was stunned for a moment. To give a reward of 50 million yuan directly after the baby was born was too generous. And this lucky draw finally appeared. Lin Xuan almost forgot about it. "Lottery." The system then made a sound of the turntable spinning and the lottery began. At this time, Lin Xuan was thinking that if he drew the first two, he would make a lot of money, as they were worth tens of millions of dollars, but if he drew the last one, he would just be thanking you for your patronage. But he didn't know when the next draw would be. "System, please wait a moment." Lin Xuan suddenly called a stop. "What's up? And I used the extra condition like last time?" "Yes, but not on the same terms. I'd like to spend my roommate Shu Quan's big guarantee every time he plays Bank Dai in exchange for the top two." Lin Xuan was ecstatic. This was a good opportunity to help Quaner quit his internet addiction. This was good for him. "Ding dong, congratulations to the host for winning the Lamborghini Sian Lightning Limited Edition. It has been parked in the Jin Wanfu parking lot. Please check it." Lin Xuan was amazed. The Lamborghini Sian Lightning Limited Edition is worth 25 million yuan. A result of this lottery is the Lamborghini Lightning. Once the host uses the conditions, it cannot be taken back. Lin Xuan, Quaner, I'm doing this for your own good. Shu Quan. "Oh, there's more." The system continued. "Ding dong, congratulations to the host for naming the babies. Reward pregnant women with a comprehensive guide to postpartum knowledge." And a lot of strange knowledge suddenly popped into Lin Xuan's mind. All this knowledge flooded into his brain like a tide, and when he came to his senses, he had become one of the country's top gold medal confinement nannies. He not only knows how to take care of a baby, but also knows how to handle various baby care issues, including feeding, changing diapers, soothing a crying baby, and more. Lin Xuan happily walked up to Li Mengyao and kissed her again, this time on her lips. "Husband, why are you still kissing me?" Li Mengyao said cockathiously, her cheeks turning even redder. "Wife, you take a rest first. Mom and Dad, you stay here with Mengyao first. I'll go back and make some confinement meals and bring them over," Lin Xuan continued to say to everyone. "Okay, go ahead," Shang Shulan said with a smile. "Son, do you need help?" Lin Zhengjiu asked. "No need, I'll be back soon," Lin Xuan said, then turned and left the hospital. He then left the hospital, drove back to Jinwan Mansion, and started to get busy. At this time, everyone in the hospital was gathered around the bed to watch the two babies sleeping soundly. Although it doesn't look very good when it is born, the small size is really healing. They watched quietly, with warm and happy smiles on their faces. An hour later, Lin Xuan returned to the hospital with a bowl of egg custard and lean meat porridge. When he returned to the hospital, he found that Liu Xian had already gone back, leaving only Shang Shulan, Lin Zhengjiuo and Huang Shifang. "Mom and Dad, you guys go back first. We've already prepared some midnight snacks in the kitchen. I'll stay with Meng Yao tonight." Lin Xuan gently placed the carefully prepared confinement meal on the table and said to his parents with a smile, "Son, and you do it, will you handle it if the baby cries?" Shang Shulan asked worriedly. After all, taking care of a newborn baby is not an easy task, let alone two. "Don't worry, Mom. I've done my homework," Lin Xuan replied with a smile. "Besides, if I really can't handle it, I will call you." "Well, daughter-in-law, you should have a good rest first. Shan Shaolan said to Li Mengyao, her tone full of concern. Well, Mom and Dad. You guys go back first. Li Mengyao nodded with a smile. So, Shan Shaolan, Lin Zhengjiu and Huang Shifang all stood up and prepared to leave the hospital. They told Lin Xuan to take good care of Li Mengyao and said they would come back to take over early tomorrow morning. After the three of them left, Lin Xuan came to the bedside, gently held Li Mengyao's hand, and asked softly, Wife, are you hungry? His eyes were full of love, as if the whole world only existed for the two of them. I'm hungry, Li Mengyao replied with a smile, her voice soft and sweet. Come on, wife, open your mouth. Lin Xuan held the bowl, scooped up a spoonful of porridge, blew it gently to cool it down, and then handed it to Li Mengyao's mouth. Li Mengyao smiled, opened her mouth and swallowed the porridge. Delicious, she said vaguely, with a happy smile on her face. Lin Xuan looked at his wife's satisfied expression and felt a sense of accomplishment. He scooped another spoonful of porridge and continued to feed Li Mengyao carefully. The confinement meals my husband prepared are also very delicious, Li Mengyao said with emotion. Of course. Your husband knows everything, Lin Xuan laughed proudly. Narcissist, Li Mengyao rolled her eyes. But the smile in her eyes became more intense. Chapter 162, Participate in every moment of your baby's growth. Honey, I'm sleepy. Let's take a nap first. After eating, Li Mengyao yawned lazily and her eyelids became heavy. Okay. Do you want your husband to hold you while you sleep? Lin Xuan gently placed Dabao and Xiaobao in the stroller, turned to look at Li Mengyao, with a gentle smile on his lips. No, Li Mengyao shook her head firmly. Why? Lin Xuan was full of confusion in the past. His wife always liked to have him hold her in her arms while she slept, so why did she suddenly refuse today? Because I didn't take a shower, I feel smelly. Li Mengyao lowered her head and smelled her clothes, frowning slightly, looking a little embarrassed. I just gave birth to a baby and my whole body is covered with sweat. How could that be? My wife always smells good. Lin Xuan walked to the bed, leaned close to Lin Engyao's cheek, took a deep breath of her unique scent, and then secretly kissed her lips when she wasn't paying attention. I'm getting mad. Li Mengyao blared at Lin's embarrassment and annoyance, putting on an angry look and speaking with a hint of cociousness in her voice. Okay, don't be angry, honey. I'm going to sleep on the accompanying bed now. Seeing that Li Mengyao was really angry, Lin Xuan hurriedly got up, turned off the lights, and then lay down obediently on the accompanying bed. Li Mengyao looked at Lin Xuan's actions and couldn't help but burst out laughing. It turned out that her husband was so afraid of her getting angry. She turned her head and gazed quietly at the two adorable babies in the faint moonlight, her eyes full of maternal love and happiness. So cute. A while later, husband, Li Mengyao suddenly shouted, Wife, have you changed your mind? Lin Xuan raised his head and smiled. No, I want to go to the bathroom, Li Mengyao said angrily. My husband is here. Lin Xuan quickly got up from the bed, turned on the light, and carefully helped Li Mengyao into the bathroom. Then they returned to the room and lay on the bed again. However, they didn't sleep for long. About an hour later, Bao suddenly started crying, and then Xiaobao also started crying. Wow, the crying sound instantly broke the silence of the night, and Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao were immediately awakened. Bao and Xiaobao must be hungry. Lin Xuan reacted quickly, holding a child in each of his left and right hands, and hurriedly put them into Li Mengyao's arms. Honey, I don't seem to be producing much milk. Li Mengyao listened to the children crying, looked down at her chest, her face full of anxiety. Bao and Xiaobao tried their best to suck out milk but failed and continued to cry loudly. Don't worry. Honey, I have a way, Lin Xuan said comfortingly. What method? Li Mengyao asked. Finally, after Lin Xuan's efforts, Li Mengyao finally started producing milk. There is a ration bag on each side of Dabao and Xiaobao. Although Li Mengyao felt a little pain, she still looked at Dabao and Xiaobao with a smile on her face, her eyes full of maternal love. After eating and drinking, the two little guys fell asleep again. That night, Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao fed the baby 3 or 4 times. It can be said that I didn't sleep much that night. By the next day, Li Mengyao and Lin Xuan had fallen asleep exhausted. The sunlight shines into the ward through the window, giving people a warm feeling. At this time, Shan Shaolan, Lin Zhengjiu and Huang Shifang had prepared the confinement meals and came to the hospital early. Shan Shaolan gently pushed open the door and saw Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao sleeping soundly. She frowned with heartache. Son, go back to sleep. We are here to take care of you, Shan Shaolan said softly. Okay, then I'll go back and catch up on some sleep. I didn't get much sleep last night. Lin Xuan rubbed his eyes and said with a yawn. Then Lin Xuan came to the hospital parking lot because he was so sleepy. He got into the Maybach, turned on the top intelligent driving system, and fell asleep in the car. After arriving at Jinwan Prefecture, Lin Xuan still slept like a pig. If it weren't for the top intelligent driving system's reminder, he might have continued sleeping in the car. After returning home, Lin Xuan fell asleep and slept until noon. After waking up, Lin Xuan did not stop, but went straight to the kitchen and started busying himself preparing the confinement meal for lunch. He skillfully cleaned the fresh crucian carp, put it in the steamer, added some onion, ginger, garlic and other seasonings, and steamed it into a delicious crucian carp at the same time. He also cooked a bowl of soft noodles. After everything was ready, Lin Xuan drove to the hospital. When he arrived at the room, he saw Li Mengyao lying quietly on the bed. Lin Xuan sat gently on the bed, picked up the spoon, and fed her food spoonful by spoonful. Li Mengyao chewed slowly and smiled sweetly. During this period, Li Mengyao was either sleeping or eating, and she often fed her two children in between. Sometimes Li Mengyao was so sleepy that she couldn't open her eyes, and the babies were clamoring for milk. So Lin Xuan skillfully lifted up Li Mengyao's clothes and put Dabao and Xiaobao on them. The babies seemed to have a keen sense of smell and immediately smelled a familiar scent. Subconsciously, Li Mengyao naturally hugged the two cute little guys. It was the third day after giving birth. Li Mengyao's body had almost recovered, and she could get out of bed and walk around a little. At noon, that day, when Lin Xuan came to the ward with lunch, Li Mengyao was sitting by the bed, holding Dabao in one hand and Xiaobao in the other, with a happy smile on her face. Seeing Lin Xuan coming in, she raised her head, her eyes full of love. Lin Xuan put the lunchbox on the table, walked to the bed and sat down gently, looking at the babies tenderly. "Wife, there is a well-known confinement center near our home. Do you want to go?" Lin Xuan asked softly. Li Mengyao shook her head slightly and said firmly, "No, I want to go home and recuperate after giving birth. I want to personally participate in every moment of my baby's growth." After saying this, she looked down at the two little ones in her arms, her eyes filled with maternal love and happiness. Chapter 163 Discharge. "Dabao and Xiaobao, you must grow up healthy," Lin Xuan said gently. At this time, Dabao and Xiaobao were sleeping quietly, and their little bodies looked very adorable. They are just born and spend most of their time sleeping. Apart from sleeping, they eat. Just then, there was a soft knock on the door. "Husband, go and see who is here," Li Mengyao turned and said to Lin Xuan. "Yeah." Lin Xuan responded, then gently kissed Li Mengyao's delicate cheek, then stood up, walked to the door and opened it. "Lin Xuan, I'm here to see Yao Yao and the babies." Standing at the door was Liu Yuxin, with a bright smile on her face and a bag of fresh fruits in her hand. "Come in quickly." Lin Xuan smiled and stepped aside, inviting Liu Yuxin into the room. Afterwards, Liu Yuxin came to Li Mengyao's bed and sat down, and asked with concern, "Yao Yao, how do you feel now?" "Much better, but still a little weak," Li Mengyao replied with a smile. "That's good. You'll be completely liberated once you're out of confinement," Liu Yuxin comforted. "You still have to take care of the baby after the confinement period. There is still a long way to go," Li Mengyao said with a smile. At this time, Liu Yuxin's eyes were attracted by the two little guys, and she couldn't help but ask, "Can I hold the children?" "Of course," Li Mengyao said with a smile. "But I have never held a newborn baby." "How should I hold it?" Liu Yuxin asked. She heard that newborn babies' bones are still relatively soft, so she was very afraid of hurting the baby because of her holding posture. "I'll teach you." At this time, Lin Xuan walked forward and carefully took Dabao from Li Mengyao's arms. He held the baby's head and neck with one hand, and supported the baby's back and buttocks with the other hand, and held her horizontally, trying to be as gentle as possible. Liu Yuxin also followed Lin Xuan's example and took Xiaobao from Li Mengyao's arms and held him gently. At this time, Xiaobao was still sleeping quietly, with his little mouth slightly open and constantly making sucking movements. "Be good. Little darling, give you a hug from godmother," Liu Yuxin coaxed softly. However, at this moment, Xiaobao suddenly burst into tears. The sound was loud and crisp, which frightened Liu Yuxin so much that she was at a loss. "Why do you cry when I hug you?" Liu Yuxin said anxiously. "Don't be anxious, let me see." Lin Xuan quickly put Dabao back into Li Mengyao's arms, and then quickly took Xiaobao from Liu Yuxin's hands. Because of the Toppost Patrum knowledge encyclopedia rewarded by the system, Lin Xuan knew it was Xiaobao Lao Xiu as soon as he touched it. "It's little Paula who's stinky." Then Lin Xuan began to skillfully untie the diaper and throw it away, his movements gentle and quick. Then he picked up a pack of wet wipes and gently wiped Xiaobao's little butt, making sure every spot was clean. Then, he took a clean towel and carefully wiped the moisture off Xiaobao's butt, keeping the skin dry and comfortable. Finally, he put a clean diaper on, buckling it carefully to make sure it wouldn't come loose or slip off. After doing all this, Lin Xuan carefully held Xiaobao in his arms and rocked him gently and slowly. Soon, Xiaobao fell asleep in his father's warm arms. "Lin Xuan, you are so skilled." Liu Yuxin on the side looked at Lin Xuan in surprise. It was the fourth day after delivery, and the sunlight shone through the window onto the big bed in the hospital. Early in the morning, the whole family gathered in this warm room, their faces filled with joy and anticipation. The day is the day Li Mengyao is discharged from the hospital. The female doctor came in and said to them gently, "Pay attention to rest after delivery, avoid overwork, and supplement nutrition. Remember to come for a follow-up checkup 42 days after delivery." So the whole family returned home in a mighty procession. Because the weather was cold and there was light snow outside, Lin Xuan was worried that Li Mengyao would catch a cold, so he wrapped her up in clothes. Li Mengyao's body was wrapped tightly, leaving only her small and delicate face exposed. Now she looks like a fat woman. On the way, many other pregnant women saw Debao and Xiaobao and cast envious glances at them. Some exclaimed, "Oh, they are twins." Some sighed, "How lucky we are." Some people also speculated, "I see these two babies look very different, they should be twins, a boy and a girl. Right?" Lin Xuan drove the car to the hospital entrance after Li Mengyao and Huang Shifang sat firmly in the back seat. He returned to the driving seat of the Toyota Alpha, started the car and drove towards home. At this moment, Li Mengyao and Huang Shifang were each holding a baby. Shan Chelan followed Lin Zhengjiuo home in the BMW 8 Series. After a while, Lin Xuan parked the car steadily in the parking lot downstairs of Jinwan Mansion. After getting off the car, Li Mengyao saw at a glance a brand new Super de Lightning green Lamborghini Lightning parked next to it. It is sandwiched between the Bentley Continental and Maybach, like a green phantom in the interweaving of light and shadow. The sharp lines outline the unruly soul, and every inch of the body exudes a fascinating charm. Li Mengyao looked up and glanced at Lin Xuan, and she roughly understood in her heart. My husband is spending money recklessly again. There are really a lot of rich people in Jinghai City. Look at this sports car, it's so cool. Lin Zhengjiuo stood next to the car and couldn't help but exclaimed in admiration. Let's go up quickly, Lin Xuan urged with a smile. If I let my mother know that this is my car, I will definitely be beaten when I get home. Spending more than 20 million to buy a car that can only seat two people, you must have been kicked in the head by a donkey. The family finally returned home. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao carried the two children into the master bedroom and carefully placed Dabao and Xiaobao in the stroller that had been prepared in advance. And Li Mengyao immediately turned around and walked towards the bathroom. Wife, what are you doing? Lin Xuan gently pulled Li Mengyao and asked softly. I want to take a shower, I stink so bad. Li Mengyao frowned and pouted. She hasn't had a shower in for days. Chapter 164. I can finally be close to my husband. After taking a shower, the two of them lay gently on the soft big bed. Before Lin Xuan hugged her, Li Mengyao couldn't wait to move forward, hug him tightly, and rub her charming little face against his. Finally, I can be close to my husband, she said with a smile, her beautiful eyes curved. Li Mengyao was pregnant with a big belly and couldn't hug Lin Xuan tightly even in the late stages of her pregnancy. Lin Xuan also hugged Li Mengyao tightly. Wife, Lin Xuan called softly. Li Mengyao raised her head and looked at him with her beautiful big eyes. I want a kiss. Lin Xuan raised a smile. The next second, Li Mengyao's seductive red lips came up. After their lips parted, Lin Xuan looked at his wife in a daze. So, he gently stroked Li Mengyao's hair and asked softly, Wife, what are you thinking about? When Li Mengyao heard Lin Xuan's words, she slowly raised her beautiful head, narrowed her eyes slightly, stared at Lin Xuan and asked, Husband, are you hiding something from me again? Lin Xuan felt a little guilty under Li Mengyao's gaze. He scratched his head and answered doubtfully. No, it seems like there is nothing I'm hiding from my wife recently. However, at this moment, Li Mengyao suddenly bit Lin Xuan's shoulder, causing him to gasp in pain. He said helplessly. Wife, why did you bite me again? He looked down and saw a lovely tooth mark on his shoulder. Li Mengyao puffed up her cheeks and continued to question Lin Xuan angrily. What's going on with the Lamborghini downstairs? That is mine, Lin Xuan said with a smile. He actually forgot about this sports car. Li Mengyao then asked, how much did you buy it for? Lin Xuan hesitated for a moment, but finally confessed honestly, more than 20 million. It's too expensive, although I know you are very rich now. Can you please buy less of these next time? Li Mengyao looked at Lin Xuan and spoke gently with a faint smile on her face. She always believes that it is necessary to be frugal and run the household frugally. After all, there are two money-eating beasts now. Listen to my wife, Lin Xuan said with a smile. After I am out of confinement, take me for a ride. Li Mengyao poked Lin Xuan's chest, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. My wife is very hypocritical. Lin Xuan couldn't help laughing out loud and said jokingly. It's already been bought, so why shouldn't I enjoy it? Li Mengyao pouted and said mischievously. Okay, I'll take you for a ride then, now go to sleep. Lin Xuan patted his wife's shoulder gently, then gently hugged her, allowing her to fall asleep peacefully. Li Mengyao let out a contented sigh, closed her eyes, and soon fell into a sweet dream. In the afternoon, Lin Xuan, who had just woken up, suddenly heard the system prompt sound again. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for accompanying the baby's mother out of the hospital successfully. A high-tech baby crib as a reward. It will be delivered tomorrow. Please check it. A technological crib has the following functions. 1. Real-time monitoring function. Detect the baby's breathing, heart rate and sleeping status, and issue an alarm in time if there is any abnormality. 2. Automatic adjustment function. Adjust the most suitable temperature, humidity and light of the crib according to the baby's situation. 3. Soothing functions. Can help babies fall asleep faster and ensure the quality of sleep. 4. Isolation function. Isolate all external interference, but the baby's voice can be heard from the crib. This high-tech crib is simply a magical tool for coaxing babies. When the time comes, I can just put the baby in there and he won't cry or make a fuss. That is great. At this time, Li Mengyao was still sleeping quietly in Lin Xuan's arms. Her breathing was steady and deep, with a satisfied and happy smile on her face. Pregnant women are very weak in the first week after delivery, and in most cases they spend most of their time lying in bed resting. And Lin Xuan carefully got off the bed, walked to the crib, and looked down at the two cute babies. They were still sleeping soundly, like two little pigs. Lin Xuan gently touched their diapers, and after confirming that there was no poop, he left the room with peace of mind. He walked out of the room and saw his father Lin Zhengjiuo packing his luggage in the living room. Dad, are we going back so early? Lin Xuan asked. I have something to do at work, so I have to go back. Your mother will stay to take care of your daughter-in-law, Lin Zhengjiuo said to Lin Xuan while packing his luggage. Okay then. We'll celebrate the new year here this year, Dad. You can just bring Cici over here when the time comes, Lin Xuan said. It is less than 2 weeks away from the Spring Festival. Okay, Lin Zhengjiuo responded after packing up his things. He was about to go out suddenly. He thought of something, stopped and looked back at Lin Xuan. Son, let me see my grandchildren again, Lin Zhengjiuo said with anticipation in his eyes. He really wanted to go in and take a look, but was afraid of waking up Li Mengyao, who was sleeping. Lin Xuan nodded, then tiptoed back to the master bedroom, gently took Dabao and Xiaobao out of the cradle, and carefully handed them to their father. Lin Zhengjiuo took the two children with joy on his face, looked at their lovely faces carefully, his eyes full of love and happiness. Grandpa has to go back to work first and will come to see you in a few days. Lin Zhengjiuo smiled kindly. Then, he carefully handed Dabao and Xiaobao to Lin Xuan, and turned and left. After a while, Shang Shelan and Huang Shifang came back from outside. It turned out that they went out to buy New Year's goods, because the new year was coming soon and they needed to prepare well. As night fell, Li Mengyao fed her children in bed. After the children had eaten and drunk enough, she began to play with her mobile phone. Lin Xuan looked at the clock on the wall from time to time. When 15 minutes passed, he decisively snatched the phone from Li Mengyao's hand. Wife, you can't look at it for too long, Lin Xuan reminded gently. Li Mengyao was a little dissatisfied, but she still pouted, didn't say anything, just lay quietly on the bed. Honey, I'm so bored, Li Mengyao said suddenly. Then can your husband sing a song for you? Lin Xuan asked with a smile. Okay, Li Mengyao immediately showed a bright smile and looked very happy. Seeing this, Lin Xuan climbed onto the bed, hugged Li Mengyao tightly, and hummed a beautiful song. Chapter 165. I Lie to You. The sunlight shines into the room through the window, and a new day begins. Lin Xuan was awakened by a loud cry. He struggled to get up from the bed and staggered to the stroller. He picked up a child in each hand and walked towards Li Mengyao carefully. Last night, he had gotten up 3 times to feed the baby. Now Li Mengyao was so tired that she could hardly open her eyes. Husband, Li Mengyao called softly. I'm here. Lin Xuan walked forward and gently stroked Li Mengyao's cheek. The baby is hungry, and I am hungry too. Li Mengyao looked at Lin Xuan with a mischievous smile on her face. Abi will make breakfast for you right away. Lin Xuan bent down and kissed Li Mengyao's forehead, then turned and left the master bedroom. Then he came to the living room and was about to go to the kitchen to start cooking when he saw Huang Shifang had already brought out breakfast. A bowl of black rice porridge, a portion of wontons, and a large bowl of pea noodles. Lin Xuan, this is the postpartum breakfast for Yao Yao. This bowl of pea noodles is your breakfast, Huang Shifang said with a smile. Thank you, Mom. Lin Xuan said with a smile. You didn't sleep much last night? Huang Shifang asked with concern. Yes. I get up several times a night to feed the big baby and the small baby. Lin Xuan smiled tiredly. This is how newborn babies are. It will be much better after a while. Huang Shifang comforted gently. When I first gave birth to you, you kept me awake every night. At this time, Shang Shelan also came to the living room. Go and give it to your daughter-in-law quickly, Shang Shelan urged. Okay. Lin Xuan responded, then carefully brought the black rice porridge and wontons to the master bedroom. Wife, it's time for breakfast. Lin Xuan called softly. Li Mengyao put one hand in her mouth and made a shoozing gesture. The babies have just fallen asleep. Don't wake them up, she said softly, her eyes full of tenderness and love. At this time, Abao and Xiaobao had eaten and drunk their fill, and fell asleep quietly in Li Mengyao's arms. Their little bodies curled up together, like two cute little angels. Lin Xuan carefully placed the breakfast on the bedside table, afraid of making any sound. And he gently put Dabao and Xiaobao back into the stroller. Honey, have breakfast. Lin Xuan returned to the bed, picked up the black rice porridge, and blew on it gently, trying to cool it down. I can eat it by myself, Li Mengyao said softly. Wife, you are very tired, let me feed you, Lin Xuan said gently. Yeah. Li Mengyao nodded with a smile. Lin Xuan scooped up some black rice porridge with a spoon and brought it to Li Mengyao's mouth. He coaxed softly. Li Mengyao opened her mouth slightly, enjoying this warm moment. Lin Xuan picked up another one and carefully put it into her mouth every time he fed her. He was full of love. Li Mengyao's face was filled with a happy smile. After finishing breakfast, Li Mengyao yawned and fell back to sleep. Lin Xuan looked at her peaceful sleeping face, his heart filled with gratitude and happiness. He gently covered her with the quilt and left the bedroom. Then Lin Xuan came to the living room, sat at the dining table, and began to enjoy his breakfast. He picked up the chopsticks and stirred the pea noodles in the bowl. The aroma filled his nose. He couldn't help but praise, Mom, the pea noodles you made are delicious. Really? That's great. This is my first time trying it too. If you like it, you can order another one. Huang Shifang said with a smile. No, one portion is enough to fill me up, Lin Xuan replied quickly. And Lin Xuan started to eat the noodles in big mouthfuls and soon finished all the noodles with peas. Just as Lin Xuan was about to put down his chopsticks, his cell phone suddenly rang. He quickly took out his cell phone and checked. The screen showed information about the courier delivery. Hello, how are you? Lin Xuan said politely after answering the phone. Hello, is this MRLN? A man's voice came from the other end of the phone. Yes. Lin Xuan replied. There is a courier that has been delivered to the door of room 1601, Building A, Jinwan Mansion. Please check it, the man continued. Okay, thank you. Lin Xuan responded. After hanging up the phone, Lin Xuan quickly cleaned up the dishes, walked to the door of his house, and gently opened it. When he saw what was placed outside the door, his eyes widened. A large crib appeared before my eyes. This crib was like a dreamlike nest, exuding a warm and sweet atmosphere. Its curves are soft and smooth, the carvings are delicate and unique, and the pink tones are like the flowers blooming in spring, giving people a warm and beautiful feeling. Is this the high-tech crib rewarded by the system? Lin Xuan was secretly confused. It doesn't look high-tech at all, but it looks like an ordinary crib on the market. Lin Xuan thought it would be like a space capsule, but he still believes in the system very much. So Lin Xuan quickly moved the crib home. Son, don't we have a crib at home? Shang Shulan asked curiously. The one at home might not be comfortable for the babies to sleep in, so I bought a new crib, Lin Xuan explained. When Shang Shulan heard this, she was shocked. Her grandchildren's sleep was a very important matter. She hurriedly said, Mom is here to help you. The two of them worked together to move the high-tech crib to the door of the master bedroom. In order not to disturb Li Mengyao's sleep, Lin Xuan decided to wait until his wife woke up before moving in to change the crib. Afterwards, Lin Xuan came to the sofa in the living room, took out his laptop, and began to check the recent project progress of Jinwan Technology Company. Ding dong! A message came from Lin Xuan's cell phone. Wife, honey, I'm awake, come to the room, I have something to show you. After seeing this, Lin Xuan immediately closed his laptop, got up and went to the master bedroom. At this time, Li Mengyao was sitting obediently at the head of the bed, staring at him with her bright eyes like a deer. Are you awake, wife? Do you want to eat something? Lin Xuan said gently. I'm not hungry, Li Mengyao shook her head gently. Then what does my wife have to show me? Lin Xuan asked curiously. Here, Li Mengyao pretended to hold something in her hand, and Lin Xuan also lowered his head to check. Suddenly, Li Mengyao hugged Lin Xuan with both hands, kissed his lips, and then said with a smile. It's a lie. Chapter 166. Brother, just wait and buy me a new car. Wife, you teased me again. Lin Xuan raised the corners of his mouth slightly, reached out and gently pinched Li Mengyao's pink cheek, and smiled gently. I'm just teasing you. There's nothing you can do. Li Mengyao stuck out her tongue playfully, with a cunning light flashing in her eyes. She is still in confinement after childbirth, and her husband certainly can't do anything to her. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but feel proud, thinking that she had caught Lin Xuan's handle. Li Mengyao tried to be clever. Really? Lin Xuan showed his signature smile. This smile made Li Mengyao's heart tighten. She knew very well that whenever Lin Xuan showed such a smile, it meant that he was going to start easing her. Li Mengyao secretly thought that something was wrong and quickly pulled the quilt down to her neck, trying to cover her body. She said hurriedly, Hubby, I'm still in confinement, please don't mess around. Of course Lin Xuan would not listen to his wife. He climbed onto the bed swiftly and slowly approached Li Mengyao. Didn't my wife flirt with me just now? Why are you scared now? Lin Xuan said jokingly. Don't come over here. If you come over here again, I'll call for help. Li Mengyao's heart began to beat wildly. Lin Xuan looked at his wife's cute face and couldn't help laughing. He gently hugged Li Mengyao, held her tightly in his arms, and kissed her forehead affectionately. Lin Xuan said with a smile, "What are you thinking about? Your husband is just teasing you." Then, Lin Xuan suddenly remembered something and said to Li Mengyao with a smile, "By the way, honey, let's replace this crib with a new one." Li Mengyao looked at Lin Xuan in confusion and asked, "Huh? I think it works pretty well now." Lin Xuan smiled and explained, "The new crib is more comfortable and safer, and is also good for the baby's growth. I'll move it in right away." After saying that, Lin Xuan carefully and gently held Dabao and Xiaobao in Li Mengyao's arms, then quickly moved the old crib out of the room and replaced it with a brand new high-tech crib. "Wife, this crib can detect the baby's physical condition at any time, and it also has a soothing function, which can help the baby fall asleep faster," Lin Xuan said with a smile. "Thank you for your hard work, husband," Li Mengyao said with a smile. Then Lin Xuan gently put Dabao and Xiaobao back into the crib with the help of the high-tech crib. The two babies fell asleep quietly, as if they were having a sweet dream. Time slowly came to night, and Li Mengyao lay in Lin Xuan's arms. "Honey, I feel like I've gained a lot of weight now." Li Mengyao suddenly spoke softly, with a hint of grievance in her tone. Lin Xuan raised the corner of his mouth slightly, revealing a sly smile. "Nothing like that. I got out of bed and weighed myself this afternoon, and I've gained 10 pounds. Li Mengyao continued, with a hint of worry in her eyes. Lin Xuan quickly comforted her. "It's okay. My dear, your body needs to recover after having a baby. It's normal to be a little fat. You will slowly lose weight in a few months." "Really?" Li Mengyao asked doubtfully. "Of course it's true. I will help you lose weight and guarantee that you will get back to your original figure," Lin Xuan said solemnly. "Okay." After hearing Lin Xuan's words, Li Mengyao finally felt relieved and a happy smile appeared on her face. Time passed quietly, and it was already the second week after giving birth. Li Mengyao's physical condition gradually improved, and her mental state also got better and better. That morning, she got up earlier than usual, picked up Dabao and Xiaobao, and started the first feeding of the day. Looking at the two little ones in her arms, Li Mengyao's heart was filled with happiness and satisfaction. She lowered her head and gently stroked their little faces, feeling the softness and warmth. At this time, Lin Xuan also woke up, walked to the bedside, and looked at the children carefully with his wife. The appearance of the two little guys has gradually stretched out and their outlines have become clearer. Dabao and Xiaobao have perfectly inherited the excellent genes of Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao. Xiaobao's determined little eyes and straight nose are exactly the same as Lin Xuan's. Dabao's gentle eyes and sweet face are exactly like Li Mengyao. Li Mengyao couldn't help laughing after hearing what Lin Xuan said. "Yes, it's true that daughters look like their mothers and sons look like their fathers." She gently touched Dabao's face, her eyes full of love. "However, I think they were still a little ugly when they were just born." Lin Xuan suddenly said this. "You are not allowed to talk about children like that." Li Mengyao immediately glared at Lin Xuan. How could a biological father say that his child is ugly? A few days later, it was approaching the Spring Festival. Although there was still light snow in the sky, every street in Jinghe City was full of life and vigor. The bustling crowds and the dazzling array of New Year goods filled with a festive atmosphere make the New Year atmosphere even more intense. At this moment, Lin Sisi was sitting in her father Lin Zhengjiuo's BMW 8 Series through the car window. She looked at the city scene in front of her curiously. "Wow, this is the provincial capital. It's really different," Lin Sisi exclaimed. "And work harder and get admitted to Jinghe University." Lin Zhengjiuo smiled and said while driving. "I know. My grades are still very good now," Lin Sisi answered confidently. In the recent mock exam, her results achieved a breakthrough and she ranked first in the grade for the first time. "If nothing unexpected happens, I will definitely be admitted to Jinghe University." "Don't be proud, the college entrance examination is the final battle," Lin Zhengjiuo reminded and then began to nag. Lin Sisi held her cheeks with both hands and admired the beautiful city scenery outside the window. "Brother, just wait till you buy me a new car." Chapter 167 is giving birth painful. When Lin Zhengjiuo slowly drove the car into Jinwan Mansion, Lin Sisi exclaimed, "Wow!" Although she now lives in a Seedu villa in Yunha City, she still can't help but admire the skyscrapers in big cities. Then, the father and daughter got out of the car, walked into the elevator, and went straight to room 1601 Building A. Ding dong. As the doorbell rang, Lin Xuan heard the sound in the living room, immediately stood up, walked to the door, and gently opened the door. "Brother, I'm here," Lin Sisi said happily. At this moment, Lin Cixi is wearing a loose white knitted sweater with cute cartoon patterns embroidered on it. She was wearing a short pink down jacket and a pair of snow boots. At the same time, she was dragging a small and exquisite suitcase, with a bright smile on her face, looking full of youthful vitality and vigor. "How did you do on your school exams, sister?" Lin Xuan took his sister's suitcase and asked with concern. "Why do you ask about my grades right away? Let me tell you, I got first place in the whole grade in this mock exam." Lin Cixi pouted her lips in dissatisfaction and replied. As she spoke, she walked into the house with brisk steps, looking around curiously, aching in her brother's house. "Brother, this house seems a bit small," Lin Cixi muttered softly. "It's good to have a house like this in a big city. Do you think it's still in your hometown?" Lin Xuan said to Lin Cixi with a smile. "Brother, let me see my nephew and niece," Lin Cixi said expectantly. "Why are you in such a hurry? He should still be sleeping now." Lin Xuan smiled helplessly. At this moment, Li Mengyao came out of the master bedroom with a gentle smile on her face. "Is Cixi here?" "Sister-in-law, I haven't seen you for a long time." Lin Cixi ran to Li Mengyao excitedly and took her arm. Li Mengyao smiled and said, "Husband, go and bring Dabao and Xiaobao over to show them to Cixi." "Okay." Lin Xuan responded and turned to walk towards the master bedroom. Li Mengyao pulled Lin Cixi to the sofa in the living room and they sat down and started chatting. "Sister-in-law, I want to ask you something." Lin Cixi suddenly spoke mysteriously. "What's the matter?" Li Mengyao asked curiously. "Just is it painful to give birth?" Lin Cixi asked cautiously. She had heard from others before that giving birth would be extremely painful, even to the point of being hearternecting. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but feel a little scared. Wouldn't she be like this in the future? "The thought of having a baby makes me afraid to give birth. It really hurts. But once we see the baby, everything will be worth it." Li Mengyao smiled slightly, but her eyes were shining with maternal love. Just then, Lin Xuan walked into the living room holding Dabao and Xiaobao. "Wow, the baby is so cute!" Lin Cixi shouted excitedly. At this time, Dabao was squinting his eyes, his little mouth was moving slightly, as if he was having a sweet dream. Xiaobao was much quieter, sleeping quietly the whole time, only making slight breathing sounds occasionally. "Brother, can I give you a hug?" Lin Cixi asked expectantly. "Sister, be careful." Lin Xuan handed Xiaobao to Lin Cixi, and reminded her to pay attention to posture and strength. Lin Cixi took Xiaobao. He was very light and soft, with a faint scent of milk. "Be good, let auntie hug you," Lin Cixi said softly, her heart filled with joy. She never expected that she would become an aunt to children before graduating from high school. However, at this time, Xiaobao seemed to feel the breath of a stranger and burst into tears. "Brother, why is my nephew crying?" Lin Cixi was suddenly panicked and didn't know what to do. "Let me do it." Li Mengyao hurriedly took Xiaobao from Lin Cixi's hands and shook him gently. "Don't cry. Xiaobao, Mom is here." Li Mengyao coaxed Xiaobao softly, and Xiaobao seemed to smell the scent of his mother and soon stopped crying. "Xiaobao is shy and not familiar with you yet," Li Mengyao said to Lin Cixi. "You can hug Dabao, she is more lively and active." After hearing this, Lin Cixi carefully reached out her hand and gently hugged Dabao. In the end, Dabao really didn't cry. "Really?" Lin Cixi shouted happily. Just then, Huang Shifang came out of the kitchen and shouted, "Dinner is ready." Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao quickly took Dabao and Xiaobao back to the room, and the family happily enjoyed lunch in the restaurant. After lunch, everyone went back to their rooms to rest. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao share one room. Lin Zhengjiuo and Sheng Shellen share one room. The younger sister shares one room. And Huang Shifang shares one room later. When the older and younger babies grow up, they will each have their own room. Only now did Lin Xuan truly feel that this 5-bedroom house in Jinwan Mansion seemed a bit small. After Li Mengyao finished feeding Dabao and Xiaobao, she held Lin Xuan and lay on the soft big bed. "Wife, I feel like we need to buy a bigger house after the new year." Lin Xuan hugged Li Mengyao, feeling her body temperature and softness, and spoke softly. Why?" Li Mengyao looked up at Lin Xuan and asked with confusion in her eyes. "Because there are almost not enough rooms now." Lin Xuan explained with a smile. "It really does seem to be insufficient. So we can buy a bigger house then." Lin Xuan gently stroked Li Mengyao's little face and said softly. "So what size does my husband want to buy?" Li Mengyao asked with an expectant smile on her face, looking up. "How about we just buy another villa?" Lin Xuan suggested with a slight smile on his face. "Or does my husband get so much money?" Li Mengyao asked in surprise. After all, the previous Lamborghini was worth more than 20 million, and now he wants to buy a villa in Jinghe City. "My husband's purse is truly unfathomable. Once the project in Beijing is settled, I should be able to get around 50 million, Lin Xuan replied with a smile. "My husband is so great." Li Mengyao happily hugged Lin Xuan's neck and gave him a sweet kiss. "Wife, do you still want to continue being a teacher?" Lin Xuan asked softly. Of course I do, although I know you are very rich, I can't just stay at home and do nothing. I have to find something to do. Li Mengyao gently tidied up her messy hair and a calm and gentle smile appeared on her face. Well, your husband supports you. Lin Xuan encouraged with a smile. Okay, time to get ready for bed. After saying that, Lin Xuan hugged Li Mengyao tightly and fell into a sweet dream together. Chapter 168. If my brother can do it, I can do it too. In the afternoon, Da Bao, who had been lying quietly in the crib, suddenly burst into tears. The cry seemed to be contagious. After hearing her sister's cry, Xiaobao also started crying loudly. Lin Xuan, who was sleeping, was awakened and quickly got up to check on the children. He checked the diaper first and found that there was no poop, so there was only one possibility: the baby was hungry. So he quickly picked up Da Bao and Xiaobao, walked towards Li Mengyao, and gently placed the two little guys beside her. Li Mengyao took the children skillfully, held them gently in her arms, and began to feed them. Lin Xuan also returned to bed and looked at his wife and children quietly, with a happy smile on his face. At this time, Li Mengyao said, "Hubby, Cici told me this morning that she ranked first in her grade in this exam." Lin Xuan smiled and said, "Yeah, maybe." His little brain suddenly opened up. You know, although Lin Cici's academic performance has always been good and she can consistently be ranked in the top 10 in the grade, she has never been in the top 3, let alone first place. Lin Xuan himself was a top student who had been ranked first in his grade for consecutive years. He was not surprised by his sister's performance this time. Li Mengyao smiled and said, "I feel like Cici might be the top scorer like you." Lin Xuan nodded in agreement. Of course, this is the best. Naturally, he hoped that Lin Cici could become the top scorer in the college entrance examination like himself and be admitted to Jinghe University, so that he would be able to take care of his sister conveniently in Jinghe City in the future. Said gently to his wife Li Mengyao, "The winter scenery at Jinghe University is so beautiful, I want to go there too." Li Mengyao looked at Lin Xuan with envy, her eyes flashing with longing. "My dear, you are still in confinement and cannot walk around casually." Lin Xuan gently stroked Li Mengyao's cheek and comforted her with a smile. "After you are out of confinement, let's go to Jinghe University together to enjoy the beautiful snow scenery." Okay, Li Mengyao nodded. After a while, seeing that Da Bao and Xiaobao were full, Lin Xuan carefully carried them back to the high-tech crib, and the two little guys soon fell asleep. Then, Lin Xuan returned to his room, changed into clean clothes, and then came to Lin Cici's door and knocked gently. "Cici?" Lin Xuan called softly. However, there was no response from the room. Lin Xuan hesitated for a moment, then gently pushed open the door and found his sister sleeping on the bed with her cute little face rosy. "Cici, get up quickly, I'll take you somewhere." Lin Xuan walked to the bed and gently shook Lin Cici's shoulders with his hand. His voice was soft and warm. "No, something bad must have happened," Lin Cici muttered, wrapping herself tightly in the quilt, unwilling to get up. "Not going? And you won't get any New Year's red envelope this year," Lin Xuan said. "Oh, you stinky old man. You're so annoying." Lin Cici had no choice but to crawl out of the warm bed, still muttering, "For the big red envelope." She endured it. One Chinese New Year red envelope can buy a lot of raw stones. Afterwards, Lin Xuan brought his reluctant sister to the parking lot downstairs. He looked at the 5 luxury cars in front of him, feeling a little conflicted, not knowing which one to choose. However, Lin Xuan finally decided to choose the Bentley Continental. Although he really wanted to drive a Lamborghini, he thought it would be too ostentatious to drive such a luxury car into school, so it would be better to keep a low profile. Sitting in the car, Lin Cici looked around excitedly. This was her first time riding in such a luxurious sports car and she was extremely excited. Not long after, they arrived at Jinghe University. The winter snow was falling, and the campus of Jinghe University was shrouded in a quiet and white world. The snowflakes fall gently on the branches, as beautiful as blooming pear blossoms. Falling on the grass, it seemed like a layer of silver frost covered the earth. Those well-arranged teaching buildings appear even more solemn and elegant against the backdrop of the white snow. Lin Xuan and Lin Cici walked carefully on the snow along the path in the campus. The snow under their feet made a crunching sound, echoing in the air along with their footsteps. The surrounding scenery is picturesque and intoxicating. Because it is close to the Chinese New Year, there are basically no people in the university. As Lin Xuan walked, he introduced every scenery and building on campus to his sister. Lin Cici listened attentively while admiring the beauty of Jinghe University. When they arrived at Jinghe Library, Lin Cici was shocked by the scene before her. The appearance of this library is majestic and gives people a solemn feeling. The stacked building structures look like piles of thick books, filled with a strong academic atmosphere. "Brother, is this where you met your sister-in-law?" Lin Cici asked. "Yes," Lin Xuan said without changing his expression. In fact, Lin Xuan rarely went to the library during his college years. "You can study in the dormitory just as well." Especially at the end of the semester, when I was tired of reviewing. I would just lie down on the bed and sleep. Lin Cece stood in front of the library, gazing up at the magnificent building, a determined light flashing in her eyes. She actually knew why her brother brought him to Jinghe University. He hoped that during the upcoming stressful second semester of senior year, he would motivate her to study hard, not be proud, consolidate her existing grades, and successfully be admitted to Jinghe University. Snowflakes fluttered down and sprinkled on Lin Cece's shoulders and hair. She raised her head and looked at the white sky above Jinghe University. The corners of her mouth rose slightly, revealing a confident smile. "Don't worry, brother, I will definitely be admitted to Jinghe University," she said softly, as if making a promise to Lin Xuan. "If my brother can do it, I can do it too." Lin Xuan looked at Lin Cece's serious expression and smiled with relief. After visiting Jinghe University, the two returned to the car, started the car and prepared to leave. Lin Xuan suddenly seemed to remember something and turned to ask Lin Cece, "Sister, have you bought new clothes for the new year?" Lin Cece shook her head and said, "Not yet. As soon as I got off work, I took my dad's car to Jinghe City." Lin Xuan smiled and said, "Let's go. I'll take you to buy it now." Lin Cece's eyes lit up when she heard this, and she said excitedly, "Really? That's great." She was laughing happily with a lovely smile on her face. Chapter 116. Scene. Even the talking is so similar. Lin Xuan drove his Bentley Continental to Jinwan Plaza. The two got out of the car together. "This is a commercial supermarket in a big city." Lin Cece looked at Jinwan Plaza in amazement and said excitedly, "It's really different from where we are." "Okay, stop sighing and go buy new clothes. I have to go back to accompany your sister-in-law later," Lin Xuan urged. "And why don't you accompany me, your sister? Am I not your biological sister?" Lin Cece pouted, looking dissatisfied. "You are stupid, sister," Lin Xuan responded mercilessly. "You are stupid." Lin Cece stomped her feet angrily, then swung her cute little ponytail and followed Lin Xuan closely. Afterwards, Lin Xuan took Lin Cece to the second floor of Jinwan Plaza, where many clothing stores of well-known brands are gathered. Lin Cece visited every store with great interest, picking out a few pieces of clothing in one store, then running to another store to pick out a few more. In the end, she actually bought 7 or 8 pieces of clothing in multiple stores. "Hey, sister, have you finished shopping?" Lin Xuan asked with a wry smile, carrying a pile of shopping bags helplessly. "My stupid brother," Lin Cece laughed triumphantly. "It's not over yet. I still need to buy new clothes for my sister-in-law and my parents." After saying that, Lin Cece walked into another clothing store. Every time Lin Xuan and Lin Cece entered a store, the clerk would immediately recognize that they were siblings. "Every time I say, 'You guys are brother and sister, right? You look so alike.'" Lin Xuan was thinking, "My sister looks silly and cute. How is she like me?" Lin Cece was thinking, "My brother looks like a wooden head. He is nothing like me." Finally, Lin Xuan couldn't help asking in a store, "How do you know we look alike?" As he said this, he looked at Lin Cece with disgust. Lin Cece also looked at Lin Xuan with disdain. The clerk said, "You two have exactly the same look in your eyes." Finally, Lin Xuan walked out of Jinwan Plaza carrying a dozen shopping bags. Lin Cece walked briskly in front, holding a cup of steaming hot taro balls and milk squeak tea in her hand. She drank it while urging her brother, "Stinky old man, hurry up. Come here. Little sister, I'll give you half." "No," Lin Cece stuck out her tongue playfully, with a happy smile on her face. At this moment, a familiar voice came from behind. "Brother Xuan, where are you with your sister?" Lin Xuan subconsciously looked back and saw Shu Quan standing not far away. "Quaner, come here. I have something to tell you. It's very important," Lin Xuan shouted to Shu Quan in a serious tone. When Shu Quan heard this, he quickly walked to Lin Xuan and asked curiously, "What's going on, so mysterious?" Lin Xuan did not answer, but directly stuffed the shopping bag in his hand into Shu Quan's arms. Shu Quan was a little breathless due to the sudden weight, but he still managed to catch it. "You called me here just to help you carry the shopping bags?" Shu Quan complained as he picked up the shopping bags with difficulty. "Yes," Lin Xuan nodded without hesitation. "Brother, who is this?" Lin Cece looked at Shu Quan and asked curiously. "This is my college roommate Shu Quan. He is now the manager of a restaurant here," Lin Xuan introduced. "Hello, Cece." Shu Quan greeted Lin Cece in a friendly manner. He knew during college that Lin Xuan had a younger sister named Lin Cece. "Hello, brother Quan." Lin Cece responded politely. Shu Quan looked at the brother and sister in front of him carefully and couldn't help but sigh, "You two really look alike." "Not at all," Lin Xuan and Lin Cece said in unison. "Look, even the way they talk is so similar." After Lin Xuan and Shu Quan moved the shopping bags to the trunk of the Bentley Continental, Lin Xuan invited Shu Quan to his house for dinner. But Shu Quan said that it was almost the Chinese New Year and he was going to go home for dinner, so the restaurant was closed. He also told Lin Sisi that if she was admitted to Tsinghua University, she could come to Xuan Meng restaurant for free meals. Lin Sisi was so happy the restaurant owner is your brother anyway. The two then drove back to Jinwan Prefecture. Lin Xuan returned home carrying a dozen shopping bags. Why did you buy so many clothes? When Shan Shulan saw the shopping bags in Lin Xuan's hand, she hurried forward to help take a few of them while speaking. They were all bought by Sisi. Lin Xuan smiled helplessly and said, Sisi, we already have enough clothes at home. Why are you buying so many? Shang Shulan looked at Lin Sisi with some resentment and said, Didn't I buy yours? Lin Sisi said with a smile and then began to open the shopping bags one by one. This is the shirt I bought for Dad, a down jacket for Mom, the sweater for Aunt Fang, and a skirt for sister-in-law. Lin Sisi picked out each item one by one and kept introducing them. Shang Shulan watched from the side with a happy smile on her face and a warm heart. Lin Xuan took Li Mengyao's clothes and went to the master bedroom. Wife, I bought you some clothes, Lin Xuan said with a smile. At this time, Li Mengyao was holding Da Bao and coaxing her to sleep. Sisi bought it, right? Li Mengyao turned around and saw her husband and smiled slightly. Wife, how do you know? Lin Xuan asked. Us now Sisi asked me on WeChat what clothes I wanted. I said no, so she took pictures and let me choose one by one. Li Mengyao put Da Bao in the high-tech crib and came to Lin Xuan. And try it on and see if it fits you, Lin Xuan said gently. Li Mengyao took the clothes and said with a smile. Then she began to try them on one by one, and each one made her look particularly charming. Although her body is still a little chubby after giving birth, this does not affect her beauty, but adds a different charm. As night fell, Lin Xuan began to prepare dinner. Because Li Mengyao is still in confinement, he decided to make a clear soup mutton hot pot for his family. Tender lamb paired with piping hot pot. On a cold night, the whole family sits together and shares the delicious food. Chapter 170 Bedtime Story. After dinner, the family came to the living room, turned on the TV and enjoyed their leisure time. Li Mengyao snuggled up to Lin Xuan with a happy smile on her face. Wow! Suddenly, a baby crying sound came from the master bedroom, and Da Bao and Xiao Bao started crying. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao quickly stood up and rushed to the bedroom. Don't cry. Don't cry, Mom is here. Li Mengyao coaxed the children lovingly. She picked up Da Bao and Xiao Bao and rocked them gently. Then she walked over to the bed and sat down, ready to feed the babies. Lin Xuan stood quietly aside, watching all this. Suddenly Xiao Bao vomited the milk while drinking. Honey, why is Xiao Bao spitting up milk? Is he feeling uncomfortable? Li Mengyao asked nervously. After seeing this, Lin Xuan quickly explained. No, this means that Xiao Bao is full and can't drink anymore. Then, he carefully carried the younger baby back to the crib, leaving the older baby still happily drinking milk. Seeing Da Bao's satisfied look, Li Mengyao couldn't help laughing. It seems that our Da Bao has a big appetite. Soon, Da Bao was full and Lin Xuan put her back in the crib. After drinking their fill, the two little guys fell asleep quietly again, with happy smiles on their faces. After feeding her baby, Li Mengyao felt her body a little sticky, so she got up and went to the bathroom to take a shower. Lin Xuan came to the crib and played with Da Bao and Xiao Bao. He gently touched Da Bao's little face, flicked Xiao Bao's little butt, and had a lot of fun. I forgot about time. Husband, stop playing, the children need to go to bed. After hearing the voice, Lin Xuan subconsciously looked back. Li Mengyao was seen walking out of the bathroom slowly, wearing a loose pajamas. But it could not hide her graceful figure. There is not a single flaw in her face, it is as delicate as a work of art. Now Li Mengyao has gradually recovered her energy and blood, and she looks more and more energetic. Seeing this, Lin Xuan raised the corners of his mouth slightly, walked forward quickly, hugged Li Mengyao tightly in his arms, and then gently kissed her delicate cheek. Wife, you are so beautiful. Li Mengyao's cheeks flushed slightly, and she said angrily, you're so talkative. As she spoke, she raised her head and her eyes fell on Lin Xuan's face. Suddenly she noticed that Lin Xuan's lips seemed a little dry. Honey, why do your lips look a little dry? Really? Kiss it and feel it. Lin Xuan's mouth corners slightly raised, revealing a sly smile. Then he lowered his head and kissed Li Mengyao's cherry lips. However, Li Mengyao clearly felt that his lips were a little dry. Honey, you need to put on some lipstick. Li Mengyao pushed Lin Xuan away slightly and said softly. No, Lin Xuan said stubbornly like a child. No, wait a minute, husband. After saying that, Li Mengyao gently broke away from Lin Xuan's warm embrace and walked to the cabinet beside the bed with light steps. She opened the drawer, took out a bottle of lipstick, and came to Lin Xuan and prepared to apply lipstick on him. But Lin Xuan kept resisting. Li Mengyao had no choice but to apply it on her mouth first, and then kissed Lin Xuan's lips. Honey, you've covered both sides of my face with lipstick. Lin Xuan pointed at his cheek with an indulgent smile on his face. It's because you don't want to apply lipstick yourself. The weather is dry in winter, and your lips will crack if you don't apply lipstick, Li Mengyao said softly. Lin Xuan nodded. He took Li Mengyao's little hand, walked to the bed and sat down together. Wife, do you want to have a midnight snack today? Lin Xuan asked gently. Li Mengyao smiled slightly. Yes. I want to eat papaya stewed with milk today. Okay, wife, wait for me. Lin Xuan said gently. And he left the master bedroom and went to the kitchen to start preparing ingredients. Papaya stewed with milk has the effect of beautifying and nourishing the skin. Lin Xuan skillfully peeled and cut the papaya into pieces, then added milk and dropped sugar and stewed it in a pot. Soon, a rich aroma of milk and papaya filled the air. Lin Xuan carefully served out the stewed milk papaya and brought it back to the room. Come, let your husband feed you. Lin Xuan picked up the spoon, blew it gently, and then put it to Li Mengyao's mouth. Li Mengyao opened her mouth slightly and accepted the feeding from her husband. She savored the delicious dessert with a happy smile on her face. My husband's desserts are also delicious, Li Mengyao said happily, her eyes curved with smile. Soon, after Li Mengyao had finished eating, Lin Xuan returned to the kitchen with the bowl. And he returned to the room, climbed onto the bed and lay side by side with Li Mengyao. Because Li Mengyao cannot look at the phone for a long time during her confinement period, so Lin Xuan hugged her gently and told her a bedtime story. Once upon a time there was a mountain. In the mountain there was a temple. In the temple there was an old monk and a young monk. Stop, husband, you are coaxing a 3-year-old child. Change to something more interesting. Li Mengyao covered Lin Xuan's mouth with her small hands and said, "Coquette this lie." Well, once upon a time there was a mountain. Lin Xuan gently took Li Mengyao's little hand away, smiled and continued telling the story. Li Mengyao. Chapter 171. My husband smells so good. The next morning, sunlight shone through the window onto the bed, and Lin Xuan gently hugged Li Mengyao. His left hand rested under Li Mengyao's neck, and his right hand tightly embraced her waist, holding her whole body tightly in his arms. Since Li Mengyao fell asleep first last night, she woke up first this morning. Li Mengyao slowly opened her beautiful eyes and saw her husband's solid chest at first glance. If someone asked Li Mengyao what is the happiest thing now, of course, I can see my beloved husband as soon as I open my eyes every day. Thinking of this, her face was filled with happiness and a sweet smile. Then, she started to act mischievously, raising her slender fingers and gently stroking Lin Xuan's face. With a sly smile, she muttered, "Look, I'm going to turn you into a big cat." Just when Li Mengyao got tired of playing and was about to get up, she was suddenly pulled back by Lin Xuan. Li Mengyao was caught off guard and fell directly on Lin Xuan. "Wife, we had a lot of fun just now." Lin Xuan had a sly smile on his face. "Let me go first. I want." However, Lin Xuan didn't give his wife a chance to continue speaking. Li Mengyao no longer struggled, but obediently opened her mouth and enjoyed responding to Lin Xuan's kiss. "Wife, what did you want to say just now?" Lin Xuan asked with a smile as he looked at Li Mengyao. "I want to go to the bathroom." Li Mengyao hurriedly sat up from Lin Xuan and walked quickly towards the bathroom. The passionate kiss just now made her forget about going to the toilet. After entering the bathroom, Li Mengyao looked at herself carefully in the mirror. She gently stroked her slightly swollen lips, a hint of shyness on her face. A moment later, Li Mengyao came out of the bathroom angrily, pointed her little finger at her slightly swollen lips, and said to Lin Xuan, "Coquette this lie. Stinky husband, look at what you have done." Lin Xuan lay on the bed with his hands leisurely resting behind his head, revealing a sly smile. Li Mengyao was still a little angry. She climbed onto the bed again, lay on Lin Xuan, and gently tickled him with her little hands, wanting to take revenge. Lin Xuan was so amused that he burst into laughter and begged for mercy repeatedly. Finally, Lin Xuan got up and started packing his clothes. Li Mengyao lay on the bed, supporting her body with one hand, and asked in confusion, "Husband, where are you going?" "I forgot to tell you yesterday that Jinwan Technology Company is holding its annual summary meeting today, and I have to attend." Lin Xuan spoke as he picked clothes from the closet. When Li Mengyao heard this, she immediately got out of bed and ran to Lin Xuan, saying with a smile, "Then let me help you dress up." As she spoke, she opened the closet, took out a suit she had bought for Lin Xuan before, and began to help Lin Xuan put it on. Considering the cold weather outside, she put another coat on Lin Xuan. Lin Xuan stood in front of the mirror, looking at his clothes with satisfaction. Then, Li Mengyao pulled Lin Xuan to sit in front of the dressing table and carefully took care of his hairstyle. Lin Xuan closed his eyes and quietly enjoyed his wife's care. After a while, Li Mengyao put down the comb in her hand and nodded with satisfaction. "Okay, now you look very handsome." "Wow. After my manipulation, the frog instantly turned into a prince," Li Mengyao said with a smug smile on her face. Honey, I'm a prince, okay?" Lin Xuan turned around and hugged Li Mengyao with a smile on his lips. "Huh, what a narcissist." Li Mengyao laughed even more happily. Finally, Li Mingyao stood on tiptoe, gently kissed Lin Xuan's cheek, and said, "Hubby, remember to come back early." "Okay baby." Lin Xuan responded by kissing Li Mingyao on the forehead, then walked to the crib. Carefully picked up Da Baomo and Xiaobao, and gently kissed their little faces. "Dad has to go to work, you must be good and obedient at home," Lin Xuan said softly to the two little ones. However, Da Bao and Xiaobao still squinted their eyes and continued to be immersed in sweet dreams. Then Lin Xuan put Da Bao and Xiaobao back into the crib, turned around and left the room, walked out of the house, and came to the parking lot downstairs. He looked at the cool Lamborghini Lightning, and decided to save it for when he and his wife drive it together. Then, Lin Xuan got into the Maybach, started the engine, slowly drove out of the parking lot, and headed towards Jinwan Technology Co. Limited. Chapter 170. To thank you for your hard work, keep up the hard work. Not long after, a slender Maybach with a completely black body slowly drove into the gate of Jinwan Technology Co. Limited. Coincidentally, the security guard on duty today was the one who had stopped Lin Xuan outside the door before. The security guard noticed Lin Xuan's car early on, raised the railing in advance, and saluted Lin Xuan respectfully. "MRLN, good morning," the security guard shouted. Lin Xuan nodded slightly, with a slight smile on his face in response. After parking the car, Lin Xuan, wearing a well-tailored and well-made suit, took firm and powerful steps and walked straight into the lobby of Jinwan Technology Co. Limited. "MRLN, good morning." The front desk receptionist was a pretty young woman. She lowered her head and greeted softly. "Good morning," Lin Xuan replied with a smile, and then continued walking towards the elevator. After Lin Xuan walked away, the front desk receptionist quickly took out his mobile phone from his pocket and tapped the screen rapidly. The Jinwan Technology gossip group suddenly became lively. "Oh my god, I saw Mr. Lin at work today, he is so handsome." "Really? Where? Tell me now." "He has just entered the elevator, he is even more handsome in person than in the photo, he is young and promising." "What are we waiting for? Let's go take the elevator and take a look." Lin Xuan doesn't come to the company very often, but there has always been a legend in the company that the chairman is a young and handsome guy. The new female employees who joined later were full of curiosity about the mysterious chairman. Lin Xuan walked into the elevator and pressed the button for the 6th floor. However, every time they arrived at a floor, some young female employees would walk into the elevator and greet Lin Xuan with a smile. "Good morning, MRLN." Lin Xuan also smiled and responded one by one, "Good morning." Because Lin Xuan was tall, he even caught a glimpse of several female employees chatting on WeChat. "So handsome." "Yeah, unfortunately I heard that she's already married." "No way, I've broken up before I even fell in love." When the elevator reached the 5th floor, the female employees walked out of the elevator one after another, leaving Lin Xuan with an awkward smile on his face. Afterwards, Lin Xuan came to the chairman's office on the 6th floor. He gently pushed open the door and saw that everything in the room was tidy. Clean and tidy, he nodded with great satisfaction. He came to the boss's office chair and just sat down when he heard a knock on the door. "Come in." The door opened and Shusiyu walked in wearing an exquisite professional suit. She was tall and slender, and her clothes cleverly accentuated her curvaceous curves. "Director Lin, this is the summary material for the annual summary meeting later, please take a look." Shusiyu placed a stack of documents in front of Lin Xuan. "Okay. Thank you for your hard work during this period," Lin Xuan said with a smile. "It's not hard. You negotiated a big project for the company, that's really hard work." Shusiyu answered with a smile, then turned gracefully, walked to the side, made a cup of hot tea for Lin Xuan, and gently placed it on the table. Lin Xuan nodded to express his gratitude, and picked up the teacup, slowly savoring the fragrance of the tea while concentrating on reading the materials in his hand. "MRLN, if there is nothing else, I will go to prepare for the annual meeting room first," Shusiyu said softly. "Okay. Thank you for your help," Lin Xuan replied gently. After a while, before Lin Xuan finished watching, Shusiyu returned to the office again and reported to Lin Xuan, "Director Lin, the meeting room is ready." "Okay. Let's go." Lin Xuan stood up and went to the conference room with Shusiyu. They walked into the conference room, which was spacious, bright and neatly arranged. Li Yuan was waiting for Lin Xuan to arrive at the door. Then Lin Xuan and Li Yuan walked to the front podium and sat down. "A 2025 annual meeting begins now," Li Yuan announced. The entire conference room suddenly became quiet, and everyone was looking forward to this important meeting. This year, under the leadership of Lin Xuan and Li Yuan, Jinwan Technology Company exceeded its annual revenue target and successfully negotiated a large project in the capital. As a result, the entire company received a generous year-end bonus, and even new employees could receive bonuses of more than 100,000 yuan. In addition, employees' performance wages increased by another 10. Today, Lin Xuan and Li Yuan have become the most respected leaders in the eyes of all employees. When Zhu Xiyu introduced Chairman Lin Zhuan to everyone, thunderous applause immediately broke out from the audience. Immediately afterwards, Lin Zhuan and Liu Wen began to listen to the work summary and results presentation of each department. At the same time, Yu Xian took on the role of photographer and photographed this important meeting from 4 different angles. After the shooting, she also shared these precious photos with Li Mengyao. Li Mengyao looked at her husband holding a notebook, looking focused and serious, and couldn't help but smile. I don't know what to record in a notebook. It won't be something like, yes, 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 or something like that. After each department finished their reports, Li Wen, as the company's general manager, stepped onto the podium and began to elaborate on the company's future development plans and strategic layout. At lunchtime, Lin Zhuan did not choose to go home for lunch, but went to the company cafeteria with Liu Wen. As the chairman of the company, he has never eaten in the company cafeteria. Lin Zhuan and Liu Wen came to the cafeteria and looked at the various kinds of delicious food neatly arranged in the window. The variety was dazzling and mouthwatering. There are not only traditional Chinese restaurants here, but also authentic Chinese dishes. There is also an exquisite Western restaurant serving a variety of Western cuisine. In addition, there are dessert areas, beverage areas, fruit areas, etc. to meet the needs of employees for different tastes. The entire canteen adopts a buffet dining model, allowing employees to freely choose their favorite food. After lunch, Lin Zhuan rested in the office for a while and then continued the annual summary meeting. A first event in the afternoon was the award ceremony. Zhu Xiyu announced, "The award ceremony will now officially begin. Chairman Lin Zhuan is invited to come on stage to present the awards to the winners." The atmosphere was lively and everyone was looking forward to it for a long time. As the host's voice fell, Lin Zhuan stood up and walked steadily to the podium. A first award was announced, the winner of the 2024 Best Department toward his Research and Development Department. There was thunderous applause from the audience, and the RD team members cheered excitedly. At this time, a familiar figure stood up from his seat and walked towards the podium with a smile on his face. This person is Zhang Zesheng, the current RD manager, who was also promoted by Lin Zhuan. Lin Zhuan smiled and stretched out his hand, tightly holding Zhang Zesheng's hand, and said gently, "Thank you for your hard work, keep up the hard work." Then, the two of them took a photo together facing the camera. Outside of this, no one would have thought that these two were college roommates. The second award was announced. The winner of the 2024 Best Employee Award is Zhang Zesheng. As the manager of the RD department and the company's technical leader, it is reasonable for him to win the Best Employee Award. So, Zhang Zesheng stood up from his seat again, with the corners of his mouth slightly raised, and walked towards the podium. Lin Zhuan still kept smiling, gently held his hand, and said gently, "Thank you for your hard work. Keep up the hard work." The third award was announced. The winner of the 2024 Best Newcomer Award is Zhang Zesheng. Zhang Zesheng stood up from his seat again, and walked towards the podium with a bright smile on his face, and he couldn't suppress the smile at all. Lin Zhuan, "Oh my god. Why are you here again?" Zhang Zesheng, "You didn't expect it, brother Zhuan. It's me again." Chapter 173 Chairman Lin, come on. Lin Zhuan still kept smiling, gently held his hand, and said softly, "You are quite thick-skinned. You won 3 awards by yourself." Zhang Zesheng smiled proudly and said, "Hey, I meet all the requirements." After all the awards were presented, the next thing was the company dinner. Li Wen had already booked the banquet hall of Kaili Hotel in advance. Kaili Hotel is a famous high-end hotel in Jinghe City with elegant environment, thoughtful service and very expensive price. This year's annual dinner is actually held at the famous Kaili Hotel, an employee said excitedly. Another employee went on to say, "I remember last year's annual dinner was held in the company cafeteria. This year, we changed the chairman, and things got better all of a sudden." Someone else chimed in, "I've never eaten in such a fancy hotel before." Employees praised the new chairman's generosity and magnanimity, and were full of expectations for the future. A dinner was served in a buffet style, offering a variety of food options, including Chinese and Western cuisine. The restaurant is divided into several areas, such as cold dish area, hot dish area, seafood area, barbecue area and dessert area. The dishes are rich and varied, making people salivate. For example, the steamed grouper is tender and juicy, the grilled salmon exudes an alluring aroma, the Wellington steak is tender and smooth with crispy pastry, the Alaskan king crab is delicious and rich in flavor, the Boston lobster is even more appetizing. The employees tasted the delicious food and enjoyed this sumptuous dinner. Lin Zhuan and Liu Wen sat together at a dining table. Lin Zhuan smiled and said, "Mr. Liu, the company can operate so smoothly this year, all thanks to your excellent management." He raised his glass to show his respect to Liu Wen. Liu Wen responded modestly, "It is all because of the big project that you, MRLN, successfully negotiated in the capital, that we were able to achieve such results." Lin Xuan said with emotion. In fact, if it weren't for the company's strong strength as a backing, it would be difficult for me to negotiate this project in the future. Let us work together. After that, he raised his glass to signal Yu Wen. Yu Wen also quickly raised his glass to clink with Lin Xuan's, and drank it all in one gulp. And Lin Xuan took out his cell phone and sent a message to his wife Li Mengyao. Wife, I may not be back so soon tonight, you go to sleep first. Okay then, husband, don't come back too late. Li Mengyao was a little disappointed, but still replied with understanding. I'll try to be there earlier, Lin Xuan promised. After reporting, Lin Xuan continued to eat dinner. MRLN, our company is thriving now. Do you think we should consider expansion? This way we can expand the company's scale and further increase our market share, Liu Wen suggested enthusiastically. Lin Xuan smiled and nodded. Well, this is a good idea, but let's wait until after the new year. Then we can discuss the specific plan in detail. Indeed, with the continuous expansion of the company's business, the existing venue can no longer meet the demand. The expansion will not only provide more office space, but also enhance the company's image and competitiveness, thereby further expanding its market share. After the dinner, the much-anticipated lucky draw session followed. This time the company has prepared generous prizes. The most eye-catching one is the special prize, a Mercedes-Benz sedan worth about 500,000 yuan. A first prize is Apple's latest family bucket, with 5 winners and a total price of about 250,000 yuan. The second prize is a Dyson high-end home appliance package, with a total of 10 places and a total price of about 200,000 yuan. The third prize is a Leica Q2 camera. There are 15 places in total, of the total price of approximately RMB 150,000. In addition, there is a special award set up by the company, and the winner will receive a voucher for 30 days of paid vacation. Every employee has a chance to enter the lottery, which undoubtedly makes everyone excited. However, Lin Xuan and Liu Wen, as management, did not participate in this lively lottery event but left the opportunity to their employees. They hope to express their gratitude and encouragement to their employees for their hard work in this way. Next, the employees began to draw the lottery happily, with an expectant smile on everyone's face. Every employee who won a prize had a smile of happiness and joy on his face. The grand prize, a Mercedes-Benz sedan, was won by a young male employee. He was so excited that he almost jumped up, unable to suppress his joy. At the same time, Liu Yuxin was also lucky enough to win the company's special prize, a voucher for 30 days of paid vacation. She was so happy that she couldn't stop smiling and immediately shared it with Li Mengyao. Liu Yuxin excitedly said to Li Mengyao, "Yao Yao, look what I won, 30 days of paid vacation." Li Mengyao smiled and replied, "That's great. You can come and help me take care of the baby." Liu Yuxin asked in surprise, "How about we go traveling together? Let Lin Xuan take care of the baby." Li Mengyao teased, "Is there anyone who is as good as you as a godmother?" Liu Yuxin. After the lucky draw, the next step was the employee talent show. First there was a wonderful performance of songs, and the first song was a rap song called, "I'm Not Going to Work Tomorrow." The song instantly ignited the atmosphere and triggered laughter and applause from the employees below the stage. The singers sang with great passion, and the humor and self-mockery in the lyrics made everyone feel very familiar, as if they were singing out everyone's desire to be released from work pressure and to be free. Then, a dance feast was presented on the stage. There are elegant folk dances, where dancers wear gorgeous traditional costumes and dance gracefully, showing their unique style. There was also hot street dance, and the dancers conquered the audience with their superb skills and passionate movements, winning warm applause. After the dance performance, a skit performance began. This time it was a skit remake of "We're Not Short of Money" performed by Zhang Zesheng. He played the role of Shen Yang, and his imitation was not very similar, it was exactly the same. The exaggerated expressions and humorous language made the audience laugh so hard that the whole event reached a climax. After Zhang Zesheng's performance, Lin Xuan was a little confused when he saw that he did not leave the stage. Zhang Zesheng picked up the microphone and said with a bright smile on his face, "Thank you very much for your love for our skit program." At this moment, Zhang Zesheng changed the subject and his tone became excited. But what's next is the real climax. Lin Xuan suddenly had a bad feeling. He looked at Zhang Zesheng and found that the other party's eyes were directed at him, with a cunning light flashing in his eyes. "What does this rebel want to do?" Zhang Zesheng continued. "I heard that our beloved director Lin not only sings very well, but also plays the piano very well. Do you want to hear MRLN sing?" Zhang Zesheng shouted. As soon as he finished speaking, cheers and applause broke out at the banquet. Everyone shouted in unison. Think! This sudden shout instantly set off the entire banquet room, and everyone focused their expectant eyes on Lin Xuan. The employees of Jinwan Technology Company started to make a fuss. "Chairman Lin, come on! Chairman Lin, come on! Chairman Lin, come on!" Chapter 170. For I believe so much. Lin Xuan saw that the atmosphere in front of him had been pushed to the extreme and he really couldn't refuse. So he stood up resolutely and walked onto the stage with firm steps. First, he shook hands with Song Zhesheng warmly, with a smile in his eyes. As they shook hands, Lin Xuan whispered, You actually cheated me. Song Zhesheng laughed and responded, Brother Xuan, I have seen your previous TikTok videos, please play a song for our employees to encourage them. Lin Xuan smiled helplessly and said, I'll settle the score with you later. Then he held Song Zhesheng's hand tightly. After letting go, Song Zhesheng felt a pain in his palm and couldn't help but sigh. Brother Xuan, you are really strong. Then Lin Xuan took the microphone and said to everyone with a smile, Since everyone wants to hear it so much, I will show my ugliness. Next, I'd like to bring you a classic song by Jay Chu, I believe so much. After saying that, he walked gracefully to the piano that had been prepared long ago, sat down slowly, and adjusted himself to a comfortable posture. At this moment, the soft stage lights poured down, caressing his figure like moonlight, illuminating his handsome face. The young female employees in the audience couldn't help but watch with fascination. Even Liu Yuxian couldn't help but take a few more glances. No wonder her best friend is so fascinated by Lin Xuan. He is indeed very handsome, but what is more attractive is the temperament he exudes, which makes people feel very comfortable. However, Liu Yuxian still tried to wake herself up and kept telling herself, I'm just here to help Yao record the video. Don't think too much. Then she slapped her little face, trying to stay awake. Then she took out her cell phone and started recording Lin Xuan. Soon, Lin Xuan's fingers lightly touched the keys, and beautiful notes instantly flowed out from the piano as if bells were jumping. Then, his soulful voice joined in, as if bringing people into a romantic world. The perfect combination of singing and piano makes people feel an indescribable emotion. The birds left the forest. A whole sky is very discouraged. Butterflies are no longer attracted. The roses are blooming quietly. The only thing that can be destroyed in a story is the scenery. No one can destroy our dreams. Meteorites travel in the vast universe. The night sky is full of crystals. My prayers were finally answered. I believe it so much. You are the one who supports me from behind, always walking with me. Look up and wait for the sun to rise. Hear the sound of the birds returning. You are the one who is waiting for me. It gave me strong confidence. Ants playing the dawn. Love sounds so beautiful. After the performance, Lin Xuan slowly stood up, and slowly turned around, facing the audience with a faint smile on his face. At this moment, the entire venue was silent and quiet. Everyone was immersed in Lin Xuan's performance and singing, unable to extricate themselves. Their eyes were filled with amazement and emotion, as if they were conquered by Lin Xuan's music. After a full minute, someone finally came to his senses and started clapping. The applause was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, causing a chain reaction. Soon after, more people began to applaud, and for a moment, thunderous applause broke out from the audience. Wow, Chairman Lin's singing is so beautiful, someone couldn't help but exclaim. It's like a concert. Echoed another. This has completely reached the level of the top domestic singers, someone else said excitedly. Liu Yuxian was also deeply shocked. She didn't expect that Lin Xuan was also a talented musician. Lin Xuan raised his hands slightly, signaling everyone to stop applauding. But the crowd remained enthusiastic and continued to applaud, as if they wanted to convey their inner excitement and admiration to him through applause. After a long while, the applause gradually subsided. Lin Xuan picked up the microphone again. His voice clear and firm. This song, I believe so much, is actually dedicated to my wife. His eyes were cast gently into the distance, as if he saw the person he loved deeply. There was a burst of surprised shouts from the audience. Everyone ate a lot of dog food for no apparent reason. Then Lin Xuan continued. In fact, none of us is isolated and helpless. Behind each of us, there is a family silently supporting us. They believe in us so much. This trust and support is the most precious source of motivation for us to move forward. I have a wife who always supports me silently. She has always been by my side and has given me firm confidence. I am grateful for her belief in me. At the same time, this song is also for everyone. I hope everyone can believe in the company, work together, contribute their own strength to the development of the company, let it continue to prosper and create more brilliant achievements. Lin Xuan spoke passionately, his voice echoing throughout the venue, triggering strong resonance among the audience. Afterwards, thunderous applause broke out from the audience again and lasted for a long time. At night, the clock struck 12. Lin Xuan, who had just finished the company's annual meeting, quietly opened the door of his home. However, as soon as he entered the door, a petite body immediately crawled into his arms, and the familiar warmth and charming fragrance made his heart warm. Honey, thank you for your hard work. Welcome home. Li Mengyao raised her head with a sweet smile on her lips. Didn't your husband tell you to go to bed first? I don't want you to be bothered by the smell of alcohol on me. Lin Xuan looked at the little woman in front of him with heartache and reached out to gently push her away. However, Li Mengyao hugged Lin Xuan tightly and refused to let go. No, I like the smell of my husband. She blinked her big eyes and said seriously. Even if it smells of alcohol, I still like it. I like everything about my husband. Li Mengyao smiled, with a gentle light in her eyes. At this moment, Lin Xuan only felt warm in his heart, as if he was surrounded by a warm current. He hugged Li Mengyao tightly, with a happy smile on his face. Chapter 175, Damn hubby, who are you calling the ghost? Honey, I prepared some honey water to help you sober up, Li Mengyao said softly, her voice gentle and sweet. Afterwards, Li Mengyao gently left Lin Xuan's arms. She took Lin Xuan's hand and led him to the restaurant. The two sat at the dining table, and Lin Xuan watched Li Mengyao walk into the kitchen quietly. Not long after, Li Mengyao came out of the kitchen with a cup of steaming honey water in her hand. She carefully placed the cup on the dining table, and then gently said to Lin Xuan, "Drink it quickly." Lin Xuan took the cup and felt the warmth in his hands. He took a sip of the honey water and immediately felt a sweet taste spreading in his mouth. The sweet taste flowed down his throat into his stomach, giving him a feeling of comfort and relief. "It's delicious. Did your wife make it herself?" Lin Xuan asked with a smile, his eyes sparkling with happiness. "What else?" Li Mengyao put her hands on her hips, straightened her chest, and puffed out her cheeks. She looked extremely cute. "My wife is awesome," Lin Xuan praised, and continued drinking tons of it. It was finished in a short while. "Honey, look at what number this is." Li Mengyao gently shook Lin Xuan's arm and asked Cocathus Lai. She raised a fair and slender little hand and slowly raised a finger in front of Lin Xuan. Lin Xuan narrowed his eyes slightly, with a faint smile on his lips. He answered slowly, "1." However, just as Lin Xuan opened his mouth to speak, Li Mengyao's little hand suddenly changed. She quickly changed her fingers from 1 to 2 and winked playfully. "Tsk tsk tsk. It seems my husband is quite drunk." Li Mengyao smiled mischievously, with a cunning light flashing in her eyes. "It's so funny to see my drunk husband being teased by me." Lin Xuan looked at Li Mengyao's cute appearance, his heart filled with doting. "It was obviously you who suddenly changed your fingers," Lin Xuan said with a smile. "Nonsense? Do you want another drink?" Li Mengyao asked gently. "No, I don't drink much," Lin Xuan said with a smile. "No, I worked hard to make this, and my husband has to drink it," Li Mengyao said firmly, with a hint of determination in her tone. After saying that, Li Mengyao turned and walked into the kitchen. After a while, she brought out a large cup of honey water that exuded a sweet aroma. "How can I drink so much?" Lin Xuan said helplessly as he looked at the full glass of honey water in front of him. "Let's go to the sofa in the living room and drink slowly. This will be a good opportunity for you to cool off. You can take a shower later," Li Mengyao said softly. After saying that, she held Lin Xuan's hand tightly and walked towards the sofa in the living room together. The two of them lay on the comfortable sofa. Li Mengyao leaned on Lin Xuan's shoulder like a lazy kitten, happily watching Duyan. "Wife, aren't you sleepy?" Lin Xuan asked softly. Li Mengyao forced a smile with sleepy eyes. "I'm not sleepy." In fact, she had already closed her eyes, but she just didn't want Lin Xuan to know how tired she was. Lin Xuan looked at Li Mengyao's first appearance and said distressed, "Lie, you go to sleep first. I will come to accompany you after I take a shower." "Well, okay, then come earlier." Li Mengyao yawned lightly, then stood up and slowly walked towards the bedroom. Lin Xuan sat quietly in the living room for about an hour. When the effects of the alcohol had almost worn off, he walked into the room cautiously. He saw Li Mengyao lying quietly on the bed, seemingly soundly asleep. Then, Lin Xuan turned and walked into the bathroom, turned on the shower, and started taking a shower. The sound of water drops falling on the ground reached Li Mengyao's ears. In fact, Li Mengyao did not really fall asleep. She was waiting for Lin Xuan's hug. After all, it's sweeter to sleep with your husband in your arms. However, she wanted to give Lin Xuan a surprise, so she chose to continue pretending to sleep in bed. Finally, the sound of bath water stopped. Lin Xuan walked out of the bathroom, dried his body, put on his pajamas, then tiptoed to the bed and looked down at Li Mengyao. Although Lin Xuan was very eager to fall asleep with his wife in his arms, there was still some smell of alcohol on his body, and he was worried that this would make his wife feel uncomfortable. So he just gently left a gentle kiss on Li Mengyao's forehead, then turned and left the master bedroom and went to the study to sleep. At this time, Li Mengyao thought her husband went to the living room to get something, but after waiting for a long time, her husband still did not come back. She sat up quickly and looked around for what was going on. "Where's my husband?" Then she quickly got out of bed and walked out of the room. It was pitch black in front of her, with only a faint moonlight shining into the room. After Li Mengyao turned on the light in the living room, she quickly noticed that the door of the study was closed. Normally, this door is rarely closed and no one should sleep in the study. So, Li Mengyao tiptoed to the door of the study and opened it carefully. With the help of the light, she was surprised to find that her husband was sleeping soundly on the small bed in the study. Li Mengyao was so angry that it seemed like smoke was coming out of her little head. She quickly walked to the bed and slapped Ling Xuan's butt hard without any hesitation. What the hell? It's a ghost. Ling Xuan suddenly felt someone hit his, but as there was no light in the room, he only saw a dark shadow standing beside the bed. He was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. Damn husband, who are you saying is the ghost? Li Mengyao said Kokatha lie. At this time, Ling Xuan used the light from outside to see clearly that the figure seemed to be his wife. Wife, aren't you asleep? Ling Xuan said as he reached out and touched Li Mengyao's little face. And why don't you come back to sleep? Li Mengyao pouted and bit Ling Xuan's shoulder directly. Wife, it hurts. Ling Xuan couldn't help but scream out. Confirmed, it is his wife. Why do you want to sleep in the study? Li Mengyao was still angry and asked with a dissatisfied look on her face. I still smell of alcohol and I'm afraid it will make you uncomfortable. Ling Xuan explained. After listening to Ling Xuan's explanation, Li Mengyao remained silent. Then he raised his two little hands and tickled Ling Xuan's waist frantically. Ling Xuan was tickled so hard that he laughed out loud. He had no power to fight back and could only beg for mercy. Wife, stop it. I surrender. Suddenly, the light in the study came on. I say, can you guys keep your voices down? Are you going to let the single guy sleep? Lin Cece appeared in front of the study room wearing cute cartoon animal pajamas. Chapter 176 Mom. Am I your biological child? Since Cece's room was right next to the study, the noise of Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao fighting in the study still woke Cece up. I'm sorry, Cece, for disturbing your sleep actually, Li Mengyao said with a little apology. Sister-in-law, you don't have to explain, I understand. Lin Cece raised her little hand to stop Li Mengyao from continuing. Then looked at the two of them. It's all my brother's fault, Lin Cece said seriously. Lin Xuan looked at his sister in surprise. What was going on? It must be my brother who bullied you, Lin Cece continued. Brother, you are not allowed to bully my sister-in-law, or I will tell Mom tomorrow. Lin Cece waved her little pink fist at Lin Xuan threateningly. CCU. Lin Xuan was about to open his mouth to explain, but before he could finish, Lin Cece ran back to her room with her legs clattering. Lin Xuan looked at his sister's departing back and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. When did my sister's arm become crooked? At the same time, Li Mengyao turned around and looked at Lin Xuan fiercely. With a commanding tone, husband, go back to sleep. Okay. Lin Xuan quickly got up from the bed in the study, took Li Mengyao's little hand, and followed her back to his room obediently like a child who had done something wrong. As soon as the two of them lay down, Li Mengyao couldn't wait to dive into Lin Xuan's arms, with a happy smile on her face, and said softly, it's more comfortable to sleep with my husband in my arms. After hearing this, Lin Xuan's mouth corners slightly raised, revealing a doting smile. He gently put his arms around Li Mengyao's slender waist and held her tightly in his arms. Wife, it's getting late, go to bed, Lin Xuan said gently. Li Mengyao responded, then snuggled in Lin Xuan's arms and closed her eyes. Soon, their breathing gradually calmed down and they fell into a sweet dream together. Time has come to the second day. Today is New Year's Eve, and also the last day of the lunar calendar. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao were still awakened by the familiar crying sound. Wow! When the eldest baby cries, the youngest baby starts crying too. The two little ones have a very good understanding of each other. Lin Xuan hurriedly got up, walked quickly to the crib, picked up the two babies, and handed them to Li Mengyao for her to feed. Baby, don't cry, drink your milk. Li Mengyao lifted her clothes and gently coaxed the two little babies. Lin Xuan sat aside, looking at the cute appearance of Dabao and Xiaobao drinking milk, and a happy smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. At this time, Li Mengyao suddenly raised her head and asked Lin Xuan curiously, husband, is our child a dragon baby or a snake baby? Lin Xuan smiled and replied, of course it's the dragon baby. The year of the snake will begin after tomorrow. After feeding, Lin Xuan carefully put Dabao and Xiaobao back into their warm cribs. Then, the two of them got up and washed. After breakfast, Lin Xuan prepared to post couplets on his doorstep. Suddenly, he thought that there seemed to be someone missing. Lin Cece. Lin Xuan quickly walked towards Cece's room, gently pushed open the door, and saw his sister still sleeping. I saw Lin Cece was sweetly immersed in a dream. Holding a cute pillow tightly in her arms, lying on her side in the soft quilt, sleeping soundly. Cece. Get up! Lin Xuan stood beside the bed and shouted loudly. Don't disturb my sleep, old man. Lin Cece reached out and wrapped herself completely in the quilt, leaving only her head exposed. She didn't even open her eyes and muttered, I want to sleep. Don't disturb me. If you sleep any longer you won't get the New Year's red envelope, Lin Xuan threatened. Hearing this, Lin Cece immediately opened her eyes and retorted, sister-in-law will give it. After saying that, she closed her eyes again and prepared to go back to sleep. Is that why your elbows are out? Lin Xuan didn't give in either, he just put his hand on the quilt and pulled it hard, and the quilt was pulled aside. Then Lin Xuan pulled Lin Cece out of bed and forced her to turn on the phone. Hurry up and brush your teeth, wash your face, eat breakfast. And then help me put up Spring Festival couplets. So Lin Cece got up, very reluctantly. After Lin Cece finished her breakfast, Lin Xuan skillfully spread the Spring Festival couplets on the ground. And then evenly applied paste around the couplets. He was responsible for pasting the top banner, while Lin Cece was responsible for pasting the couplets on the left and right sides. At this time, Li Mengyao smiled and said to Lin Xuan, "Hubby, I also want to help post the couplets." "Wife, you are in confinement now, so just take a good rest," Lin Xuan replied quickly. However, Li Mengyao insisted on joining in. She said, "It's okay, I can post it with Cece. She can post the upper couplet and I can post the lower couplet. Wouldn't it be more meaningful if the three of us posted together?" Lin Xuan had no choice but to agree, and the three of them began to post the couplets. First, Lin Xuan climbed up the small ladder and carefully pasted the top banner. Then Lin Cece pasted the upper couplet on the right, and Li Mengyao pasted the lower couplet on the left. After some effort, the Spring Festival couplets at room 1601, Building A, Jinwan Mansion were finally posted. The first couplet reads, "The dancing snow brings beautiful poetic rhythm to a good harvest year." The second line reads, "Plum blossoms bloom in the new year. And the painting is beautiful." The banner reads, "Dragon and Phoenix bring good luck." In particular, the auspicious combination of dragon and phoenix symbolizes the arrival of twins. That is, the arrival of a big baby and a small baby, which brings good luck to the family. Lin Xuan, Li Mengyao and Lin Cece stood at the door, admiring the Spring Festival couplets they had just put up. The red and black colors on the Spring Festival couplets complement each other, making them look particularly festive. At this time, Shang Shilin came out of the house and carefully checked whether the Spring Festival couplets were pasted firmly and properly. "Well, it's very well pasted." Shang Shilin nodded with satisfaction. Lin Xuan smiled proudly. "Of course, the banner at the top was posted by me personally. The upper couplet on the right was posted by Cece, and the lower couplet on the left was posted by Mengyao." However, what greeted him was a slap on the shoulder from Shang Shilin. "You little bastard, Mengyao is still in confinement after giving birth. How could you let her work?" Li Mengyao quickly explained, "Mom, you misunderstood. I took the initiative to ask to join in pasting Spring Festival couplets." Shang Shilin smiled and said to Li Mengyao, "Oh, so that's how it is. It's okay to exercise moderately." Lin Xuan was stunned. "Mom, am I your biological child? You are picked up from the garbage dump." Chapter 177. He actually likes cooking. In the following hours, Lin Xuan kept questioning Shang Shilin. "Mom, which garbage dump did you find me at? Mom, aren't there other kids around? Mom, why did you choose me? Is it because I am prettier? What about Cece? Was she picked up together with him? I say, you little brat, are you done yet?" Shang Shilin said impatiently. She glared at him angrily, and Lin Xuan instantly became obedient. Li Mengyao, who was standing by, burst into laughter when she saw this. At noon, the family sat around the dining table, ready to enjoy a delicious dumpling feast. However, this lunch was not a full meal, but a prelude to the New Year's Eve dinner. Despite this, the dumplings made by Lin Xuan still exude an enticing aroma, making people salivate. After lunch, everyone returned to their rooms to enjoy a moment of peace and rest. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao returned to the room and began to take care of the two lovely babies. After feeding, the baby fell asleep directly, quietly, without any noise, and Xiaobao squinted his eyes. At this moment the baby could not open his eyes completely, only a little gap was visible. It seemed that he was still trying to adapt to this new world. His little mouth opened and closed slightly, occasionally murmured softly, and his two little hands fluttered in front of him, which was so adorable. "It seems that Dabao is more lively," Lin Xuan said softly, with tenderness in his eyes. "And he must look a lot like you, right?" "Qin," Li Mengyao gently rocked Dabao, her voice filled with the warmth of maternal love. At this moment, Dabao suddenly opened his mouth slightly, as if he heard his own name, and a barely perceptible smile appeared on his face. "Look, Dabao is smiling. Dabao is smiling." Lin Xuan took the baby with surprise and held him tightly in his arms. "Come on. Smile at Daddy, smile," Lin Xuan said jokingly. Li Mengyao at the side couldn't help but chuckle and reminded, "Husband, you have to call Dabao by his name." "Qin," Lin Xuan called out to Dabao softly. "Yeah." Dabao's mouth opened slightly again, as if he showed a smile, and then he made a faint sound and stopped. Lin Xuan's heart almost melted when he saw Dabao's cute appearance. Then, Dabao slowly closed his eyes and fell asleep. Lin Xuan carefully carried Dabao back to the crib, and then lay down on the soft big bed with Li Mengyao. Lin Xuan held Li Mengyao's slender waist tightly with one hand, and kept fiddling with her little hand with the other hand. He liked playing with Li Mengyao's little hands very much, as if her fingers were interesting toys, and he liked to rub and pinch them, and kiss them from time to time. While playing with her mobile phone, Li Mengyao tried to pull her hand back many times, but was held tightly by Lin Juan every time. Stop playing. Li Mengyao raised her head slightly and blared at Lin Juan Cocathus Lai. However, Lin Juan was not afraid of the threat from Li Mengyao, the gentle little kitty, and continued to pinch her fingers and play with them. Li Mengyao really couldn't figure out what was so interesting about her hands. Forget it, just let him be. So, Li Mengyao put down the phone in her hand, hugged Lin Juan and prepared to go to sleep. Seeing that his wife was going to sleep, Lin Juan stopped playing and hugged her back, falling into a sweet dream together. After waking up from an afternoon nap, Chef Lin stretched his body, stretched his muscles, and then began to busy himself with tonight's New Year's Eve dinner. He went into the kitchen early, put on an apron and gloves, and started cooking with the prepared ingredients. Of course, his good sister Lin Cece is indispensable to help. Li Mengyao also wanted to help, but her family strongly disagreed. Chen Shaolan directly pulled her to the living room to sit down and did not let her enter the kitchen. Mengyao, you are in confinement now, so you need to rest more. Mengyao, you are in confinement now and your body hasn't recovered yet, you need to rest well, Chen Shaolan said gently. But I want to help, Li Mengyao said, looking at her husband's busy figure. Don't feel sorry for that bad boy, he actually just likes cooking, Shang Shaolan said with a smile. Lin Juan. Soon, after several hours of careful preparation and cooking, delicious dishes were served on the table. There are stir-fried lamb with green onions, sea bass with tea tree mushrooms, stewed duck in casserole, steamed crucian carp, braised pork with preserved vegetables, boiled chicken and seafood hot pot. The whole family sat together, laughing and talking happily. As the head of the family, Shan Shaolan held Huang Shifang's hand tightly and said to everyone, I am so happy this year to be able to become in-laws with Shifang, and I also want to thank Mengyao for marrying my son and bringing us a pair of lovely twins. In the new year, I hope our whole family can be healthy and happy, everything goes well and we are blessed with a lot of luck. After saying that, Shang Shaolan and Huang Shifang raised their glasses together, and the others responded by raising their glasses high. Everyone shouted in unison, cheers. The sound of clinking glasses was crisp and pleasant, and the atmosphere was warm and cheerful. After clinking glasses, everyone began to enjoy this sumptuous New Year's Eve dinner. Honey, you've worked hard. Li Mengyao gently picked up a piece of fragrant mutton and gently put it into Lin Xuan's bowl. Lin Xuan smiled and responded, thank you, wife, but you should eat more too. As he spoke, he also picked up a piece of tender fish meat, but instead of putting it directly into Li Mengyao's bowl, he brought it to her lips. Honey, everyone is here, Li Mengyao said shyly, her little face flushed. Looking so cute. Lin Xuan, however, looked nonchalant and replied with a smile. It's okay, we are an old married couple, there is nothing to be afraid of. Faced with her husband's shamelessness, Li Mengyao was helpless. She could only blush, gently open her mouth, put the chopsticks handed to her by Lin Xuan into her mouth, and eat the piece of fish. Seeing this scene, everyone showed an ant-like smile on their face. At this moment, Huang Shifang ate a piece of pork with preserved vegetables and couldn't help but exclaimed, Lin Xuan's cooking is so delicious. Yes, let him do it whenever he is around. Shang Shaolan on the side also echoed. Hearing this, Lin Xuan curled his lips, but continued to feed his wife. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind, and a sly smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Actually, there is an important reason why my cooking is so delicious. Lin Xuan had a sly smile on his face and his eyes were fixed on Shang Shaolan. Shang Shaolan looked at her son's strange eyes and had a bad feeling. It's all because of my mother's good teaching when I was a child. That's why my cooking is so delicious now, Lin Xuan said. Shang Shaolan was stunned after hearing this. Lin Cece laughed so hard that she almost spit out the food in her mouth. Lin Zhengjiuo was also grinning. At this moment, Huang Shifang, who was sitting opposite, looked at Shang Shaolan with joy, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. My dear, I didn't expect that your cooking is so delicious. Can you teach me when you are free? Okay, if there's a chance next time. Shang Shaolan stared at Lin Xuan and responded awkwardly. Chapter 178. I'm applying lipstick on you. After the family finished their New Year's Eve dinner, they all sat down in the living room to watch the Spring Festival Gala. Li Mengyao leaned on Lin Xuan with a happy smile on her face. At this time, Lin Xuan kept typing on his mobile phone, as if he was chatting with someone. Li Mengyao raised her head and moved forward to check curiously. A chat box appeared on Lin Xuan's WeChat. Stupid sister, brother, you actually dare to ruin mom's show in public, I admire you. Lin Xuan, sister, do you think you can escape? Stupid sister. What's wrong with me? I didn't provoke my mom. Lin Xuan, you are the only one there laughing so hard. Do you think your mother will let you go? Stupid sister you. This has nothing to do with me. Every time you make mom angry, you want to drag me into it. Lin Juan. My stupid sister. Stupid sister, I don't want to bother with you. I'm going to take a shower and change into new clothes. Li Mengyao giggled after seeing the chat record. She felt that her husband and Cici had a very good relationship, which made her very enviable. She smiled and said to Lin Juan, "Hubby, let's take a shower and change into new clothes, and then go outside to take a look." "Okay." Lin Juan nodded. "Ma, Mengyao and I will go out to take a look later." Dabao and Xiaobao. "You guys help keep an eye on them," Lin Juan said to Shang Shelan. "Got it, I'll go get the kids out right away," said Shang Shelan. Then she walked into the room and took the two little ones out. After taking a shower, Lin Juan changed into a white hooded work parka-down jacket with a knitted cardigan underneath, and paired it with corduroy pants, looking elegant and handsome. These are the new clothes for the new year that Li Mengyao bought him a few days ago. Li Mengyao wore a white down jacket with a gentle pink sweater underneath, a light white gauze skirt on the bottom, and cute little gloves on her hands. She looked extremely pure and cute. Afterwards, the two walked out of the house hand in hand and came to the top floor of Building A of Jinwan Mansion. Standing on the top floor, they were shocked by the beautiful scenery before them. The night sky of Jinwan Prefecture is like a huge black curtain. Snowflakes fall gently under the caress of the moonlight, like countless tiny diamonds scattered in the darkness, shining with a cool and charming light. All this makes the night sky full of a quiet and pure beauty. The night sky is so beautiful tonight, Li Mengyao couldn't help but sigh, while lying on the railing on the roof, overlooking the beautiful night view of the entire Jinwan Mansion. Yes, but after all, my wife is the most beautiful. Lin Juan also gently hugged Li Mengyao from behind with a faint smile on his lips. "You're such a sweet talker. Did you often coax little girls like this in the past?" Li Mengyao turned to look at Lin Juan and teased with a smile. Lin Juan chuckled. "I have only told you, my wife." After that, he gently hugged Li Mengyao. "I'll believe you for now." Li Mengyao put her arms around Lin Juan's neck, tilted her head slightly, and smiled sweetly. The white steam they exhaled intertwined in the air and gently hit each other's faces. After the two looked at each other affectionately, Li Mengyao gently pressed her lips against his with a minty lipstick. They kissed passionately in the snow, as if they were the only ones in the world. Snowflakes fell heavily, landing on their bodies and hair at this moment. The snow became a witness to their love. Although the weather in Jingha City was cold at this time, the two did not feel a trace of coolness. Instead, there was a heat surging in their bodies. "I'm putting lipstick on you," Li Mengyao said softly, with a hint of shyness and tenderness in her voice. "I know," Lin Juan responded with a smile, his eyes full of pampering and love. At this moment, Lin Juan's gaze shifted away from Li Mengyao's face. Downstairs, a group of people were happily playing with sparklers, with sparks flying everywhere, and the scene was colorful. "Wife, do you want to play with the fairy wand?" Lin Juan asked gently. Li Mengyao raised her head and looked at Lin Juan, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. She nodded gently and replied, "Okay." And Lin Juan took out his cell phone and called his stupid sister. "Brother, what's the matter again?" Lin Cici's dissatisfied voice came from the other end of the phone. "Cici, brother will take you to the roof to play with fireworks," Lin Juan said with a smile. "You just want me to run errands for you, right?" Lin Cici saw through it immediately. "There is a prize for answering correctly. A reward is a fairy wand sent by brother. It is under the bed in the study." Lin Juan continued to tease Lin Cici. "Oh, I see," Lin Cici agreed helplessly. "By the way, please bring up the Nikon camera on the table as well," Lin Juan added. "I know, stop nagging," Lin Cici muttered and hung up the phone. After a while, Lin Cici appeared at the door on the rooftop holding a box of fireworks. She was wearing a light blue down jacket, a yellow sweater and a white puffy skirt, a pair of white tights and pink cotton shoes. She looked very fresh and cute. There is a Nikon camera hanging around her neck, and a cute cut air hat on her head, which adds a bit of playfulness. "Thank you for your hard work, sister." Lin Juan took the fireworks and camera and said with a smile. Li Mengyao walked to Lin Cici, took her hand, and said gently, "Cici, let's play with the fairy wand together." Lin Cici nodded happily and replied, "Okay." Lin Juan took out two fairy wands from the box and handed them to Li Mengyao and Lin Cici respectively. Lin Cici took the fairy wand and said to Lin Juan impatiently, "Brother, help me light it up." As she spoke, she handed the fairy wand to Lin Juan. Lin Juan took out a lighter and lit the fairy wand in Lin Cici's hand. In an instant, the fairy wand emitted brilliant sparks, lighting up the surrounding night sky. "Honey, there's mine too." Li Mengyao also handed over the fairy wand in her hand. Lin Juan took out the lighter and lit it again. In an instant, the fairy wand emitted colorful light. Li Mengyao held a fairy wand in her hand, and the bright sparks shone on her beautiful face, as if adding a layer of mysterious veil to her. She raised her head slightly and looked at Lin Juan with a smile, like a fairy in the snow. Lin Juan stood quietly aside, admiring the beautiful scenery before him. He took out his Nikon camera, adjusted the focus, pressed the shutter, and captured this beautiful picture. Chapter 179 Husband. I really like you. Brother, take a picture for me too. Lin Cici's sweet voice sounded. She held a fairy wand in one hand and made a cute scissors hand gesture with the other hand. My sister has so many things to do. Although he was joking in his heart, Lin Xuan still pressed the shutter button seriously to record Cici's cute moment. Cici, let's take a photo together, Li Mengyao suggested with a smile. Okay. Lin Cici nodded happily. Lin Xuan raised the camera again and pressed the shutter, and at the two girls in front of the camera. In the photos, they are smiling so brightly. Their happy smiles seem to melt the whole world. It is so beautiful. After having fun on the rooftop, the three felt a little tired and decided to go home and rest. As soon as Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao stepped into the house, they saw Xiang Shulan gently holding Dabao on the sofa in the living room, while Lin Zhengjiyuo was trying hard to tease Xiaobao. Lin Zhengjiyuo covered his face with his hands, then suddenly opened them and showed Xiaobao an exaggerated smile. Xiaobao opened his eyes wide and stared at his grandfather blankly, as if trying to understand the strange movement before his eyes. However, a few seconds later, Xiaobao suddenly burst into tears, catching everyone off guard. Lao Lin, why are you scaring Xiaobao for no reason? Shen Shulan looked at the crying little baby in her arms, her face full of heartache. She glared at Lin Zhengjiyuo angrily and annoyed lie, then raised her fist and hit him hard. Lin Zhengjiyuo, however, sat there with an innocent look on his face, thinking, it's just teasing Xiaobao. Oh, don't cry, Xiaobao, mommy is here. When Li Mengyao heard the voice, she hurried forward, took Xiaobao from Xiang Shulan, patted his back gently, and coaxed him tenderly. Maybe he's hungry, honey, please take Xiaobao back to the room, Lin Xuan said softly when he saw Xiaobao was still crying. At this time, Dabao was sleeping soundly in Huang Shifang's arms. Lin Xuan also took Dabao from Huang Shifang's arms, held him carefully, and prepared to put him back into the crib. When he walked into the master bedroom, he saw Li Mengyao feeding Xiaobao. Honey, is Dabao hungry too? Li Mengyao asked with a smile. No, he's sleeping like a little pig. Lin Xuan answered with a smile, then gently placed Dabao on the crib and covered him with a quilt. Honey, go watch the Spring Festival Gala with everyone. I'll come over after I finish feeding Xiaobao. Li Mengyao raised her head and said to Lin Xuan with a smile. Well, thank you for your hard work. My wife. Lin Xuan leaned over and kissed Li Mengyao's delicate cheek, then gently walked out of the master bedroom and returned to the living room. After a while, after Xiaobao had eaten and drunk his fill, he gradually fell into a sweet dream with the gentle rocking of his mother, Li Mengyao. After Li Mengyao carefully put him back into the crib, she was about to go to the living room when suddenly, her cell phone placed on the bedside table began to ring with a series of urgent message alerts. Li Mengyao picked up her phone and saw that it was a message from her roommate group from college, a group of for wealthy ladies. Chen Manman spoke first. Sisters, what are you doing on New Year's Eve? Yan Lin replied, what else can I do? I can just watch those naughty little kids at home. At this time, Yang Lin was in her rural hometown, surrounded by a group of chattering children. It was very lively. The UUXIN continued, I'm watching the Spring Festival Gala. Chen Man teased. XIN, how come you have a young body of 20-year-old but a mature mentality of 40-year-old? Who among the young people nowadays still watches the Spring Festival Gala? UUXIN responded in yielding lie. If you have the guts, don't even look at me. Be careful of my 50 meters sword warning. I'll let you run 49 meters first. Chen Man smiled and replied, actually, I'm watching the Spring Festival Gala too. At this time, Yang Lin asked curiously, by the way, where is Yao Yao? UUXIN said, she's probably taking care of the kids. Chen Man said excitedly, I haven't seen Yao Yao's baby yet, please send it to me and tag Yao Yao. Li Mengyao, picture. Li Mengyao posted several cute pictures of Dabao and Xiaobao. Yang Lin replied, wow, so cute. Chen Man smiled and said, Dabao looks like Yao Yao, and Xiaobao looks like Lin Xuan. UUXIN was a little surprised, you can tell at such a young age? UUXIN continued, by the way, I have a nice video for you to watch. And she posted a video she had taken at the annual meeting of Jinwan Technology Company. Li Mengyao clicked on the video out of curiosity and was instantly shocked. She was deeply moved when she saw Lin Xuan singing, I believe so much, for her and the confession that followed. In the picture, Lin Xuan is singing, I believe so much for her affectionately. His voice is melodious and seems to carry endless tenderness and love. After the song ended, Lin Xuan spoke the touching confession to the camera again. Yang Lin said excitedly, oh my god, Lin Xuan plays the piano so well, and he sings very well too. Chen Man joked. I say, do you have to feed us a wave of dog food on New Year's Eve? Yao Yao, you are so lucky. Hearing these words, Li Mengyao couldn't help but laugh softly, and then sent 3 shy little emoticons in a row. Then, she walked out of the bedroom happily, came to the living room, sat down next to Lin Juan, and watched the Spring Festival Gala with her family. The whole living room was filled with a joyful and warm atmosphere, and everyone was immersed in the joy of the festival. Time flies. And in the blink of an eye it is 11:59 p.m. At this time, the host on TV held the microphone with a smile on his face and shouted excitedly, "Let's count down together, 1098. 210. As he spoke, the bells rang melodiously and the sound of fireworks and firecrackers came from afar, announcing the arrival of 12 o'clock. People cheered and enthusiastically welcomed the new year, the year of the snake. A familiar and moving melody, "Unforgettable Tonight," then sounded on TV. This song would arrive as promised at this time every year. After watching the Spring Festival Gala, the family returned to their respective rooms, ready to fall into a sweet dream. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao were no exception. They lay quietly in the warm bed. "Hubby, Happy New Year." Li Mengyao curled up in Lin Xuan's arms and whispered softly, "Wife, Happy New Year." Lin Xuan's mouth corners slightly raised, revealing a happy smile. "Honey, I saw the video of you singing at the company's annual meeting." Li Mengyao raised her head slightly and smiled. "Who sent it to you?" Lin Xuan couldn't help but feel a little surprised. "Xin sent it to me." Li Mengyao replied. "Oh, so that's how it is." Lin Xuan nodded thoughtfully. "Does it sound good?" Lin Xuan gently stroked Li Mengyao's face, his eyes full of love. "It sounds nice." Li Mengyao answered without hesitation, her eyes revealing her deep love for Lin Xuan. "Honey, I really like you." Chapter 180. Both naive and playful. Lin Xuan hugged Li Mengyao tightly in his arms and said softly, "It's already late today, go to bed." Lin Xuan's voice was full of pampering and love, which made people feel warm in their hearts. Li Mengyao rubbed against Lin Xuan's arms and nodded obediently like a cute little kitten. She responded softly, then slowly closed her beautiful eyes with a sweet smile on her lips. Lin Xuan looked at Li Mengyao sleeping peacefully, his heart filled with happiness and satisfaction. Just when he was about to fall asleep, suddenly, the system's voice sounded in my mind again. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for spending a happy new year with the baby and the baby's mother. A bottle of postpartum recovery potion as a reward. I have taken it automatically after taking it. You will gradually regain your previous figure during the confinement period. Lin Xuan was overjoyed, as this way his wife wouldn't have to work so hard to lose weight. And he happily hugged Li Mengyao and fell into a sweet dream together. I must come to the second day. Today is the first day of the new year. Early in the morning, Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao heard the crackling sound of firecrackers. The lively sound seemed to announce the arrival of the new year, and also immersed the entire city in a joyful and peaceful atmosphere. What followed was the crying of Da Bao and Xiao Bao. Lin Xuan quickly got up and walked to the crib, holding the 2 little ones, and walked carefully to Li Mengyao. He gently handed the children to her and asked her to feed them. Then Lin Xuan turned and walked to the closet, opened the door, and took out 2 big red envelopes that had been prepared long ago. After Li Mengyao finished feeding, the 2 little ones did not continue to fall asleep as usual. Instead, they opened their bright big eyes and looked around curiously. Da Bao and Xiao Bao, these are the red envelopes your mom and dad gave you. Lin Xuan smiled and placed 2 big red envelopes next to them. The 2 little guys blinked their beautiful big eyes, opened and closed their little mouths slightly, and seemed very curious. Mom doesn't need you to achieve great things in the future, as long as you can grow up healthy, happy and safely. Li Mengyao looked at Da Bao and Xiao Bao affectionately and said softly, "Yes, health is the most important thing." Lin Xuan echoed. After saying that, he and Li Mengyao carried Da Bao and Xiao Bao out of the room. As soon as I walked out of the room, Chen Shulan and Lin Zhengjiuo immediately came to greet me with smiles on their faces. "Come and take a look at what's inside it, as a big red envelope that Grandpa carefully prepared for you." Lin Zhengjiuo's face was filled with a happy smile. He waved to read envelopes in his hand in front of him, and then gently placed them on the baby clothes. "And to Grandma, I wish our little babies grow up healthy and happy." Chen Shulan looked at the 2 children tenderly, took out to read envelopes from her pocket and placed them carefully on the baby clothes. "Grandma's is here too." Huan Shifang walked forward with a smile and also took out to read envelopes and placed them on the baby's clothes. In this way, 3 thick red envelopes appeared on Bao and Xiao Bao's baby clothes, and each red envelope contained a heavy amount of 10,000 yuan. At this moment, the 2 little guys were still confused and had no idea that they had become little millionaires and that their wealth had surpassed that of many adults. "Mom and Dad, where is my red envelope?" Lin Sisi, who was standing nearby, couldn't help but ask. "Oh, I almost forgot." Chen Shulan quickly took out 2 more red envelopes from her pocket and handed them to Lin Sisi. "In the new year, Sisi, you must continue to work hard," Chang Shulan said earnestly. "Thank you, Mom and Dad." Lin Cece took the red envelope and felt very happy. She knew there must be a lot of money inside as soon as she touched it. In the new year, I wish Cece good results in the college entrance examination. Wang Qifang also handed a big red envelope to Lin Cece and said gently, "Thank you, Aunt Wang." Lin Cece also happily took it. She touched it subconsciously and found that it was no less than her parents. "Brother, you know what I mean." Lin Cece shouted towards Lin Xuan, and at the same time stretched out a little hand and made a take it gesture. "What do I know? Oh, I almost forgot." Lin Xuan slapped his forehead, turned back to the room, and quickly took out a set of college entrance examination simulation papers and put them in Lin Cece's hands. He said seriously, "I bought this at the bookstore specially. It will be very helpful for your college entrance examination this year. It is a priceless treasure. Only a brother would care so much about his sister." "Who wants your test paper?" Lin Cece pouted, threw the test paper back to Lin Xuan, and said angrily, "Hubby, stop teasing Cece." At this time, Li Mengyao smiled and took out two big red envelopes from her arms and handed them to Lin Cece. She said gently, "Cece, Happy New Year. This is the New Year red envelope that Lin Xuan and I gave you." "Thank you, sister-in-law." Lin Cece was so happy that she couldn't stop smiling. She took the red envelope with both hands and smiled brightly. Chapter 181, I agreed not to feed dog food. "Brother, you don't need to thank me, right? What does the red envelope my sister-in-law gave me have to do with you, brother?" Lin Cece retorted with a pout. After saying that, she slapped Lin Xuan's hand away, ran back to the room, turned on the computer, and opened Yuanshen. Then, there was a burst of excited laughter in the living room. "I got it right, it's not crooked." Lin Xuan smiled and shook his head. After waking up in the afternoon, Li Mengyao sat in front of the window and saw children playing with firecrackers downstairs. With a smile on her lips, she turned to look at Lin Xuan and said softly, "Honey, I want to go for a walk downstairs." "Why do you suddenly want to go out?" Lin Xuan asked, puzzled. "Lie. I've been at home for a long time. I just went to the rooftop to get some fresh air yesterday on New Year's Eve. And I haven't come downstairs for a walk yet," Li Mengyao explained. Since she gave birth to her first and second child, she has hardly ever left the house. Lin Xuan calculated the time and found that his wife had been postpartum for more than 2 weeks, so it was time for her to go out for a walk. So he nodded and said gently, "Okay. Husband will take you downstairs for a walk. Mom, please take care of Dabao and Xiaobao Mengyao, and I will go for a walk downstairs in the community." Lin Xuan walked out of the room and said to Sheng Shulan, who was watching TV in the living room, "Okay, go ahead, Qifang and I are here." After saying that, Sheng Shulan came into the room and carried Dabao and Xiaobao to the living room. After Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao left Dabao and Xiaobao to the care of their family, they began to get dressed and prepare to go out. At this time, Lin Cece came out sleepily and saw them packing up. She couldn't help but ask curiously, "Brother, sister-in-law, where are you going?" Lin Xuan smiled and replied, "We plan to go out for a walk and breathe some fresh air." Li Mengyao gently invited, "Cece, why don't you come with us?" Lin Cece winked mischievously and said with a smile, "You guys aren't going to suddenly kiss each other while we're walking and then feed me dog food, are you?" Hearing this, Li Mengyao's face turned red instantly and she lowered her head shyly. "Sister, what are you thinking about in your little head all day? It's just a simple walk downstairs. Do you want to go or not?" Lin Xuan said. Lin Cece answered without hesitation, "Go. Of course." In fact, she was just about to go downstairs for a walk. So, the three of them walked out of the house together and came to the community downstairs of Jinwan Mansion. Lin Xuan held Li Mengyao's hand tightly and strolled leisurely in the community. And next to Li Mengyao, Lin Cece followed closely. The three people appear very harmonious as their heights decrease from right to left. At this time, the afternoon sun was warm and pleasant, the dark clouds in the sky gradually dissipated, and it stopped snowing. The three of them walked while admiring the beautiful scenery of the community after the snow, and they felt particularly happy. Soon, they came to a place where a group of little kids were playing with firecrackers. They could hear the sound of crackling and the children were having fun. At this time, Lin Cece excitedly pointed at the group of children with her little finger and said to Lin Xuan expectantly, "Brother, I really want to play with firecrackers." However, Lin Xuan rejected her mercilessly. "What are you playing for? You are such a grown-up, why are you still acting like a child?" Hearing this, Lin Cece pouted and retorted unhappily, "Who said only children can play with firecrackers?" Li Mengyao, who was standing by, saw Lin Cece's eager eyes and whispered to Lin Xuan, "Hubby, I actually want to play a little bit too." When Lin Xuan heard this, he immediately agreed with a smile, "Okay, let's go to the store and buy some firecrackers." Lin Cece. She stood there in shock, and couldn't help but sigh in her heart. My brother got a wife and forgot his sister. Soon, Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao bought a few boxes of firecrackers from the canteen and chose an open space. Seeing this, Lin Cece couldn't wait to pick up a firecracker, quickly lit it and threw it far away. then trotted away, covering her ears tightly. Immediately afterwards, with a bang, the firecrackers exploded in the air. Due to the distance, the sound of the explosion seemed a bit dull, but it still made Lin Cixi feel excited. Wife, you tried to put it on the ground and light it, then let's hide away together. Lin Xuan handed Li Mengyao a firecracker and touched her head gently. Yeah, Li Mengyao took the firecrackers and nodded. She took a deep breath, slowly squatted down, and carefully placed the firecrackers on the ground. However, due to the cold weather and her inner nervousness, her fingers were a little stiff and she failed to light the firecrackers after several attempts. Seeing this, Lin Xuan walked over to Li Mengyao, held her hand, and encouraged her. Don't be nervous, take your time. With the help of Lin Xuan, Li Mengyao finally succeeded in lighting the firecrackers. Just as the firecrackers were about to explode, Li Mengyao quickly stood up and wanted to stay away from the danger zone, but perhaps because she was too nervous, her feet slipped when she turned around, and she lost her balance and fell forward. Lin Xuan was quick to act and grab Li Mengyao, trying to steady her body. However, inertia caused them both to fall into the snow. Seeing that the firecrackers were about to explode, Lin Xuan wrapped Li Mengyao tightly with his body without hesitation, covered her ears with his hands, and buried her little head deep in his chest. At the same time, Li Mengyao closed her beautiful eyes tightly and covered Lin Xuan's ears with her small hands, fearing that the explosion would hurt him. In this way, the two hugged each other tightly, protecting each other's ears. With a bang, the sound of firecrackers rang out, and Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao opened their eyes. Lin Xuan laughed. Why is my wife so clumsy? Li Mengyao blushed and retorted. I'm not stupid, this was an accident. The two looked at each other and laughed again. At this time, Lin Cixi, who was standing by, couldn't help but roll her eyes at the sight of the two people being so affectionate. Why don't I just go back? We agreed not to feed dog food. Chapter 182. We are destined to be together. It is the second day of the Lunar New Year. Today is the day to welcome the God of Wealth and return to my parents' home. But Lin Xuan doesn't need to go back to her parents' home at all. After all, everyone in her parents' home is already here. In the early morning, sunlight shines into the room through the window. Li Mengyao gently fed Dabao and Xiaobao, then said to Lin Xuan tenderly, Husband, let's give the babies a bath later. Her keen nose detected a slight peculiar smell emanating from Dabao and Xiaobao. Okay. I just finished feeding, so it's better to wait about 2 hours before washing, Lin Xuan replied with a smile. I'm flies. And 2 hours have passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Xuan skillfully prepared a clean bathtub and carefully poured an appropriate amount of warm water into it. Next, he took out a water thermometer and measured it to make sure the water temperature was around a comfortable 38 degrees Celsius. Li Mengyao prepared soft towels and clean clothes. Everything was ready, and they began to give Dabao and Xiaobao a bath. Lin Xuan looked at the cute Dabao and Xiaobao and asked with a smile, Babies, who will wash first? Dabao stared at his parents curiously, as if he didn't quite understand what was going to happen next. Xiaobao opened his eyes wide and looked around, as if he didn't want to take a bath. Lin Xuan looked at Xiaobao and said with a smile, Xiaobao, it's decided to be you. Xiaobao looked confused. Lin Xuan gently and rested Xiaobao, carefully supported his head and hips with his hands, and slowly and steadily placed him in the warm bathtub. However, Xiaobao seemed a little uneasy about this unfamiliar environment. As soon as he touched the water, he burst into tears. Oh Xiaobao, don't cry, Daddy is washing you, but it will smell nice after the wash, Lin Xuan coaxed Xiaobao softly, trying to calm him down. Soon, Lin Xuan skillfully cleaned Xiaobao and gently handed it to Li Mengyao. Li Mengyao took Xiaobao and gently wiped his body with a soft towel, making sure every inch of skin was dried. After washing away all the water, wrapped the baby tightly with clothes to give him warmth and a sense of security. Afterwards, Lin Xuan put Dabao into the bathtub and started taking a bath. Unlike Xiaobao, Dabao seemed very calm and enjoyed being in the water, without crying or resisting. Look, honey, Dabao doesn't cry when he takes a bath. Lin Xuan smiled and showed Li Mengyao how well behaved Dabao was. It seems that Xiaobao is very much like you. He loves to cry, Li Mengyao responded with a smile, her eyes full of love. After a while, Dabao was also washed clean and exuded a faint fragrance. Well, now you are a sweet baby, Li Mengyao said gently with a happy smile on her face. Finally, Lin Xuan put Dabao and Xiaobao back into the crib with the comfort of the high-tech crib. The little ones fell asleep quickly. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao looked at them sleeping peacefully, their hearts filled with happiness. When it was night, Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao prepared to go out for a walk. This time, Lin Cixi would never go with them. She didn't want to be a light bulb. Every time she went out with them, she would be showered with dog food. So the two of them went for a walk downstairs in the community. On the evening of the second day of the Lunar New Year, light snow fell again in the night sky of Jinghai City. The falling snow seemed to be weaving a white dream. In the residential area of Jinwanfu, red lanterns can be seen everywhere. They shine in the snow like bright stars in the night sky, and like the burning fire of hope in the new year, making the entire community warm and festive. Lin Xuan held Li Mengyao's hand tightly and strolled leisurely on the quiet streets of the community. Their footsteps were light and slow, and every step left a deep mark in the white snow. Looking from behind, a series of clearly visible footprints looked like a beautiful necklace, connecting their happy moments. Li Mengyao walked in front, jumping lightly like a happy little deer. Her face was filled with a bright smile, as if the whole world was infected by her happiness. Lin Xuan looked at her back, his heart filled with warmth and joy. "Wife, you look so happy. Is there something special? Is it that obvious?" Li Mengyao turned around and smiled. "Of course, the corners of your mouth are almost smiling to the sky," Lin Xuan said jokingly. "I just feel particularly happy during the Chinese New Year this year," Li Mengyao said softly, with a hint of sweetness in her voice. "What did your wife do during the Chinese New Year before?" Lin Xuan asked curiously. "In the past, I would usually go back to the countryside with my mother to spend the New Year with my grandmother," Li Mengyao said softly. "What about you, husband?" Li Mengyao asked Lin Xuan. "Sometimes I am in Yunha City, and sometimes I go back to the countryside to accompany my grandparents," Lin Xuan said with a smile. Li Mengyao stared quietly at the bright stars in the night sky, as if thinking about something. After a moment, she turned around and looked at Lin Xuan affectionately, her eyes full of love. "Honey, let me ask you, if you hadn't met me, what kind of life would we have?" Li Mengyao asked softly. Lin Xuan gently hugged Li Mengyao and said with a smile, "Wife, you are here again. There is no such thing as if." Lin Xuan couldn't help but sigh. Are all girls obsessed with this issue? I mean if. Li Mengyao raised her pretty head and looked at Lin Xuan mischievously. She asked before because she didn't feel secure enough, but now she just wants to tease her husband. Lin Xuan gently stroked Li Mengyao's hair and said softly, "If I hadn't met you before, I would have searched all over the world until I found you. Because we are meant to be together." Lin Xuan's eyes were full of determination and tenderness, making Li Mengyao feel extremely happy. "Are you satisfied with this answer?" he asked with a smile. "Satisfied. Satisfied." Li Mengyao was as happy as a child, her beautiful eyes narrowed into slits. Then, she gently stood on tiptoe, put her arms around Lin Xuan's neck, and their lips touched. The time came to the next morning. Today is the third day of the new year. According to traditional customs, there is no need to go out today. So Lin Xuan's whole family stayed at home. While taking a nap at noon, Lin Xuan saw Li Mengyao's video of a delicious cake on Douyin. "Wife, do you want to eat cake?" Lin Xuan hugged Li Mengyao from behind and said gently. Li Mengyao turned around and nodded with a smile. "Yes, I do." She hadn't eaten cake for a long time. The last time she had one was on her birthday. Lin Xuan gently kissed Li Mengyao's forehead and said, "Then your husband will make one for you this afternoon." "What kind of cake is my husband going to make?" Li Mengyao asked excitedly with her eyes lighting up. Lin Xuan smiled mysteriously. "You will know when the time comes." "So mysterious," Li Mengyao muttered in dissatisfaction. But her face was filled with a happy smile. So after waking up from his afternoon nap, Lin Xuan began to busy himself in the kitchen and did not let anyone in. In the blink of an eye, it was night. The family sat in the living room, chatting and laughing while enjoying fruit, while a replay of the Spring Festival Gala was playing on the TV screen. Suddenly, the kitchen door was pushed open with a slight creaking sound, and everyone's eyes turned to the door. With a smile on his face, Lin Xuan held a beautiful 3-pound Black Forest cake steadily in his hands. He walked carefully into the living room and gently placed it on the table in the living room. The appearance of the cake is like a work of art, which makes people marvel at it. Its surface is coated with rich and mellow chocolate, shimmering with an alluring glimmer. Juicy and fresh cherries are neatly arranged on it, like red agate, exuding charming fruit fragrance. The edge of the cake is decorated with a circle of exquisite chocolate curls and dotted with chocolate crumbs. Looking closely, the cream on the cake is white and delicate, forming a sharp contrast with the deep chocolate, yet complementing each other. "Brother, you can actually bake cakes." Lin Sisi looked at the cake in front of her and opened her mouth in surprise. "Son, why did you suddenly make a cake?" Shan Shulan asked curiously. Lin Xuan smiled and said, "This cake is used to celebrate our family reunion this year." After saying this, he looked gently at Li Mengyao beside him. "That's great, come on. Let's cut the cake," Shang Shulan said with a happy smile. "Mom, wait a minute." Li Mengyao suddenly spoke up to stop her. "Daughter-in-law, what's wrong?" Shang Shulan asked puzzled Li. "Let's take a family photo in front of this cake," Li Mengyao suggested with a smile. "Yes, my daughter-in-law is very thoughtful." Shang Shulan nodded in agreement. Then she asked Lin Xuan to get the camera. Lin Xuan took out a Nikon camera, skillfully installed the bracket, and set the timer function. After everything was ready, Lin Xuan quickly returned to the sofa in the living room and sat in the middle seat side by side with Li Mengyao. Everyone was smiling, gesturing, and looking at the camera happily. Eggplant. With a joyful shout and a click, the Nikon camera accurately captured this warm and beautiful moment. Everyone in the photo has a happy smile on his face. Chapter 183. This year is the happiest year I have ever had. After taking the group photo, everyone started preparing to cut the cake. Lin Xuan, you cut it, Shang Shalan said to Lin Xuan. Good. Lin Xuan smiled and nodded, then picked up the knife and cut the cake horizontally and vertically, and once diagonally. In this way, the 3-pound Black Forest cake was divided into 8 portions. Lin Xuan carefully distributed the cake to everyone, leaving 2 portions left over. Afterwards, the family sat together and began to enjoy this delicious Black Forest cake. Lin Xuan, I didn't expect that your cooking is so delicious and your cake making is also first rate. Huang Shifeng took a bite and couldn't help but sigh. Brother, why don't you make cake for me at home? It's so delicious. Lin Sisi spoke incoherently while eating in big mouthfuls. As long as everyone likes it, Lin Xuan smiled happily. At this time, Huang Shifeng suddenly turned around and asked Shang Shalan, Shalan, did you also teach me how to make cakes? At this time, Shang Shalan was eating the cake attentively, wondering how this brat could make the cake so delicious, and she didn't realize that Huang Shifeng would suddenly ask her a question. When she heard this, she froze for a moment, her raised fork still in the air. No, he taught himself. Shang Shalan came back to her senses and hurriedly explained. After hearing this, Lin Sisi started to laugh again, but Shang Shalan glared at her and she shut up immediately, then continued to eat the cake in small bites. Li Mengyao looked at the exquisite Black Forest cake in front of her and couldn't bear to eat it. But she still raised her fork, took a bite and put it in her mouth. Her taste buds were conquered instantly, and Li Mengyao's beautiful eyes narrowed with joy. Wife, is the cake delicious? Lin Xuan looked at Li Mengyao's happy expression and his heart was filled with happiness. Delicious. Li Mengyao smiled sweet. Bubby, haven't you eaten yet? Wife, you know. Lin Xuan looked at Li Mengyao with a sly smile. Li Mengyao knew what her stinky husband meant. He just wanted to feed him herself. You are the only one who is nosy, Li Mengyao said cockathiously. She picked up the fork, picked up a small piece of cake and put it into Lin Xuan's mouth. Lin Xuan ate it in one bite, enjoying the sweet taste. When a bite of Black Forest cake slides between your lips and teeth, it's like your taste buds are dancing in a grand ball. The richness of chocolate and the sweet and sour cherries and the delicateness of cream are intertwined. The 3 flavors blend perfectly together to form an intoxicating and wonderful taste. Lin Xuan nodded with satisfaction. He was very satisfied with the cake he made. Why not open a cake shop? After all, making cakes is quite tiring. Then Lin Xuan began to enjoy his cake. The whole family sat in front of the TV, watching wonderful programs and enjoying delicious Black Forest cake. Lin Xuan ate with gusto and quickly finished the cake in his hand. He turned his head and was surprised to find that Li Mengyao was still eating the cake in small bites, as if she was reluctant to finish it all at once. Moreover, there was a little cream on the corner of her mouth, which made her look particularly cute. Lin Xuan looked around again, and found that everyone was staring at the TV screen intently, and no one was paying attention to what was happening on their side. So, he came up with an idea. Quickly lowered his head, and while Li Mengyao wasn't paying attention, he gently ate the remaining cream at the corner of her mouth. Li Mengyao was startled by this sudden action. When she reacted, Lin Xuan was already looking at her with a grin on his face. Her face turned red with shame and she glared at Lin Xuan fiercely, then she raised her little hand and pinched the soft flesh on his waist mercilessly. After twisting it for a while, I found that it had no effect. Li Mengyao was so angry that her cheeks puffed up and she moved to the left side of the sofa angrily, away from her perverted husband. The family is still here, and my husband really has no sense of shame at all. Just then, Yu walked out of the cat house slowly with cat steps. It walked straight to Lin Sisi, rubbed back and forth on her legs, and made a meow sound from its mouth. Meow. Yu, do you want to eat too? Lin Sisi smiled and stretched out her little hand to touch Yu's little hand. Yu seemed to understand what she said. She put her front feet on Lin Sisi's legs, stood up straight, and looked at the cake in her hand curiously. As soon as Lin Sisi arrived at her brother's house, she noticed this cute silver tabby kitten. She likes kittens the most. So during this period, Lin Sisi often sat on her lap with the kitten in her arms and stroked the cat with her little hands. Several strands of cat hair were rubbed off from Yu's little head. Yu, it's so hard for me. Brother, can you eat the cake? Lin Sisi turned around and asked Lin Xuan. Of course not, this chocolate is poisonous to cats. Lin Xuan replied. Oh, well. Lin Sisi was a little disappointed. She put the unfinished cake on the table, picked up the kitten and said, You can't eat cake, are you hungry? I'll take you to get a snack. And she carried Yu back to the cat house. took out a cat strip and started feeding it. At night, when it's quiet, after gently feeding Daobao and Xiaobao, Li Mingyao slowly lay down on the soft bed. However, unlike usual, she did not immediately throw herself into Lin Xuan's warm embrace as she did in the past but turned around with her back to him. This made Lin Xuan a little confused. "Wife," Lin Xuan called softly. "What?" There seemed to be some resentment in Li Mengyao's voice. "Honey, what's wrong with you? Are you angry?" Lin Xuan gently hugged Li Mengyao from behind, trying to pull her back to his side, but she stubbornly refused to turn around. "Angry?" Li Mengyao answered in a muffled voice, secretly making up her mind that she must teach her husband a lesson this time. "Wife, I was wrong." Lin Xuan coaxed softly, gently stroking Li Mengyao's hair. "What did you do wrong? I think you don't even know you did anything wrong." Li Mengyao turned around and looked at Lin Xuan fiercely. Her little hands kept kneading Lin Xuan's arms, while she kept muttering, "I always say the wrong thing. But I refuse to change. Before I kissed, I looked around on purpose. My family members were watching TV seriously and no one noticed us." Lin Xuan explained with a smile. "So you mean you are right?" Li Mengyao scolded angrily. "No, my wife is always right." Lin Xuan quickly put one hand around Li Mengyao's waist and the other around her back, hugging her tightly. As she hugged him, Li Mengyao felt her husband's unique scent and gradually calmed down. She leaned in Lin Xuan's arms, feeling his body temperature and heartbeat, as if the whole world had become beautiful. "Husband." Li Mengyao pressed her little face against Lin Xuan's chest and said softly. "I'm here," Lin Xuan responded gently. "This year is the happiest year I've ever had." Li Mengyao raised her head and showed a charming smile. Chapter 180 For Husband, I've lost weight. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye it is the 4th day of the new year. That afternoon, after Lin Xuan woke up, Lin Zhengjiuo and Lin Sisi decided to return to Yunha City early because Lin Sisi's senior year vacation was short. Shen Shulan and Huang Qifang will continue to stay in Jinghai City to help take care of Daobao and Xiaobao. "Be careful on the road and duck slowly in the snow," Shen Shulan instructed Lin Zhengjiuo. "Okay, I understand," Lin Zhengjiuo replied. "Sisi, it's the second semester of senior year now, you must study hard and stop being as naughty as before," Shen Shulan said to her daughter Lin Sisi again. "I know," Lin Sisi replied. "Sisi, relax, I believe you can do it," Li Mengyao said encouragingly. "Don't worry, I'm definitely not worse than your brother," Lin Sisi answered confidently. Then, Lin Sisi and Lin Zhengjiuo walked out of the house carrying their luggage. At this moment, Lin Xuan suddenly shouted at Lin Sisi. "Sister, I have changed the passwords of all your game accounts for you, and the SMS verification has also been changed to my phone number. But study hard and be good." Soon, a shout was heard from the corridor outside the door. "Brother, I'm not done with you." 3 days later, Li Mengyao was already in her 3rd week postpartum. Now, in addition to taking care of her 2 children at home every day, she also takes the learning materials for the teacher's career path and starts to read them carefully. "But my body has not fully recovered during the confinement period, so the study time will not be too long each time. I will study for a while and then rest for a while." That afternoon, Shen Shulan and Huang Qifang went out shopping together, leaving Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao at home. At this time, Li Mengyao was in the study, sitting upright and elegantly at the desk, holding a tablet computer and watching a certain teaching video. She stared at the screen intently, taking notes seriously as she watched. "Wife, it's time. Take a rest." Lin Xuan walked gently behind Li Mengyao, and stretched out his arms and hugged her tightly in his arms. His voice was low and gentle, with a hint of doting. She looked at the time. Exactly 45 minutes had passed. It was time to give her eyes a rest. She smiled gently. Her husband was very accurate in calculating time. "Wife, do you want to eat something in the afternoon?" Lin Xuan gently stroked Li Mengyao's hair with a smile on his lips. "I'm wondering what delicious food my husband is going to make next." Li Mengyao turned around, put her arms around Lin Xuan's neck, and looked at him affectionately with anticipation and happiness in her eyes. "I'm making some fermented rice wine and egg drop soup for my wife today," Lin Xuan answered gently, with a doting smile on his face. "I want to eat." Li Mengyao curved her crescent eyes, smiled as bright as a flower, and said coquettously. "Then my dear, please wait for a moment. Be good and don't look at the tablet anymore," Lin Xuan whispered. "I know." Li Mengyao nodded obediently. Then Lin Xuan kissed her charming lips and turned and walked into the kitchen. At this time, Li Mengyao couldn't do anything and felt a little bored. After resting her eyes for a while in the study, she suddenly thought of something. So, Li Mengyao quickly stood up, walked back to the master bedroom, found the electronic scale, and stood on it carefully. At the same time, Lin Xuan brought a bowl of fragrant fermented rice wine and egg drop soup to the table. The intoxicating aroma wafts away, making people salivate. "Wife, the fermented rice wine and egg drop soup is ready," Lin Xuan shouted loudly. "Husband, Hearing Lin Juan's call, Li Mengyao trotted out of the master bedroom happily and threw herself into Lin Juan's arms like a happy little bird. "Wife, what are you so happy about?" Lin Juan said gently. "Honey, I've lost weight. I've lost 5 kilograms." Li Mengyao was as happy as a child. She stretched out her little hand and made a 5 gesture, looking so adorable. Seeing his wife so happy, Lin Juan also felt very happy. He knew that all this was because the postpartum recovery potion rewarded to him by the system had taken effect. Otherwise, it usually takes at least 3-6 months for women after giving birth, coupled with various postpartum exercises to gradually regain their figure. So many? Lin Juan pretended to be surprised, but his eyes were full of doting. "Yes, I thought I was in confinement and eating and drinking every day, so I thought I would continue to gain weight. But I didn't expect that I actually lost weight," Li Mengyao said excitedly. "If I lose another 10 pounds, I will be able to return to my pre-pregnancy state," she said expectantly. "Wife, you will definitely lose weight after you finish the confinement period." Lin Juan kissed her forehead gently and said with a smile. "Husband, how did you know?" Li Mengyao asked curiously. "Your husband knows your body very well," Lin Juan answered confidently. "You rogue husband." Li Mengyao rolled her eyes at him cockathiously, but her eyes were full of love. Then Lin Juan pulled Li Mengyao to the restaurant and sat down. He let Li Mengyao sit on his lap. Li Mengyao picked up the fermented rice wine and egg drop soup on the table and put it into her mouth spoonful by spoonful to taste it. This bowl of egg drop soup exudes a rich aroma of wine and eggs. The melt in your mouth egg drops and the mellow taste of fermented rice blend together, leaving you with an endless aftertaste. Every bite seems to dance on the tip of the tongue, bringing endless sweetness. "Well, honey, this fermented rice wine and egg drop soup is so delicious." Li Mengyao smiled contentedly, feeling particularly happy. "Then is there any reward for my husband?" Lin Juan looked at Li Mengyao expectantly. "Of course," Li Mengyao answered softly, with a hint of shyness on her face. There was no one else at home at this time. So Li Mengyao became bolder. She placed her hands gently on Lin Juan's shoulders, lowered her head slightly, and kissed Lin Juan's lips. Chapter 185, Husband, let's go build a snowman. Half an hour later, Lin Juan gently put her back to her original position. At this moment, Li Mengyao's face was as red as a ripe tomato. She raised her beautiful eyes, glared at Lin Juan fiercely, then turned to look at the bowl of fermented rice wine and egg drop soup on the table that had not been finished. However, Lin Juan quickly took the bowl away. "Husband, what are you doing? Won't you let me continue eating?" Li Mengyao looked at Lin Juan with both grievance and anger. "No, it's cold. Your husband will heat it up for you again," Lin Juan said softly. Lin Juan comforted Li Mengyao, then took the fermented rice wine and egg drop soup and walked to the kitchen to reheat it. Just then, the door suddenly opened and Shang Shulan and Huang Shifang walked in carrying shopping bags. "Mom, you're back." Li Mengyao quickly stood up and greeted them with a smile. "Yao Yao, why does your face look so red?" Huang Shifang said. "Yeah. Was it that brat Lin Juan who bullied you?" Shang Shulan quickly put down her shopping bags and stepped forward to ask. Li Mengyao was about to say that this was not the case, but suddenly changed her mind and thought that this was a good opportunity to take revenge on her husband. So she pretended to be aggrieved and said to Shang Shulan pitifully, "Mom, Lin Juan stole my food." Hearing this, Shang Shulan's eyes widened immediately, and she looked angrily at Lin Juan in the kitchen, gritting her teeth and said, "This brat." Then he turned around and comforted Li Mengyao. "Don't worry, daughter-in-law, I will take care of him for you later." At this time, Lin Juan came out with the fermented rice wine and egg drop soup, and said to Li Mengyao with a smile, "Wife, your fermented rice wine and egg drop soup is all ready." However, when he saw Shang Shulan staring at him fiercely, he forced himself to hold back the words, "It's heated up." "You little bastard, did you bully my daughter-in-law?" Shang Shulan questioned Lin Juan angrily. "I didn't." Lin Juan would of course not admit it and quickly shook his head to deny it. "Then what are you holding in your hand?" Shang Shulan pointed at the bowl in Lin Juan's hand, and continued to ask. Lin Juan looked down and answered in a daze, "There's still half of the fermented rice wine and egg drop soup left. My daughter-in-law said you stole her food." Shang Shulan said angrily. "Wife, you little brat, wait and see how I'm going to deal with you." Shang Shulan put her hands on her hips and walked towards Lin Juan aggressively, determined to catch Lin Juan. Seeing this, Lin Juan quickly put the fermented rice wine and egg drop soup in his hand on the dining table, turned around and ran, nimbly bypassing the dining table and starting a chase with his mother. Shang Shulan followed closely behind him, shouting and chasing. The two ran from the dining room to the living room and began to circle around the table again. "Stop right there, you little brat. Mao, please listen to my explanation." On the other side, Li Mengyao picked up the warm fermented rice wine and egg drop soup and ate it with relish. With a smile on her face, she watched with interest the miserable appearance of her husband being chased by his mother, feeling secretly proud in her heart. Time came to night. Night fell. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao prepared to go to bed. Before going to bed, Lin Xuan walked carefully to the beds of the two children and checked carefully whether Dabao and Xiaobao were asleep. After making sure that the children had fallen asleep, Lin Xuan returned to the bed with peace of mind and climbed up gently. At this time, Li Mengyao felt a little nervous and didn't dare to look at Lin Xuan. Instead, she turned her back to him and concentrated on playing with her mobile phone. Wife, Lin Xuan propped himself up with one hand, looked sideways at Li Mengyao and called softly. I'm busy now. Li Mengyao said coquettously. Without turning her head, she continued to play with her mobile phone. Wife, my ears still hurt a little now, Lin Xuan said as he moved his body towards Li Mengyao. Just rub it yourself. Li Mengyao couldn't help laughing when she thought of the scene in the afternoon when her mother-in-law twisted Lin Xuan's ear. This was the first time she saw her husband in such a miserable state. Wife, please rub it for me. Lin Xuan looked at Li Mengyao pitifully. I really can't stand you. Li Mengyao's heart softened all of a sudden. She turned around slowly, her eyes as gentle as water, and stretched out her little hand to gently stroke Lin Xuan's ears. Wife, don't you want to explain? Lin Xuan had a sly smile on his face. What do you need to explain? I don't have anything to explain. Li Mengyao blinked her big eyes, looking confused and ignorant. Wife, why are you being so stubborn? Lin Xuan shook his head helplessly, his face full of doting. My mouth is obviously soft. Really? Then let me try it. Lin Xuan said with a wicked smile, and then he put his arms around Li Mengyao's slender waist. At this moment, Li Mengyao realized that the situation was not good. But before she could react, Lin Xuan quickly kissed her lips. The next morning, sunlight poured into the room through the curtains and Li Mengyao woke up slowly. As usual, she gently picked up Dabao and Xiaobao and began to feed them. The little ones lay quietly in their mother's arms, sucking the sweetness with their little mouths. Li Mengyao looked at the babies gently while inadvertently looking out the window. At this time, Jinghe City had been covered with snow for some time. Downstairs in the Jin Wanfu community, the snow has accumulated to a certain extent, like a layer of white velvet carpet covering the ground. Li Mengyao looked at the world covered in silver and felt a surge of joy in her heart. After feeding, Lin Xuan carefully put Dabao and Xiaobao back into the crib. At this moment, Li Mengyao suddenly turned around and said to Lin Xuan with a smile, Abi, let's go make a snowman. Lin Xuan looked at the weather outside the window and then checked the weather forecast on his mobile phone. He found that the weather this morning was slightly warmer than the previous few days and there was no wind, which was very suitable for outdoor activities. So he smiled and replied, Okay, we'll go after we finish breakfast. Hearing this, Li Mengyao's face broke into a bright smile. Afterwards, the two went to the restaurant together to enjoy a delicious breakfast. After breakfast, Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao returned to the room and changed into clothes suitable for going out. Li Mengyao opened the wardrobe and picked out a dark brown trench coat, which she paired with a high-neck sweater. The length of the trench coat is just above the knee, showing off her slender legs. The lower body is matched with a beige winter skirt. The material of the skirt is soft and warm, and the hem of the skirt flutters gently with her movements. She is wearing a pair of dark brown boots, which are just above the knees with the help of the leg-revealing artifact. It not only adds a sense of fashion but also protects the legs from the cold. Finally, she wrapped an off-white scarf around her neck, adding a touch of warmth and elegance to the entire look. Chapter 100 Itexus, are you using this to test the cadres? What are you looking at, husband? Change your clothes quickly. Li Mengyao said coquettously. Wife, you are so beautiful. Lin Xuan looked at Li Mengyao with an obsessed expression, his eyes full of love. He couldn't help but walk to Li Mengyao, gently stroking her hair, feeling the soft touch. At this time, Li Mengyao has reached the 3rd week after giving birth under Lin Xuan's careful care. Her body has recovered very well. Coupled with the postpartum week of repotion rewarded by the system, her figure has gradually returned to the level before childbirth, with curvy curves and exuding the charm of a mature woman. You're so talkative. Li Mengyao smiled slightly, with a happy smile on her face. She gently slapped Lin Xuan's hand away, then turned and walked towards the closet and started picking clothes for him. Li Mengyao took out a dark gray trench coat from the closet and handed it to Lin Xuan. After Lin Xuan put it on, the smooth lines outlined his tall and straight figure. The lower body was matched with a pair of black slim trousers, making him look even more slender and powerful. Finally, Li Mengyao gently wrapped a black scarf around him, and her whole body exuded a cool and charming temperament. The two finally changed their clothes and walked out of the house with their tools. Coming downstairs, Lin Xuan chose an open place with plenty of snow and prepared to start making a snowman. He picked up the shovel and shoveled up a pile of snow with great effort, piling it into a big snowball as the base of the snowman. And he rolled a smaller snowball and placed it on the big snowball as the snowman's head. Li Mengyao helped by using pebbles to make the snowman's eyes, nose and mouth. and branches to make the snowman's arms. Finally, they used the scarf to make a warm neckband for the snowman, making it look even cuter. In this way, a lifelike and cute snowman was born. Honey, let's take a photo with the snowman quickly. Otherwise it will melt soon, Li Mengyao said with some concern. Good, Lin Juan responded. And took out a Nikon camera from his backpack, placed the camera on the stand, and adjusted the shooting angle and time settings. Then he walked to Li Mengyao and gently put his arm around her shoulders. The two of them smiled at the camera together, and Li Mengyao's face was filled with a happy smile. After taking the photo, Li Mengyao suddenly pointed at the snowman's nose and said, "Honey, its nose seems a little crooked." After hearing this, Lin Xuan lowered his head slightly and looked carefully at the little snowman's nose. "Wife, your nose is not crooked." Just then, a pop sound was heard. Lin Xuan felt a cold little snowball hit his back. He turned around and looked at Li Mengyao with a smile, who was pretending to look up at the sky. "Wife, were you the one who threw the snowball at me just now?" Lin Xuan asked. "It's not me," Li Mengyao answered seriously. Seeing this, Lin Xuan pretended to turn his back and pricked up his ears to listen carefully to the movements behind him. Sure enough, not long after, he vaguely heard the slight sound of kneading a snowball, but the sound soon disappeared. At this moment, Lin Xuan suddenly turned around. Li Mengyao was seen holding up a small snowball in one hand, which was suspended in midair with a surprised expression on her face. "Wife, you still say it's not you," Lin Xuan said with a smile, his mouth slightly raised. Seeing that the truth was revealed, Li Mengyao smiled, gently threw the small snowball in her hand away, then turned and ran. Lin Xuan nimbly dodged the snowball thrown at him, and quickly caught up with Li Mengyao and quickly grabbed her. "Honey, I'm still in confinement after giving birth, so you can't throw snowballs at me," Li Mengyao said with a smile. "Who said I was going to throw a snowball at you? Honey, don't run around. Your body hasn't fully recovered yet." Lin Xuan's tone was full of tenderness and care. After hearing this, Li Mengyao stretched out her arms and hugged Lin Xuan tightly, burying her little face in Lin Xuan's clothes, enjoying the warmth he brought. Lin Xuan also hugged Li Mengyao back gently, and the two were immersed in this warm moment. It was the next morning and Lin Xuan got up early. Today is the first working day after the new year for Jinwan Technology Co. Limited. As the chairman of the board, he needs to go to the company in person to give employees red envelopes for the start of work. So, after finishing breakfast, Lin Xuan went downstairs and drove the Maybach to the company. Not long after, Lin Xuan arrived in front of the company building. He parked the car steadily, then walked into the company gate and went straight to his office. After entering the office, Lin Xuan first brewed himself a cup of steaming hot tea and savored the aroma. "Director Lin, the red envelopes for the start of work are ready. Bossiu is already prepared and is waiting for you outside the door." Just then, Secretary Xu Siyu walked in gracefully and spoke softly. Lin Xuan smiled slightly, took out a red envelope from his arms and handed it to Xu Siyu. "Happy New Year, thank you for your hard work during this period." Xu Siyu shook her head gently and said with a smile, "No need, Director Lin, my red envelope with the start of work is already in this gift box." Lin Xuan insisted, "It doesn't matter, this is an extra gift from the chairman, accept it." "Well, thank you, Emerelin," Xu Siyu said happily. Afterwards, Lin Xuan came outside and tied bright red ties with Liu, and then he began to visit each department, distributing red envelopes for the start of work and sending sincere blessings to the employees. New year, new atmosphere. This is a New Year's red envelope for everyone. I wish we can work together in the new year and create greater glory. Every time he visited a department, Lin Xuan would personally hand over red envelopes to the employees, shake hands with them with a smile, thank them for their hard work in the past year, and encourage them to continue working hard in the new year. The employees took the red envelopes with joyful smiles on their faces. They expressed their gratitude and said that they would do their best to contribute to the development of the company. 2 hours passed. After Lin Xuan finished painting the pie for everyone, he returned to his chairman's office. He sat in a comfortable office chair and flipped through the documents in his hands. Just then, a slight knock on the door broke the silence of the office. "Please come in." Lin Xuan put down the documents in his hand and said softly. At the crisp sound of the door opening, a familiar figure appeared at the door. "Brother Xuan, Happy New Year." Song Zesheng walked into the office with a smile, holding a bag in his hand. "Zesheng, what are you doing?" Lin Xuan asked puzzled Lai. "Brother Xuan, this is a specialty I brought from my hometown, specially for you to try." Zhang Zesheng said this and gently placed the bag on the table. Lin Xuan looked at the bag and said in a serious tone, "You're using this to test the cadres?" Chapter 187 Sea and Sky Paradise. "No. You don't like my family's specialty." Zhang Zisheng looked confused. "But cadre can't stand a test like yours," Lin Xuan said, holding back a laugh. At this time, Song Zisheng realized that Lin Xuan was teasing him. "You can take it or not." After saying that, he reached out to take back his specialty, turned around and left. Yes. Yes, yes. Seeing this, Lin Xuan hurriedly stopped him and said with a smile. Zhang Zisheng then stopped and looked back at Lin Xuan. Then he put the bag in his hand on the table, opened it, and introduced it in detail. Brother Xuan, there are some supplements here for my sister-in-law, and this is suitable for you to replenish. An hour passed and Lin Xuan saw that there was nothing else important. So he drove the Maybach home. As soon as the door was opened, Li Mengyao snuggled into Lin Xuan's arms as usual. My husband is back, Li Mengyao said happily. Lin Xuan smiled dotingly, gently stroked her soft cheek, and responded, yes, I'm back. Wang Shifang heard the voice, brought out a pot of steaming food from the kitchen, and said to Lin Xuan gently, Lin Xuan is back, let's prepare to eat. Lin Xuan smiled and nodded, holding Li Mengyao's hand, and walked into the restaurant together. The family sat around the dining table and enjoyed a warm lunch. After lunch, everyone went back to their rooms to rest. After Lin Xuan coaxed Dabao and Xiaobao, he also returned to the bed. Put his arms around Li Mengyao's slender waist, buried his head in her neck, and asked softly, Honey, I'm going to go house hunting these days. What kind should we buy? As Lin Xuan spoke, he gently played with Li Mengyao's hair, feeling the silky smooth touch. It's up to you to decide on this, husband. Li Mengyao smiled and said gently when she heard this. And Lin Xuan kissed Li Mengyao on the forehead and fell asleep with her in his arms. In the following days, Lin Xuan selected villas in various places in Jinghe City. But after several days, he still couldn't find anything that satisfied him. Some villas are located too remotely, making living there inconvenient. Some seem too ordinary and lack characteristics. There are also some houses that are in good condition but are old and need a lot of repairs and renovations. At this time, Xu Quan learned the news that Lin Yixuan bought a villa and suggested that he go to Haitian District to take a look. According to Xu Quan, Haitian District is a newly developed area in Jinghe City. A few years ago it is located on the seaside and has beautiful scenery. Although this place was relatively deserted in the past few years, it has gradually developed into a prosperous community over time. So today Lin Xuan plans to go to Haitian District to take a look. When Lin Xuan came to the parking lot downstairs, he heard that there was a brand new villa for sale there. This villa not only has a prime location, but is also expensive, which makes Lin Xuan feel a little bit of anticipation. In order to avoid losing face in such a high-end place, Lin Xuan decided to drive his Lamborghini there quickly. He took out the unique Lamborghini car key from his arms and walked towards the Lamborghini Lightning parked nearby. When he unlocked the car door, the Lamborghini Lightning was like a long sleeping beast that was awakened, exuding a heart-pounding breath. Lin Xuan slowly sat in the driver's seat and started the engine. In an instant, the whole world seemed to be quiet, leaving only the sound of his heartbeat and the roar of the engine. He gently stepped on the accelerator, and the Lamborghini slowly drove out of the Jinwanfu community and rushed towards the Haitian District. Along the way, Lin Xuan drove the Lamborghini Lightning, attracting countless people's attention. Every time a vehicle passes through a street, it causes a burst of exclamations and commotion. People took out their mobile phones to take pictures of the Lamborghini Lightning, with envy and admiration in their eyes. Wow, this is a Lamborghini, it's so cool! Someone shouted excitedly. This car seems to be worth tens of millions. I really wonder who the owner is. Another person guessed curiously. When will I have the chance to ride in such a luxury car? Others sighed with envy. However, Lin Xuan didn't care about these praise. She put on his sunglasses silently and continued to drive the Lamborghini Lightning with concentration all the way to his destination. 40 minutes later, Lin Xuan finally arrived at Haitian District of Jinghe City. He looked at the scene before him and couldn't help feeling a little surprised. A few years ago, when he was still in college, this place was still a barren land and had not yet been fully developed. Today, high-rise buildings are springing up like mushrooms after a spring rain, and the new streets, complete facilities and beautiful seaside create a prosperous scene. Following the navigation instructions, Lin Xuan drove to the sales office of Haitian Xingyao Bay, the busiest place in Haitian District. He drove the cool Lamborghini Lightning slowly into the parking lot of the sales office. Before he stopped, a young and beautiful female salesperson came to meet him quickly. Hello sir, welcome. Are you here to see the house? The saleswoman named Anu, she asked enthusiastically with a professional smile. She has a beautiful face, a graceful figure, long hair, and especially her smile, which seems to contain a charming charm that radiates from the inside out. And Yushi noticed that Lin Xuan came in a valuable Lamborghini, and secretly guessed that this customer must be very rich. Lin Xuan calmly got out of the car, took off his sunglasses elegantly and replied with a smile. Yes, I came here to see if there is a suitable house. And Yushi was first stunned by Lin Xuan's stunningly handsome appearance. The man in front of me is not only handsome, but also exudes a unique temperament. She has seen countless men, but it is rare to find a man as handsome and elegant as Lin Xuan. We have community housing in villa areas in Haitian Xingyao. Which type are you planning to buy, sir? And Yushi continued to ask. Us take me to see the villa area. Lin Xuan replied casually. Afterwards, Yushi took Lin Xuan around the villa area of Haitian Xingyao and looked at several villas of different styles, but Lin Xuan always felt that these villas were a little unsatisfactory and not unique enough. Excuse me, is there any special villa? The one-of-a-kind one, Lin Yuan asked with a frown. Hearing Lin Xuan's words, Yushi hurriedly said. Named Haitian Yijing, which is the most expensive house here. And can you take me to see it? Lin Xuan asked softly with a faint smile. Yushi first looked at Lin Xuan carefully, then nodded gently and replied with a smile, sure, please follow me. Having said that, Yushi invited Lin Xuan to get on her tour bus. The tour bus started slowly and moved along the winding road of the villa area. Lin Xuan sat in the car, looking through the window, admiring the beautiful scenery around him. The weather in Jinghai City is particularly pleasant today. It is not snowing anymore, but the warm sunshine is shining. The sunlight shines on the snow, reflecting dazzling light, making people feel relaxed and happy. A car drove for nearly 20 minutes and finally arrived at the destination. On the shore of this charming seaside, a luxurious villa in European modern style stands proudly. Chapter 188. Hello. And I pay in installments? Lin Xuan got out of the car with a look of surprise on his face. He gazed at the magnificent villa in front of him, and couldn't help feeling shocked. The exterior of this villa is like a work of art. The milky white walls complement the azure sky and sea, giving people a fresh and refined feeling. The tall spires and elegant arched windows are arranged in an orderly manner, outlining a beautiful European painting. The villa's area was so large that Lin Xuan found it difficult to estimate. It stands on the seashore like a small palace, becoming the brightest pearl of this seashore, exuding eternal charm. This is our Haitian Yijing. It is located at the best viewpoint on this beachfront and covers an area of 6,000 square meters. The villa is decorated in a modern European style. The theme building covers an area of about 2,000 square meters, with front and back gardens of 1,500 square meters each. In addition, a 1,000 square meter dock is also provided. Yushi drove the car into Haitian Yijing while giving a detailed introduction. After the car stopped, Yushi came to the gate, entered the password, and walked in with Lin Xuan. Haitian Yijing has 3 floors above ground and 2 floors underground. Let's go to the first floor first. And Shiyu took out plastic shoes, and the two of them put them on and began to tour the villa. As soon as you enter the villa, what catches your eye is a gorgeous entrance hall with the floor paved with imported marble, each piece sparkling with a natural luster. And they walked into the living room, where the spacious and bright space was a pleasant sight. The living room has a ceiling height of 6 meters, with a large crystal chandelier hanging above it, so dazzling that it seems to light up the entire space. The huge floor-to-ceiling windows are like mirrors, reflecting the blue sea, sky and golden beach. The sunlight shines on the glass, refracting colorful light, like a dream. In the following hour, Yushi enthusiastically led Lin Xuan to visit every corner of Haitian Yijing. From the spacious and bright living room to the warm and comfortable bedroom, to the fully equipped kitchen and bathroom. Every detail makes people feel endless luxury and comfort. Finally, they came to the rooftop, where they could overlook the entire beautiful seaside scenery. Because it had just snowed, the entire seaside was covered with white snow, presenting a scene of silver. The sunlight poured down through the gaps in the clouds, reflecting bright light on the snow, as if you were in a dreamy wonderland. Lin Xuan couldn't help but be intoxicated by it, and became more and more satisfied with this set of Haitian Yijing. How much does this Haitian Yijing cost? Lin Xuan turned around and asked Yushi. This set of Haitian Yijing is our Haitian Xingyao-based top-level work. Both the design and the materials are extremely sophisticated, so the price is relatively high. But now is the beginning of the new year, we have some special offers, and Yushi explained with a smile. The current price is 200 million yuan. How much? Lin Xuan was so surprised that he almost jumped up and asked in shock. 2 small goals, that is 200 million. And Yushi repeated the price again, still with a professional smile on her face. At this time, Lin Xuan was silently calculating his own assets in his mind. He now only had about 100 million yuan in funds. Even if I sold myself, I couldn't get 200 million. So he stayed there for a long time and then said something. Hello, can I pay in installments? Half an hour later, Lin Xuan returned to the driving seat of the Lamborghini Lightning, started the car, and drove home. While driving, Lin Xuan recalled the puzzled look Yushi had just given him. She probably thought Lin Xuan was a poor guy who rented a Lamborghini to visit the villa. All other villas can be paid in installments, but Haitian Yijing cannot. How about we look at other villas? And Yushi's words echoed in Lin Xuan's ears, making him feel very embarrassed. It's shameful, so shameful. Before leaving, Yushi politely handed over her business card and said that he could come to see her if he raised enough funds in the future. This made Lin Xuan have a much better impression of her. Lin Xuan shook his head and thought, forget it, there will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Maybe the system will give you money again in a few days? Let's wait and see, there's no rush. So, Lin Xuan's mood became happy again. A few days later, the door of Jinwan Mansion was gently pushed open. Dad, you're here. Lin Xuan heard the noise, walked out of the living room, and said to the person who came with a smile. Lin Zhengjiuo walked in, ignored Lin Xuan, and walked around Lin Xuan and walked quickly towards the living room, muttering, my dear grandchildren, let grandpa see you. Dad, as your son hath such a sense of invisibility? Lin Xuan looked at Lin Zhengjiuo's back speechlessly, sighed helplessly and said, you've been tired of it for a long time, Lin Zhengjiuo said without turning his head. When Lin Xuan heard this, the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Lin Zhengjiuo quickly to the living room and saw Dabao and Xiaobao lying on the sofa. At this time, they were staring with their big eyes and looking around curiously. My dear granddaughter, Grandpa is back, did you miss him? Lin Zhengjiuo smiled and strode towards the sofa. Old Lin, I warn you not to scare the children. At this time, Shen Shalan, who was sitting next to the sofa, suddenly spoke. I know,